What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 7DK 171. Life has reached its peak. Although the world government has tried its best to block this news from the outside world, the actions of the Dust 7 ruling side have completely exposed their actions to the public sight. That is, the world government has opened up the area under their jurisdiction to the outside world. Foreign trade protection fees, while allowing the world's 7 rulers to join it. The news came out, so that the people of the world did not have much emotion. For the vast majority, they don't know what is behind these things, they can only accept very superficial things, that's all. Even if they see the fleet of the world's 7 ruling ships, they have entered the traditional ruling area of the world government, and they don't know what this means. After all, in name, they still belong to the rule of world government. But, they do hope that the ruling world of the 7th world can accept their 093 land. After all, they seem to see in the newspaper that the people in the 7th world of the world are living very happily. The appearance of the kingdom of heaven on earth. They don't care if it's true or not, anyway, it's better than now, right? Compared to the numbness of the people of the world, many bigwigs were dumbfounded in shock after seeing the news. After seeing the news, Whitebeard was so excited that he couldn't hold his hands together. He kept saying to his sons on the boat, it's amazing, it's amazing. I'm afraid only Shuangyue Kongying and Dust 7 are in power, so they have such power, and they can make the world government suffer such humiliation. Brother Xiao Ma slowly said from the side. It turns out that even though Marine left a large number of elites, the world government can still recruit strong people all over the world with this large amount of money, such as the new generation of leopards in Marine, Black Lion, that's it. But now, the world government has lost this source of funds. It also means that they have a broken leg, and they can only walk on that single leg in the future. There was also a happy smile on Brother Ma's face. The world government without this income certainly cannot continue to maintain such high research and development costs, and the world conscription should also stop. And over time, the world government will gradually lose its current dominance, and it may fall behind the big pirate in the future. At this time, Diamond Joe's came up. Father, since the world government is so weak, should we push them? Before the old man could speak, Ace on the other side said slowly. Even if the world government has been cut off with one hand, he is still the mighty giant at present. To wait for him to really decline, we still have to wait for him to decline. After all his blood was drained. Going to find fault with the world government now is undoubtedly finding trouble for nothing. Whitebeard nodded from his perch. Ace is right. Advertisement, even if the current world government is weak, we can't take the risk to compete with them. Moreover, the situation in the world today is changing. Dust 7's ruling is always the biggest variable. No one is sure what his next step will be. Until then, we just need to take good care of our own home people or just fine. Whitebeard watched the crowd benevolently. Yes, eat. West Blue. Blackbeard teamed up with Marine just now to wipe out a revolutionary army garrison. Marine Vice Admiral the Ghost Spider looked at Blackbeard, and then smiled brightly. It's really good. There are 5 or 6 Marine garrisons, and we can completely wipe out the revolutionary army's influence in West Blue, and then we will attack again East Blue. Clean up these people in one fell swoop. Blackbeard smiled coldly, but didn't say anything. The Ghost Spider seemed to sense something strange from Blackbeard, and then frowned. What's wrong with you? Are you dissatisfied with our current progress? Blackbeard looked up at the Ghost Spider and smiled coldly. For some reason, seeing Blackbeard smile at this time, Ghost Spider couldn't help but tremble inwardly. Immediately afterwards, a blade pierced directly into his body with lightning speed. After seeing this scene, countless Marines around began to exclaim, but their lives were lost in a short period of time, all life lost. As for the powerful SSG robot, it was immediately brought under control. Boss, what about this? Seraphim Badgers held down an SSG robot. He couldn't disintegrate the robot in an instant. And Blackbeard just smiled coldly, just let it stop running. And at this time, the Ghost Spider realized that the one who stabbed him with a sword was actually Shiryu, who had been standing behind him, making him unconscious. At this time, the Ghost Spider was pale and bloodless, looking directly at Blackbeard. Teach, you actually betrayed the agreement with the world government? Blackbeard just smiled grimly. Advertisement. Is that what you mean? Immediately afterwards, Shiryu stabbed deeply into the Ghost Spider's body, and his eyes gradually lost their light. According to Marine's original plan, Geisha transported the lava fruit to Marineford, but he didn't expect that Blackbeard would know this news in advance, and he didn't expect that Blackbeard would really be useless. How is it possible? How can you have molten fruit? At this time, Quinn stood up, looked at the Ghost Spider and smiled coldly, because Geisha has already died in my hands. According to the agreement at the beginning, after Blackbeard helps them Marine and clears all the Revolutionary Army's garrison in West Blue, the lava fruit will be given to him. This is also the item that Blackbeard first agreed with Marine, and Marine has already agreed. Fruit of the former Marine Admiral, Akainu, molten fruit. I feel like my life has reached its pinnacle. Integrity is something that the strong use to oppress the weak. Who would have thought that you would actually believe it? Looking at Blackbeard at this time, the Ghost Spider gritted its teeth. But unexpectedly, Blackbeard would be like this. So what? Ha 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 ha. Molten fruit? Don't you want molten fruit? Blackbeard raised his right hand slightly, and his fat arm with only a little muscle suddenly exuded an extremely penetrating temperature, and a burst of light filled the air, so bright that the Ghost Spider couldn't open its eyes, but the blazing heat in front of him was indeed something he was all too familiar with. 4.9. Blackbeard has already swallowed Kaido's dragon fruit and Akainu's molten fruit. The ghost spider's pupils constricted. 172. Blackbeard's betrayal. The news of Blackbeard's attack on Marine, which caused a serious setback to Marine's power in West Blue, shocked the whole Marineford. It made Marineford even more angry. This damned Blackbeard actually robbed the molten fruit. It is a fruit worth billions of Baileys. If it is given to the elite soldiers in Marine, maybe it can create another powerful admiral. But now, it's all ruined by Blackbeard, and now, with Blackbeard's destruction, Marine's progress in West Blue has become more difficult, and after letting the Revolutionary Army get the relevant news, they quickly launched a fierce attack on West Blue, and even had the momentum to win directly in one fell swoop. At the same time, before the world government could even react to Blackbeard's betrayal, Blackbeard actually changed hands. It took a large sum of money from their existing territory. This undoubtedly made them cut off meat at a time. But what can they do now? You know, their current power has shrunk a lot. Moreover, Blackbeard is actually the three big pirates, and the energy possessed by it, if they really conflict with it in 06, it may only accelerate the end of the world government faster in the end. Mariajoy. 5 elders looked sad. They originally wanted to use Blackbeard's power to completely destroy the Revolutionary Army. But he never expected that Blackbeard would be such a villain, who didn't even have the most basic credit. After Ying was slaughtered, they actually wanted to step on it too. Everyone, what should we do now? One of the 5 elders asked with a sad face. When this remark came out, the scene immediately ushered in a moment of silence. Now how to do? This is indeed a rather difficult problem. In the past, their world government could rely on world domination and collect all kinds of protection fees to maintain their high-intensity rule. Even with the emergence of the era of great pirates, they can still rely on their own superpower to stabilize the situation on the sea. But now, the situation has completely slipped into a range that they can't control. I have an idea. Shuangyue Kongying needs money? One of the black-haired 5 elders said slowly. Then let's give him some money and let him help us deal with the Revolutionary Army or Blackbeard. Besides, Blackbeard has now occupied our place. In the end, it will also affect Shuangyue Kongying's harvest. Advertisement. Hearing this, a light flashed in the eyes of 5 elders in glasses. So, Shuangyue Kongying and Dust 7 are in power, so they are actually tied to us now? When hearing these words, the 5 elders present felt a burst of joy in their hearts. If this is really the case, then it seems that it is not so unacceptable for them to lose those income directly. You can try. New World. Zephyr left Marine, and he led the subordinates of the freshman Marine, as well as some people with lofty ideals in Marine. Take them to the sea together. They formed a large team with dozens of warships, floating towards all parts of the world. Their purpose is to protect ordinary people on the sea so that they can survive better in such troubled times. Teacher. There's news from ahead. Blackbeard raided Marine's West Blue base and robbed the lava fruit. In said slowly, and then said, also, Marine's losses are quite heavy, and their situation in West Blue was instantly reversed by the Revolutionary Army. Upon hearing the news, Zephyr nodded in satisfaction. 5 elders did it to themselves. Zephyr snorted coldly. If the 5 elders were willing to take a step back in the early stage, they could properly reduce the rights of their celestial dragons. Maybe it won't lead to the current Marine falling into such a predicament, and the speed of their decline will not be as fast as it is now. At least they can maintain their hegemony on the bright side. But now, the decline of world government has become inevitable. But even Zephyr didn't expect that the speed of world government decline would be so fast. Blackbeard has also invaded XXX, and many other places in world government. In said slowly, then looked at Zephyr and said, Teacher, do we need to do something? Maybe we should go to Blackbeard now side, to protect the people there? And Zephyr shook his head. No, the current Blackbeard is too powerful, and it is not something we can provoke. Although Zephyr wants to protect the people of the world from harm, he also realizes very rationally that only they are alive. Can he protect more people from the impact of war? Therefore, he must put their lives in danger first, in the first place. Boom. Advertisement. Boom. Boom. Many warships of the newborn Marines suddenly trembled violently. Countless light beams flew from the void, and hit their warships like missiles. But they didn't cause any substantial damage to their warships, and most of the attacks still fell on out of the water. Zephyr raised his head, looking directly at the man above the sky. Perusalino. And at the same time in 660, a huge warship also stood in front of them. On the warship was Senmomaru, who had already been promoted to Vice Admiral, and many SSG robots standing behind him, those robots like a cold-blooded guard, standing there icily, exuding a trembling breath. Kizaru stood above the void, looking down at Zephyr, and then floated down on the warship, looking at Zephyr. Teacher, where are you going? Pelusalino looked directly at Zephyr. But Zephyr just snorted coldly. What, Pelusalino, is it because the teacher hasn't taught you for a long time? What do you mean now? Hearing this sentence, Kizaru's face showed a flustered look. Ran Meow said weakly. Hey, teacher, I never thought of that. It's just that the sentence that military orders must not be violated seems to be taught to me by you, teacher? Hearing this, Zephyr's mouth curled into a sneer. Sure enough, it is still the world government. They can't tolerate their own betrayal, and they can't tolerate such a force called Marine appearing on this sea. It seems that you are here to perform a mission now. The Zephyr arm releases a puff of steam. He is ready for battle. 173. Military orders must not be violated. Teacher, military orders must not be violated. At this moment, Paluzolino's whole body became illusory. His whole body seemed to turn into a ball of dazzling light, which made the naked eyes of many freshman Marines underneath feel a little stinging. Immediately afterwards, Paluzolino's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, Zephyr also rose into the air accordingly. The bodies of the two appeared in the void at the same time, and then they wrestled with each other. Boom, 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 bursts of violent sounds came from the air. When everyone looked up, they saw that Zephyr and Paluzolino were fighting fiercely. In this battle, Zephyr kept bombarding Paluzolino with his heavy mechanical arm, and Paluzolino transformed a ray of light in his hand, and then slashed at Zephyr again and again. The fight was pretty stalemate. This is a battle that both sides are quite familiar with each other. As Paluzolino's teacher, Zephyr is very aware of Paluzolino's weakness. He has developed the fruit ability to ultimate, but left the flaws in body skills and stamina. Therefore, Zephyr can use the advantages in physical skills make up for the strength gap between them. And, although Zephyr is older, he is still healthy and strong. And Paluzolino also knows Zephyr quite well, so he knows exactly what the teacher's tactics will be against him next. Paluzolino, after graduating from me, you haven't exercised much, have you? Zephyr said disdainfully. A little sweat appeared on Paluzolino's face at this moment. Zephyr is right. He does practice a little too hard, but relies too much on his fruit talent. But in this battle, Paluzolino still had the upper hand visibly, crushing Zephyr to death. Then, in physical combat, Zephyr began to want to launch a more violent attack, so his movement speed became faster and faster, and his movement strength became more and more powerful. But how can Zephyr's speed compare to that of Paluzzo with sparkling fruit? Where's Lino? Boom! Under Zephyr's rapid attack, Paluzolino slowly declined. Ah, teacher. You guessed it right, my physical strength. It seems that I really need to exercise a lot. Paluzolino panted in a fit of anger. I explained the FA in a somewhat exhausted area. But Zephyr's eyes showed a little surprise. Advertisement. Although his attack just now was indeed ferocious, it was impossible to hurt Paluzolino at all. Could it be that Paluzolino's strength has declined so severely because he has been lazy in marine for too long? Now Zephyr didn't have time to think so much. A purple stone appeared in his hand, and then crushed and exploded. Its powder slowly seeped into his mechanical arm. In an instant, the mechanical arm began to emit a burst of purple steam, which contained a rather majestic force. Bang! 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 The power of terror began to be released to the outside world. All of a sudden, those Marines who came to encircle and suppress them were immediately surrounded by the artillery shells that fell from that day. The SSG robot obeys orders. Clear those shells. Zon Taowen ordered with a solemn expression. All of a sudden, the SSG robots on standby were all activated and flew towards the shells above their heads. And at this time, Zephyr also returned to the newborn Marine's warship. He looked at Paluzolino, who was still dodging back and forth in the void while dealing with the shells indifferently, and couldn't help but appear in his eyes a little strange color. Immediately, Zephyr quickly left here with the new Marines. As for Paluzolino, who was high in the sky, watching Zephyr leave, there was a touch of elusive emotion in his eyes. Kizaru didn't keep Zephyr's message back to Marine, which caused a small fluctuation. The five elders originally planned to deal with it coldly, but the new Marine forces headed by Wabao took the opportunity to attack Kizaru, saying that he has been disloyal to Marine, or that he is not capable enough to be the future Marshal of Marine. At this time, the original Marshal Kong has resigned and went to East Blue for retirement. Therefore, those new Marine forces attacked Kizaru even more fiercely. And as Wabao united with Perispero's pirate group, his influence in Marine went up to a higher level. Under the influence of layers, 5 elders deserves to be announced. Appoint Wabao as the new Marine Marshal, Kizaru Paluzolino, Mobutu the Black Lion, and Marine Admiral the Green Bull. Advertisement, Marine, Science Corps Office. Grandpa, 5 elders are bullying you too much, right? And those people in Bikasa, what are they? Aren't they all a bunch of hooligans before? It's not their luck to be able to enter the Marine. Now you actually became the Marine Marshal? Zan Momomaru said indignantly. Obviously, Kizaru is the oldest among the 4, and also the one who knows Marine the best. Hearing what Senmomaru said, Kizaru just waved his hands casually. It doesn't matter if you're a marshal or not. Paluzolino shrugged. He doesn't want to be a marshal. If he is, then he has a job to do, and now he can't do many things he wants to do. And on the other hand, the current Marine is indeed not the former Marine. A large number of Marine soldiers have left the current Marine, and then there are a large number of soldiers who have never received Marine education in the baptism of justice before. People entered the Marine team. It can be said that Marine has switched sides. In the past, Marine still held a little independent right to speak. But now Marine is completely a tool for the dragon people to rule the world. How's the Vegapunk research going? Paluzolino asked. Zon Taowen was stunned for a moment, and then said with a serious face, it seems that there is not much progress. Paluzolino frowned. That's a bit difficult, coincidentally. He vaguely sensed that there seemed to be a crisis waiting for them in the future. Rice wife. This is the first time that the black-haired 5 elders has come to the 7 ruling worlds, and it is also the first time he has left Mariajoy since he became the 5 elders. And looking at this bustling city and the spontaneous smiles on the faces of the people, he couldn't help but feel a little shocked. Can build the poor Wanokuni into what it is today. Chuamue Kongdiang did have some tricks. At this time, Daozuma's guards came towards him. Advertisement 174. World Government Cooperation Rice Wife, Tianli Hall. The black-haired five elders was escorted here by the Rice Wife's guards, and he didn't have the majesty of being a god of the world at all. Moreover, his expression was reserved, and he was full of tension in every move, especially after entering the Temple of Heavenly Principle. His pace shrank even more. Master Tianli, this celestial dragons, brought to you. At this time, Shuangyue Kongying, who was standing on a high position, turned around slowly, and looked directly at the black-haired five elders with indifference. Tell me, what can I do for you? Shuangyue Kongying said indifferently. I don't know why, when Shuangyue's vacant eyes fell on him, he suddenly felt as if his body was sinking into endless frost. The bone-chilling chill penetrated into his body pervasively, making his body I couldn't help shivering. He suddenly regretted why he came here, not the other five elders. The black-haired five elders didn't even dare to look directly at Shuangyue Kongying. This kind of fear from the bottom of his heart, even Master Yim, could not bring him. Respect. Lord Tianli. The black-haired five elders lowered his head respectfully, his belly and Shuangyue Kongying made a devout look, and then said slowly. I came here this time for a purpose. I want to ask you, Lord Tianli, for this matter. Explain. Shuangyue 207 Kongying said indifferently. And the black-haired five elders was sweating, and immediately said with fear, Blackbeard. He attacked our marine base and occupied a lot of our related territories. However, our world government is now manned relatively scarce. Originally, we didn't have anything to say about him occupying our territory. But those territories were all divided up with you, and they were used as foreign trade fees for you. At this point, the black-haired five elders raised his brows tentatively, looked at Shuangyue Kongying timidly, and then said slowly. However, Blackbeard didn't care about this at all. According to our calculations, if these territories were really taken by Blackbeard in the end, it may be given to you, Lord Tianli, and the annual loss is 2 billion. After all, the black-haired five elders slowly raised his head, looking tentatively at the moon sky. However, at this time, Shuangyue Kongying just sat on the high position with a face of indifference, like a god without emotions. You want to use my hand to get rid of Blackbeard? Shuangyue Kongying looked down at the black-haired five elders indifferently. Hearing, Agda, these words, coupled with the heavy coercion pervading Shuangyue Kongying's body, the complexion of the black-haired five elders changed slightly again. I couldn't help but feel shock in my heart. In this case, if Shuangyue Kongying couldn't help but get angry, what should he do? The black-haired five elders wiped the sweat off his face with his hands, hesitated for a moment, and said slowly, that's not the case. Really? Advertisement Shuangyue Kongying's indifferent words came again. After the little thought in his heart was seen through by Shuangyue Kongying, the black-haired five elders actually didn't know what to say, and he said with a difficult expression, Really? Then, he took a deep breath. In fact, we did have some selfishness in it. But Blackbeard did occupy some places and caused your etiquette to be damaged. So, we mainly want to work with you. The black-haired five elders looked at Shuangyue Kongying cautiously and said. But Shuangyue Kongying raised her eyebrows disapprovingly when she heard such words. Why do you think that I can only cooperate with you? Hearing this, the black-haired five elders was startled. And Shuangyue Kongying was sitting on a high seat, holding his chin indifferently, staring at the black-haired five elders evilly. Do you think Blackbeard has the ability to refuse my cooperation? Hearing this, the expression of the black-haired five elders changed dramatically. He understood what Shuangyue Kongying meant. If Shuangyue goes to Blackbeard to cooperate, he can still get the protection fees paid by those countries for foreign trade. Even Blackbeard may give him more benefits in order to win him over, and when the time comes, the World 7 the ruling may also turn to attack their world government for these interests. Thinking of this, the black-haired five elders couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. If this is really the case, then the destruction of their celestial dragons is just around the corner. The black-haired five elders was constantly swaying coldly, but he couldn't think of 10 reasons to use empty shadows to Ying Shuang. And at this time, Shuangyue Kongying sneered indifferently at the corner of her mouth. It's not as good as this. Give me 1 billion Baileys, and I'll help you take back these territories from Blackbeard. How do you feel? Shuangyue Kongying stared at the black-haired five elders coldly. Advertisement in the black-haired five elders is entangled. Billion Baileys. Please make a shot once in power of the World 7? Is this worthwhile? If you don't invite the 7 consuls of the world to take action, then this fee can't be recovered by Blackbeard, and the amount they lose every year because of this will be as high as 3 billion Baileys. This is undoubtedly it's quite a painful thing. But if you invite the 7th consul of the world to take action, 1 billion Baileys. Shuangyue Kongying was not in a hurry, but looked straight at the black-haired five elders indifferently. After a while, the black-haired five elders sighed heavily, and immediately made a gesture of courtesy to Shuangyue Kongying. I implore Lord Tianli, help us to get through this difficult time. Hearing this, the corner of Kongying's mouth raised a smile. He knew that the brunette five elders had agreed to his terms. Good. On the other side of the sea, the new marine led by Zephyr is constantly fighting against pirates all over the world, and soon gained a certain reputation, and because of its brutal treatment of pirates, the surrounding small sea the thieves were frightened when they heard the news, and they all hid far away. But Gecko Moria does not believe in this evil. Now he has been secretly hiding and developed for several years. He is always preparing for the decisive battle with Kaido. He wants to prove himself that he is the big pirate who can lead the world. But he's not out yet, the world situation is changing. Kaido is dead. Moreover, the most influential people in the world today are no longer the pirates, but the 7 rulers of the world that have never appeared before. But, what the heck, the current Moonlight Mariah has accumulated a certain amount of strength. This time, he must have avenged his shame. 175. Justice won't be too late. Report teacher, there are a lot of pirate sailing ships ahead. Look at that mark, it seems to belong to the former 7 warlords of the sea. Moonlight Moria. Ain reported to Zephyr, and then continued to send his eyes turned to the sea ahead. Zephyr took off his sunglasses, then squinted ahead. That mark. Indeed Gecko Moria's, he frowned slightly. Although Moonlight Mariah's strength is quite weak, he was also the former 7 warlords of the sea after all, and his fruit ability can produce many soldiers for him. Although I am confident that I can defeat Moonlight Mariah, those huge numbers of soldiers are undoubtedly a major challenge for their newborn marine. He raised his head and looked at the sky, it was cloudy today. On the opposite side of them, Moonlight Mariah gazed ambitiously at Zephyr on the opposite side. Of course he knows Zephyr, he also knows Zephyr's strength. This is an existence whose strength is close to that of Admiral, but so what, he has confidence in himself now. Since you can't use Kaido as a stepping stone, let's step on the old Zephyr first. After he defeats Zephyr, his name should be spread all over the world soon, right? At that time, he will be remembered, he will reappear on the world's center stage. Hey, Moonlight Mariah said with a sneer. Then he looked at the big man next to him, this is his greatest reliance. The whole army obeys orders, Zephyr's loud voice came through the sea. The fighting spirit is spreading crazily, the flames of war are on the verge of breaking out. And just when Moonlight Mariah was about to attack forward, endless blocks of ice suddenly flooded behind him. That terrifying freezing force even directly froze the nearby sea, making it difficult for their entire sailboat to move. At this time, their bodies couldn't help shaking violently. What happened? Moonlight Mariah yelled in surprise. Advertisement he could feel that this powerful force did not come from Zephyr's side, but from their rear. Meanwhile, Zephyr was also rather curious about what was going on. However, when he saw that the ice blocks had frozen the entire sea of the sailboat where Moonlight Mariah was on, he couldn't help but have some guesses in his heart, and then a gratified smile appeared on his face. Ah la la la. I seem to be a bit heavy-handed, is it? Moonlight Mariah turned his head to look, and when he saw who was coming, his complexion changed drastically. The person in front of me, it turned out to be the former Marine Admiral, Aokiji Kuzan. Damn it. Why is this person here too? Moonlight Mariah's expression changed drastically, and he clenched his teeth. Originally, if it was just a Zephyr, he still had some confidence to deal with it, but if you add another Kuzan, then he really can only turn around and run away. Moonlight Mariah didn't think too much about it. After using armament hockey to forcefully destroy the ice blocks that froze the sailboat, he quickly drove the sailboat and wanted to leave here. At this moment, this place seems to him like hell. Dangerous. However, just as he was about to turn his head and leave, an inexplicable flame suddenly appeared on the sailboat on his left. The fire spread rapidly along with a puff of green smoke, and soon burned to their side. Fortunately his zombie soldiers, not much sentient, can live with that. But before he figured out why, a figure suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, and then struck him fiercely with a sword. This sword strike has a little sea stone. It directly shattered his fruit ability and attacked his physical body, and because of the strength of the opponent, armament hockey, he was even more powerless to retreat directly from the trees, and then directly knocked down the crafty pole of the ship. You. Who are you? Moonlight Mariah looked at the man in front of him with some surprise. I saw the man with a cigarette in his mouth, and the smoke was constantly blowing out of his mouth, and his eyes glanced at Moonlight Mariah indifferently, and his lower body immediately turned into the shape of aerosol, and then staring at him and sneering, just call me Smoker. Smoker. Moonlight Mariah gritted his teeth and said. Allah la, Smoker, don't show mercy. Kuzan's voice came from not far away. Smoker nodded. Immediately he looked at Moonlight Mariah. I'm sorry, it's useless to keep you. 0, seeking flowers. In order to maintain the relative stability of the sea power, the former world government chose to create the 7 warlords of the sea system, to use the power of pirates to counter pirates, but now. Advertisement: the world situation has become a mess. World government, revolutionary army, the world's 7 rulers, and the 3 emperors, these forces are powerful enough, and there is no need for Moonlight Mariah. What is this lil pirate doing? Therefore, being able to eradicate more pirates means being able to protect more civilians. Immediately, Smoker exerted a ruthless force all over his body. Boom. However, Smoker's attack was blocked by Moonlight Mariah. Damn it, I'm not so easy to mess with, Moonlight Mariah said angrily. 0. The next moment, his body gradually swelled up, and his aura also increased. Not good, Kuzan's complexion changed slightly. What Moonlight Mariah said, that is also the 7 warlords of the sea, which surpasses the ordinary marine vice admiral. It is not the Smoker who only has the strength of the marine rear admiral can fight now. Before Moonlight Mariah's strength rose rapidly, Kuzan appeared on the sailboat and directly froze Moonlight Mariah's body. How? How could this be? Moonlight Mariah stared at Kuzan unwillingly. But Kuzan had nothing but indifference in his eyes. For such pirates, one less is naturally better. Immediately afterwards, my life passed away rapidly. After the battle, Kuzan looked at Zephyr not far away, exchanged a glance with him, and then showed a smile on his face. At this time, the warship that Kuzan was on also gradually appeared, and there were many familiar characters on board. Maynard Vice Admiral, Huashaoshan Vice Admiral, Hina, etc., these elites who left the marine. After seeing these faces, Zephyr's eyes showed a little relief. Most of these used to be his students, but they were chased and killed by celestial dragons because they left marine. Fortunately, Kuzan appeared and saved them in time. Otherwise, the justice in this world will be destroyed again. Even more late billion. 176. Blackbeard's Delusion's New World, Some Island. This is the territory that Blackbeard got from the world government, and it is also a relatively wealthy place. The world government must be very concerned about this, and gritted his teeth with hatred for himself. But he also concluded that the world government would not do anything to him. From what happened last time at West Blue, he's seen it. Although the world government has SSG robots that are as powerful as Shichibukai, and they can be realized through mass production. But the people inside Marine are quite scattered, and they can't even have a unified external opinion. This kind of world government is nothing more than a strong outside world. As long as Blackbeard kicks forward lightly, the world government, a huge empire that has stood tall for hundreds of years, will collapse. Boss. We have already counted, 983, and the world government has not received this year's income, which means that we can make another fortune. Quinn walked up. Road. At this time, Quinn has become the third person in the Blackbeard team, second only to Shiryu. Hearing this, a wicked smile appeared on Blackbeard's face. What a surprise. Their so-called income is actually collecting protection fees. By cooperating with the noble forces of the kingdom, the big pirates have become their umbrella and the stabilizer of their rule of the people. Then these kingdom nobles implement corresponding policies in the country to squeeze the interests of the people. In the end, the two were divided into 3 or 7. Big pirates accounted for 70%. This is the main income of the world government and the great pirates. There is also a part of the income, which comes from the ubiquitous maritime trade on the sea. With maritime trade, there is naturally plunder. Under normal circumstances, those noble merchant ships of the kingdom ruled by the big pirates only need to play the banner of the forces behind them, and they can pass through unimpeded. But with the advent of the era of great pirates, the chaos in the world has been exacerbated. Therefore, these merchant ships usually need to hire security guards to guard their trade lines, and this is the maritime trade protection fee. Through these 2 protection fees, the big pirates are getting richer, and gradually have the power to compete with the world government. And now, most of the world's maritime trade protection fees have been locked in the hands of the 7 rulers of the world. This also means that the 7 rulers of the world use their own power. Steal the business of the world government and the great pirates, and more importantly, none of them dared to move the people in power against the 7th world. Over the world government, is there any movement from them? Shiryu asked vigilantly. Advertisement after all, he also worked for the world government, and he knew a little about the dirty methods of the world government. Although their current power is huge enough, if the world government wants to attack them, it will be really difficult for them to parry. And the 5 elders, but none of them are easy to mess with. World government. One of the soldiers was stunned for a moment, and then a cold smile appeared on his face. According to the report from our spies in Marine, world government is currently busy with the revolution in West Blue, and they have invested a lot of troops, and even sent green bulls, but they can't stop their decline in West Blue. Hearing this, Ni Dao Dao let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, Blackbeard sneered dismissively. World government? It's already sunset. The celestial dragon's theocratic power has already fallen the moment the red hair is revealed to the whole world. It's just, they're still temporarily able to sit in that position. Then who will the new master be? Speaking of this, Blackbeard suddenly laughed maniacally. Ha 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 ha. Are the 7 worlds in power? No. They have the power to subvert the world, but they have no ambition to dominate the world at all. Whitebeard? He's too weak. Along with his entire pirate group, he's just a bunch of remnants from the old days. Revolutionary Army. This is indeed what we need to pay attention to, but now they have started dog-eat-dog with the world government. Very good, let them continue fighting like this. When they are both defeated, we will go to harvest. Then, there is only one person left for our current opponent. Straw Hat, Monkey, D. Luffy. When he said this, a blazing flame flashed in Blackbeard's left eye, and a cyan-colored evil light flashed in his right hand. And at this moment, a violent tremor suddenly occurred in their position. The strong vibration even made their bodies tremble. What's the situation? Is it an earthquake? Advertisement. Some of the Blackbeard crew's countenance changed dramatically. From this shock, they felt a terrifying force that permeated their hearts. This feeling of inner trembling was something they had never experienced before, but at this moment, it appeared so clearly in their bodies. Could it be Whitebeard? Shiryu said warily. Blackbeard, however, looked serious. He was just bragging just now. Although Whitebeard is a remnant of the old era, if he is allowed to fight now, it will not be so easy to defeat. And at this time, a real shadow appeared in Blackbeard's eyes. After seeing the opponent's appearance clearly, Blackbeard's pupils were shocked. Shuang. Shuangyue Kongying, Blackbeard shivered all over. After seeing the figure of Shuangyue Kongying, the expressions of all the crew members of Blackbeard also changed drastically. Without exception, all of them have experienced the strength of Shuangyue Kongying. They would rather offend the world government than have anything to do with this person. At this time, behind Shuangyue Kongying, Kizaru's current Marine Admiral, 5.7 is still standing. And several SSG robots. Kizaru, How is it possible? Blackbeard looked at Shuangyue Kongying in shock, and then stared at Shuangyang Kongling in disbelief. Could it be? Could it be that the 7th government of the world and the 2nd government of the world have joined forces? What? Shuangyue Kongying didn't speak, but looked down at Blackbeard coldly. His gaze was as deep as a sharp sword, which made Blackbeard dare not look directly. At this time, Kizaru explained from the side, Yo, Blackbeard, don't you know why you offended Master Tianli? Offend? Shuangyue Kongying, how could it be possible? Now that he heard Shuangyue Kongying's name, he walked away. How could he offend him? You forgot, the land under your feet has signed a trade protection contract with Lord Tianli. 177. The world's 7 governing alliances world government. Hearing this, Blackbeard suddenly realized, and couldn't help but want to slap himself in the face. Damn, he actually forgot about it. However, he really did not expect that after signing this treaty with the world government, the interests of both parties would be bound, land protection fees. At this time, Blackbeard has already fallen into remorse, and he doesn't think about it at all. He can also think about the direction in which the world 7 is in power. And at this time, Blackbeard raised his head with an ugly face, looking up at Shikoying and Kizaru. Lord Tianli, I have no intention of offending you. Before Blackbeard could finish speaking, a lightning strike from Shuangyue Kongying quickly landed on Blackbeard's body, and the lightning immediately paralyzed his body, and the constant pain flowed through his body like a stream of water, making him he lost his combat effectiveness in a short time. But the crew of Blackbeard just watched Shuangyue Kongying crush their captain like this, but didn't move at all. They all stared at Shuangyue Kongying with fear in their eyes, afraid that he would be the next one to attack him. Especially Quinn, he was trembling with fear at this time. As a person who once followed Kaido and saw the combat power of Kong Rong for the first time, he was afraid of the natural enemy of Shuang's Kong Rong. He felt that Shuangyue Kongying was as invincible as a god. Blackbeard was paralyzed on the ground, his fat body like a puddle of mud. But Shuangyue Kongying said indifferently, you have only one choice, get out of here. Or die. Shuangyue Kongying's words are quite frivolous, but the power contained in them is something that the Blackbeard pirates dare not touch. Soon, Blackbeard's crew dragged Blackbeard, who had lost his combat effectiveness, and left here in a scrambling manner. Did I tell you to leave now? Shuangyue Kongying's voice came again. The bodies of the Blackbeard crew members seemed to freeze instantly as if they had turned into wood. Advertisement, I don't know. Lord Tianli, what else can I order? Quinn looked at Shuangyue Kongying cautiously. And Shuangyue Kongying said indifferently, do you know how much trade protection fees I lost by occupying this place for a few days? Hearing this, everyone in the Blackbeard regiment couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. It seems that Shuangyue Kongying doesn't intend to let them go so easily. And Quinn looked at Shuangyue Kongying with an ugly expression, and at the same time asked timidly, I don't know? Is there any way for us to compensate you, Lord Tianli? Shuangyue Kongying raised her eyebrows. This kid is very good. 1 billion Baileys. Hearing this, the Blackbeard crew and the others couldn't help but change their expressions slightly, and then looked at each other. It's only been a day or two since they came to this territory. They didn't even have time to make money. That's when they were approached by Shuangyue Kongying, and 1 billion Bailey. That's a lot of money. At this time, Shiryu gritted his teeth and said, okay. Quinn immediately said, okay, we promise you, Lord Tianli. After letting go of Blackbeard and taking away billion Bailey, Shuangyue Kongying nodded in satisfaction. The harvest this time is quite plentiful. At the same time, Kizaru Paluzolino looked at Shuangyue Kongying at the side, but he was thinking secretly. He didn't understand what this Shuangyue Kongying wanted to do. He cares so much about Bailey. Then why doesn't he just go and rob the world government? That way the money will be more. And with the power of the 7th world, how can the world government resist it? Regarding this question, Lei Movie once also asked Shuangyue Kongying, and his idea is, he doesn't want to change anything in this world. He hopes that this pirate world can develop according to his original story, and he just leads the world 7 to rule and live here. As for why not robbing, naturally, it is hoped to take a long time to catch big fish. It is not a good habit to catch fish. Kizaru Admiral, what's the next move? Shuangyue asked suddenly. Paluzolino was taken aback. Advertisement immediately, he had to reply in a hurry, go back to Marineford. Shuangyue Kongying nodded. Paluzolino, hope to see you again in the future. Shuangyue patted Paluzolino's shoulder and immediately left here. But Paluzolino stood there in a daze, looking at the direction in which Shuangyue Kongying was leaving with some puzzlement, still pondering over what he just said in his mind. When Shuangyue Kongying called him before, he always called Kizaru Admiral, but his last sentence was to call him Paluzolino. Does this mean something? After thinking for a while, Paluzolino couldn't help shaking his head. What a strange man. The news that Shuangyue Kongying teamed up with the world government to drive Blackbeard out of the original territory shocked many pirates, including some big pirates like Whitebeard and Charlotte Linlin. According to their original thinking, the Kongshi 7 should remain neutral in power. After all, with the size of the ruling world of the 7th world, even if the big pirates join forces with the world government, they may not be able to overthrow 067. But now, the world government and the world's 7 rulers have teamed up to deal with Blackbeard. It's hard not to make many pirates think about it. For example, will the next step of Dust 7's ruling be to attack them big pirates? No one can say for sure, but if that's the case, what else can they do besides obediently catching them? The world is getting more and more confusing to me. Whitebeard couldn't help sighing. He originally thought that he had seen the truth of the world clearly, and grasped the direction of the world to a certain extent. But now, with the emergence of the 7 rulers of the world, he feels more and more numb in his mind. He couldn't see clearly what the 7 rulers of the world wanted to do. In order for his children to land steadily, he could only carefully drive the big ship forward slowly. And on the other side of the world, West Blue, the Revolutionary Army also knew the news, and it caused some panic in the army. They knew how powerful the Dust 7 were in power. After all, without the weapons traded in by the 7th Dust of the world, it would be impossible for them to achieve what they're today. And the world government, that is the opponent they want to defeat. However, their former business partners and opponents stood together. 178. A world where interests come first. Rice wife. Today is a rare presided over by Tianli. The presiding meeting of Tianli is a meeting held by Shuangyue Kongying in various places in the 7th world of Earth. At the same time, it is also a meeting for Shuangyue Kongying to increase the value of belief and strengthen the belief of the people. Lord Tianli, many forces in the world have been discussing our actions recently, Feng Yuan Manyu said respectfully, and a bit of worry appeared on his face. I am a little worried. Will those world forces unite together? If that's the case, it will be a big blow to us. Hearing this, Shuangyue Kongying waved her hands in disbelief. Joint? Why should they unite? Don't think too highly of the collective consciousness of these people in the world. Although from a certain point of view, they are indeed foreign forces in power, and whether they are pirates, the Revolutionary Army or the world government, they are all original the power of this pirate world, but so what? As foreign forces, they did not pose any fatal threat to them, so why did they go out of their way to target themselves? This is a world where interests come first. The contradictions among these people are too deep, so deep that even if there is another worldly 7 ruling, and forcefully annex their interests, they will not join forces. Besides, what if they join forces? Immediately, Lei Yingying stood at the top of the stage and said to Shuangyue Kongying in a respectful tone, Lord Tianli. We have already taken the 7 powerhouses in power in the world who have no escort missions according to your request. We're sent out to carry out maritime trade protection missions. Hearing this, Shuangyue Kongying nodded in satisfaction. Its so-called maritime trade protection mission is actually similar to the escort bureau, or personal bodyguards. It is mainly used to protect maritime trade from other malicious elements, and this piece of the market is quite mature and stable. And Shuangyue Kongying immediately said slowly, very good. According to Shuangyue Kongying's conception, he should set up a company to be responsible for the batch of protective forces sent by the Dust 7 ruling world. Advertisement. It's time for this rotten world to experience the power of free trade. Somewhere in the new world, Blackbeard stayed here seriously injured. He never thought just a random attack like Shuangyue Kongying could hurt him to such an extent. What made him feel even more desperate was that he felt his own the strength gap between Shuangyue Kongo and Shuangyue Kongo. This is definitely something he can't make up for no matter how hard he tries. Where are the others? Blackbeard said, embarrassed. Admiral, after Shuangyue Kongying seriously injured you, Marine also launched a fierce attack on us. Buster Joe 8, Katrine Demai, those on the periphery, were all killed by that damn Marine. The SGG robot and that Zon Taowen were killed. Badger said with an ugly face, and then said, the only ones who survived are us. Blackbeard looked at the group of people in front of him with an ugly expression, and his heart couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. As for anger, of course not. Anger comes from power, and what power can Blackbeard have when facing Shuangyue Kongying? Blackbeard looked at the group of people in front of him, then closed his eyes and said, everyone, let's rest for a while. The current Blackbeard pirates no longer have the ability to expand externally, and at the same time lost the best opportunity for external expansion. Next, with the cooperation of the world government and the Dust 7, many forces in the world should be passively defended, like an iron bucket. And in this way, the space to lead upward is also lost. However, although Blackbeard does not intend to expand externally, the world government has successfully deterred many forces from the outside world because of its cooperation with the 7th world government this time. Although the 5 elders are very clear, the 7th world government is only cooperating with them. It's just a piece of land back, but other forces in the world don't know about it. And they can just take advantage of this to deter and loot various forces in the world. And in just 1 week, the world government has taken back many of Blackbeard's territories, and even extended its minions to Charlotte Linlin, as well as the Golden Lion and Whitebeard. Charlotte Linlin lost the 3 generals and many outstanding children, and her ant-pirate group's power has been greatly reduced. She has completely lost the ability to stand up to the 3 emperors. And Golden Lion is already old, and the pirate group he belongs to is also difficult to achieve. Advertisement facing the plunder of the world government, they can only swallow their anger. But Whitebeard is different. When he drank the potion of Shuangyue Kongying, he felt that his spirit had returned to his prime, and the pirates under him were also full of talents. Malfoy and Ace, 2 twin stars, even had with the potential to become a king. So, how can Whitebeard bear this breath? Send troops. After the world government occupied Whitebeard's resources, Edward Newgate decisively chose to send troops to fight against the evil deeds of the world government. A new battlefield thus spread. Marine, Science Force Base. Doctor, a new batch of hearts has arrived. A Marine said respectfully to the person in front of him. This man, his stature is relatively short, and his eyes only reach the soldier's chin, but he has a rather huge head. His head is like a huge Qi, Wang Zhao's, ball bag, which is constantly expanding. Finally with the naked eye, its height is as tall as a giant. But bearing such a heavy head, the dwarf didn't feel the slightest pain, but just kept doing the experiment in front of him, then nodded. Understood, you go first. The marine soldier staggered for a moment, and then said slowly, Doctor, there's news from 5 elders, I hope you can restart the experiment on human body enlargement. The doctor was concentrating on the experiment in front of him. He slowly poured a small bottle of chemical substances into a colorful bottle. Immediately, the two liquids merged with each other, and finally sprayed out some lingering mist. At this time, the doctor turned around and said calmly, I see. After that, he looked at the things in the transparent box. Those are hearts that are still beating. 179. Operation Blazing Heart. A small island in North Blue. The marine warship suddenly appeared here, and surrounded the entire island. And the people on the island were all gathered in the center of the island. This group of people dressed in ancient clothes, the islanders stared fiercely at the marine who surrounded them, their faces full of doubts. Master Marine, I don't know about you, what is this going to do? An old man stood up. He is the mayor of this island. Because I went to sea in the early years, I still have some knowledge of the world, and I have some understanding of what Marine does in the outside world. At the same time, he had a bad premonition in his heart, but he didn't pretend to calm down. Marine is headed by a Commodore named Zone. Zone Commodore looked at the man with an indifferent expression, did not respond to him, but turned his eyes to the many villagers behind him, and then turned to ask the soldier behind him. Have you searched everything? This is where all people? The colonel behind him nodded. Search cleared, Commodore. Everyone on this small island has already gathered here, and our warships are surrounded outside. It is impossible for outsiders to come in, and it is impossible for anyone to. Medical. Hearing these words, Zuoan waved his hands rashly. 593. In this case, let's execute the order. Yes, Master Marine. You, what do you mean? The old village chief started to panic, and then stepped forward to grab Zuoan's sleeve. Master Marine. Our village is not the accomplice of Germa 66A. We have always been here, waiting for the arrival of Marine, and we have never betrayed God. However, Zuoan threw away the old village head with a look of disgust. Joke, aren't you fellows of Germa 66? If you are really accomplices of Germa 66, we dare not touch you. Zoran glanced at the soldiers coldly. Why are you standing still? Do you want me to teach you how to shoot? Advertisement. At this time, many soldiers reacted one after another, and then immediately raised their muskets and pointed them at the unarmed civilians. Boom. 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 Under a burst of continuous shooting, the villagers on the outskirts quickly fell down, and their bloodline flowed on the ground, like a bloody river. Among them, the screams of children and women came from the inner circle. It's so noisy. Zuoan Vice Admiral let out a loud shout, and his fierce demeanor and eyes instantly bluffed the group of people. Immediately, a group of people wearing white protective clothing walked out behind him. They didn't look like Marines, but they walked in a gentle manner. They looked like some people who were reading. Yet each of them carried a small knife and mercilessly plunged it into those who had fallen to the ground. Immediately afterwards, they took out the still beating hearts from those people's bodies. Unhurriedly, they picked up a spray and sprayed it on the heart before placing it in a freezer. This continuous operation left the group of villagers behind stunned and trembling. After those people in white protective clothing retreated from the circle, Zone Commodore picked his ears disdainfully, then raised a hand, and put it down again. Next batch, start. A burst of gunfire. Take out the heart for a while. Naturally, some of them couldn't bear to escape, but in the end, Zone Commodore pinched their heads, and the blood mist scattered on each of their faces. HMPH, unknowing untouchables. Continue. A burst of gunshots and a burst of operations to take out the heart continued until there was no more life left at the scene. How was the harvest this time? Advertisement Zone looked at a man in a white protective suit. He is a middle-level cadre of the Marine Science Corps. After hearing Zuoan's question, AGDH, he shook his head helplessly. The effect is so-so. A total of 1,000 people's hearts were taken at the scene. However, only 87 of them can be sent to the laboratory. In the end, only 3 or 4 of them can be applied to Seraphim, 17. After killing more than 1,000 people, only the hearts of 3 or 4 people can be used in the end. Such frightening statistics did not shock Zuoan at all. Hearing this, Zuoan felt a shock in his heart. Are these people who engage in science so emotionless? The man in the white protective suit was still looking at the data on the watch, and immediately said with a blank face, it doesn't really matter. You have to know, among these 1,000 ordinary people, it is very difficult for a bounty to appear, billion pirates. And now, they have the opportunity to become the heart of Seraphim, who possesses the strength of Shichibukai. After Marine left, a woman with pink hair and a young man with green hair appeared here. What a scientific monster. Anyway, I have completed the task, Zuoan said with a comfortable smile. It's their honor. Seraphim is the codename of the Marine SSG robot. It is an upgraded pacifist, but it is different from a pacifist. Seraph has been re-improved by Vegapunk, and has the strength comparable to Shichibukai, and at the same time, because it is equipped with a human heart, and some other the setting of the program and the way it executes the program can become more flexible. However, Zuoan still showed a flattering smile on his face. I think so too. They are, Vinsmoke Reiju and Vinsmoke. Yuji, a sly smile appeared on Zone's face. For now, the world government has no possibility of doing anything to us, so don't act rashly. And Vinsmoke. Reiju shook his head. At this time, it should remain unchanged in response to all changes. This is what Marine is doing right now. The main thing is to collect a large number of hearts from all over the world to supply and produce more seraphs. Their original plan was to be in West Blue, but as West Blue was gradually occupied by the Revolutionary Army, they could only move to North Blue. Sister, don't we catch up? Aren't they going to use these hearts to make that seraphim? That's a powerful robot with Shichibukai's strength. Vinsmoke, Yuji said slowly. Today's world pattern is changing very fast, and no one knows what will happen tomorrow. In the original book, the acquisition of these hearts was done by Trafalgar Law for Marine, which is the so-called Rocky Port Incident. 180. Luffy enters IWC after the world government invaded Whitebeard's territory. Whitebeard immediately attacked and launched a strong counterattack against the world government, and this caused a very bad accident, which led to the death of some middle-level cadres of Marine. Marineford, conference room. Marshal. That's the way it is. A vice admiral was reporting from the front about Whitebeard. After hearing the news, Bikasa nodded indifferently. Yeah, I see. Immediately, Leopard Bikasa showed a slightly pensive expression on his face. With their current strength, it would be really difficult for them to fight against Whitebeard. Although they have seraphs, there are currently a large number of seraphs still on the front lines of West Blue's fight against the Revolution Room. And the Whitebeard pirates, Edward Newgate. That's a treasure that's not old yet. Although he really wants to kill, he is not a pure lunatic. Let those who are in Whitebeard's original territory withdraw back, Bikasa said indifferently. Marshal. What do you mean? We don't have the energy to open up a new battlefield with Whitebeard now. Bikasa said slowly. Our main task now is to push the Revolutionary Army out of West Blue and prevent them from going to South Blue. Let's go, and bring that Blackbeard back. He pushed forward the cooperation between Blackbeard and Marine back then. However, Blackbeard, the B******************, betrayed him in the end, which would make his reputation in Marine plummet. Fortunately, he recovered in time, and he went to issue a military order with 5 elders. Otherwise, the marshal of the position might belong to that guy from Green Bull. Mobutu? Found that Blackbeard guy? Bikasa asked. At this time, the new Marine Admiral, Mobutu, stood up indifferently. We have found it, Marshal. Bikasa nodded indifferently, and a murderous intent flashed in those eyes uncontrollably. This time, he personally dealt with this B*************************. West Blue. Today, the Revolutionary Army has occupied most of West Blue, although there are Marine Admiral Green Bulls and many Seraphim robots comparable to Shichibukai. Under the offensive of the Revolutionary Army, the opponent is still retreating steadily. That Green Bull is really powerful, one of the Revolutionary Army cadres couldn't help but said. Advertisement Green Bull, as Marine Admiral, is naturally quite powerful. On the battlefield of West Blue, he even stopped the entire Revolutionary Army by himself, and manipulated hundreds of people in that group between. Yeah, but we're lucky to have Chief of Staff Sabo. Today's Sabo, under the guidance of the dragon, has grown into a strong man who can stand on his own. In addition, he also has the bonus of the relics from the ruling side of the 7 worlds, which makes his strength even further, enough to compete with Admiral and don't fall behind. Get ready, we are about to face the next battle. Sabo calmly said to the soldiers. The current Revolutionary Army can be said to be in a very good situation. They have won and stabilized East Blue in one fell swoop, and now, most of West Blue is also in their hands. Although these 2 seas are not as important as the New World and the Great Root, they have very rich resources and population. This will be an important cornerstone in the development of their Revolutionary Army. On the other hand, although Sengoku, Garp, and Marshal Kong have not formally joined the Revolutionary Army, but they are sitting in East Blue, but they can also play the role of calming the sea, so that others dare not have too much how presumptuous. I don't know how Luffy and Ace are doing now. Sabo looked up to the sky, thinking of Luffy's smiling face. IWC. Following the direction of the Eternal Pointer, the Straw Hats traveled all the way through Mond and other places, and came here. At this time, the owner of Wanguo is still Charlotte Linlin, but with the departure of her Great Prince's children, Wanguo has gradually become withered. And Charlotte Linlin also lost the qualification to fight for hegemony. Completely fell out of the queue of top pirates. And Luffy and others walked on the 10,000 kingdoms, looking at the dry trees. Even the soil where the grass was inexplicably stripped. This place is so strange. The speaker is a skeleton. Its name is Brook, and it was met by Luffy and others on the Moonlight Maria ship. It turned out that after Moonlight Maria was killed by Kuzan, his sunless ship had been drifting on the sea. But it didn't take long before it bumped into Luffy's Thousand Sunny. At that time, most of the zombies on the Moonlight Maria pirate ship were either killed by the sun, or left by taking advantage of the boat. Only Brook remained there without a permanent residence. After talking for a while, Luffy found the other party very interesting, so he joined him. Advertisement, it is said. This is the residence of the former 4 emperors, Charlotte Linlin, Nami said with some vigilance. However, Usopp on the side showed a very proud expression. What is there to fear about the former 4 emperors? We are now the 3 emperors, who are in office. Moreover, Charlotte Linlin and the others have teamed up to deal with us, but they failed to take how about us. Ha 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 ha. 0. Look, Charlotte Linlin is behind you, Nami said suddenly. Where is where? Usopp jumped up suddenly. Ha 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 ha. Usopp's appearance caused Nami to burst into laughter. Usopp, look at your current appearance, weren't you very arrogant just now? After confirming that it was Nami's joke, Usopp glanced at Nami with disgust. "Ah, Nami. You're so boring. You know, even if Charlotte Linlin is gone, Usopp is just an auxiliary shooter. He hasn't even practiced armament hockey well, so how can he resist Charlotte Linlin, who was once the Four Emperors?" And at this time, Nami suddenly let out a scream. "Ah, Nami. What's the matter?" Usopp looked at Nami sullenly. And Nami jumped a few meters away, and then pointed at Usopp's back in horror. "Charlotte Linlin. Usopp, watch out." However, Usopp was indifferent to this kind of joke, and waved his hand helplessly at Nami. "Nami, I won't make this kind of joke again." "Usopp, watch out." Not far away, Luffy flew towards Usopp. Usopp, however, was still in disbelief. Immediately afterwards, a huge shadow suddenly appeared on the soil where Usopp was located. Point 181. Charlotte Linlin's epilepsy. Usopp. Luffy quickly flew to Usopp, and stretched his arms like rubber, and immediately hugged Usopp's body. And Usopp finally came to his senses at this moment. At the same time, Charlotte Linlin's big hand grabbed Usopp in the original direction. Finally, she grabbed a handful of grass ferociously, then stuffed it into her mouth quickly, and screamed wildly in her eyes. "You hateful people! Give me something to eat. I want something to eat." After eating a handful of grass, Charlotte Linlin started walking in the direction of Luffy and the others again, but she didn't seem to have Luffy in her eyes. Instead, she kept grabbing the few remaining weeds on the soil, and then he grabbed it and stuffed it into his mouth. "Give me something to eat. I want candy. I want candy." 760. Seeing such a crazy scene, Brook was a little scared and hid. He cowered behind Nami with his old bones, and then looked timidly at Charlotte Linlin in front of him. "Nami-san, this woman is so scary. He is what you said that, former Four Emperors, Charlotte Linlin?" Nami also stared at the ant with a solemn expression at this time, and nodded immediately. "Yes." Sanji looked at the desolation nearby with some heartache, and then slowly said, "It seems that this country has been destroyed by Charlotte Linlin." Charlotte Linlin, as the former Four Emperors, has no longer received as much attention from everyone during this period of drastic changes in the world. But a lean camel is bigger than a horse, and there are not many pirates who don't know the news of the disintegration of a power as big as the Big Mom pirates. Luffy, on the other hand, stares warily at Charlotte Linlin. At this time, Charlotte Linlin, who had fallen into madness, finally looked at the Straw Hats, and her eyes also released a strange cold light. The Straw Hat Kid. Charlotte Linlin's irrational eyes looked at Luffy, and at the same time, there was an ugly hollow on her mouth. Luffy frowned, while standing in front of his companions, looking straight at Charlotte Linlin calmly. However, at this moment, Charlotte Linlin's eyes were fixed on Chopper, who was standing beside him strangely. Chopper flinched, then grabbed Zoro's sleeve. "Meat, meat, I want meat." Charlotte Linlin fell into madness again. A wave of madness filled her body, and then her eyes were greedy, and her body rushed towards Chopper as if uncontrollably. And a terrible conqueror's oozes out haki, suppressed the Straw Hats. Chopper. Seeing this, Zoro braced himself and flew towards Charlotte Linlin. Advertisement 36 paths troubled wind. Several times of knife blows directly pushed back the attacking Charlotte Linlin, and made her eyes regain a little sobriety. "Damn. You bloody green hair." Charlotte Linlin turned to Zoro again. Zoro stood directly in front, facing the mighty Charlotte Linlin. At this time, Zoro, although growing very fast. But compared with Luffy, there is still a big gap. He is very clear about his current strength, and how much he can fight against a royal powerhouse like Charlotte Linlin. If you really want to consume it for a long time, you will definitely die in the opponent's hands. At this time, Luffy stood up. "Big Moom, enough is enough." Luffy stared at Charlotte Linlin burningly. Enough is enough? These 4 words seemed to sting something deep in Charlotte Linlin's heart. She stared at Luffy with strange eyes, but there seemed to be many people in front of her. Such as those damn marine admirals, and that damn Shuangyue Kongying, Parasparrow, and Katakuri. Enough is enough? Enough is enough, it should be you. After all, Charlotte Linlin's figure suddenly became taller and more majestic, and a black shadow floated behind her. The shadow was like a dark cloud, constantly spreading outward, and finally even spread tens of meters away. Soul Spell. After seeing this posture, Nami's expression changed drastically. This is Charlotte Linlin's fruit ability, Soul Spell. This move judges the life of the opponent by interrogating the human being. Even if the opponent has only a trace of fear in his heart, all the soul will be taken away in an instant, and the soul will use the lifespan as the unit to carry out arbitrary deprivation. This is the powerful ability of the Soul Fruit. It was also Charlotte Linlin's greatest reliance on being able to become the 4 emperors. "Everyone cover your ears," Robin yelled. As a scholar, and working under Crocodile, she has studied the abilities of the 4 emperors. Among them, the one that makes her think the fruit ability is incredible is the Soul Fruit of Zhonglo de Linlin. As long as you feel a little bit of fear, you can withdraw your soul. What a terrifying skill this is. Advertisement, but this skill also has a fatal flaw. That is, as long as you can't hear Charlotte Linlin's voice, then his attack will be ineffective for you. No matter how overbearing her fruit ability is, no matter how afraid you are of her. So subconsciously, Robin immediately covered Chopper's ears. Brook, Usopp, Nami also immediately covered their ears. At the same time, Luffy, Zoro and Sanji stood at the front with indifferent eyes, looking directly at Charlotte Linlin. Even with Charlotte Linlin's voice bombarding them. Even Charlotte Linlin has reached the pinnacle of fruit development. As long as they don't feel fear in their hearts, there will be no such thing. Big Moon. You can't do anything to us, Luffy said firmly. Seeing this, Charlotte Linlin was even more angry. Hateful. It can be 0.2 evil, damn it, why? Why is the world treating her like this? She just wants to eat. The damn world. Charlotte Linlin was frantic and frantic. At this time, she suddenly noticed Sanji's curly eyebrows, and immediately the corners of her mouth raised a strange arc. Charlotte Linlin stared at Sanji, and immediately pointed to Sanji. You kid, aren't you from the Vinsmoke family? Vinsmoke, hearing this, Sanji's determined expression suddenly flashed a bit of trance, and then many memories of the past flooded into his heart. At this moment, there was a hint of fear in his heart. Hey, Charlotte Linlin gave a wicked smile. 182. Vinsmoke family. At this moment, Sanji's soul fell into a short vacancy. Charlotte Linlin grasped this point quite keenly. She immediately released her fruit ability, and stretched out a hand to grab Sanji, wanting to take away Sanji's soul. However, at this time, Sanji has already fallen into a state of emptiness, and his mind has been paralyzed. Sanji. Luffy quickly released his Conqueror's Haki, and then attacked Charlotte Linlin. Big Moon. You are not allowed to hurt my partner. At the same time, Zoro was also launching a fierce attack on Charlotte Linlin. The terrifying attack instantly swallowed Charlotte Linlin's entire body, and her powerful soul-absorbing attack was also interrupted. Damn, Charlotte Linlin has gone mad. Straw Hat. This is the Straw Hat Kid. If he died early in the morning under the cooperation of her and Kaido, how could there be so many troubles in 06? How could her children betray her? How could Kaido die? What about the world will it become what it is now? And the root cause of all this depravity is this Straw Hat boy, Luffy. I am going to kill you. Charlotte Linlin launched a ferocious attack on Luffy. Boom. The Conqueror's Haki of the two collided violently in the void. The forceful oppression was also constantly spreading outward, making Robin and others quite uncomfortable. And this time, Zoro's armament Haki was unleashed, barely resisting the overflow of these conquerors. Zoro. Chopper looked at Zoro weeping, and Zoro looked at Chopper tenderly, then frowned and looked at Sanji next to him. At this time, Sanji, his eyes were white, his mouth was open, and he looked quite embarrassed. Obviously a part of the soul has been taken away. He doesn't know what the loss of these souls will lead to, but it must be a bad result. This Charlotte Linlin is really extraordinary, Zoro said through gritted teeth. Advertisement. But Robin looked at Sanji meaningfully. She looked at the curly eyebrows. She felt familiar at first, but she couldn't remember it all the time. But after what Charlotte Linlin said just now, she immediately had an impression. Vinsmoke. This is the North Blue Vinsmoke family, exclusive curly eyebrows. You know, the Vinsmoke family is quite a powerful force. Although they don't have an inch of territory, they can participate in the former World Council. What is even more frightening is their Germa 66, and they have occupied the entire North Blue. Their influence is not insignificant. Even the world government at its peak depends on them. Wink. Even the current revolutionary army, facing North Blue, still finds it quite difficult. That's how it turned out. It turns out that Sanji is from the Vinsmoke family. But Robin didn't reveal anything to the outside world. Since Sanji didn't want to say it, she wouldn't say it either. New World. This is the temporary residence of the Blackbeard pirates. Since they were kicked out by the world government, they have been recuperating, and they have also been needing to escape the hunt and kill the endless, seraphim, robots of the world government. These tired, so that they cannot take a good rest. Boss. Just now came the news that the Straw Hat Kid and Charlotte Linlin were fighting in Wanguo, Badger said slowly. Hearing this news, a relaxed smile finally appeared on Blackbeard's frail face. Luffy and Charlotte Linlin hooked up. This is undoubtedly good news. Although Charlotte Linlin is weak, if she really goes crazy, then no one will feel better. It's just a pity that he hasn't fully recovered yet. If he recovers well, he can go to Wanguo immediately, and then take advantage of the fire to rob that Straw Hat boy. Maybe he can be wiped out directly in one fell swoop. Kill this and become the biggest opponent on One Piece. Although it was said that Luffy was Joey Boye's destiny theory, he didn't believe it. What Joey? What god reincarnated? What child of the light who led people out of darkness? In this world, there has never been any destiny. I control my own life. But, compared to the aging Whitebeard, this young Straw Hat boy will undoubtedly become his biggest obstacle. Admiral, there's news from South Blue that Marine seems to have been killing people to dig out hearts. I don't know if they have any new research, Badger said cautiously. But at this time, Quinn on the side shook his head. Advertisement. If I'm not mistaken, those hearts should be used to make seraphim. These days, he has been dealing with seraphim for a long time, and he has gradually discovered something is wrong. Compared with pacifists, these seraphim are not only stronger in strength, but when they execute orders, they are quite obviously a bit more flexible than the pacifists. Later, he killed a seraph, then disassembled it, and finally found something wrong. Seraphim. It's a scourge. Blackbeard couldn't help clenching his fists. Although the strength of these seraphs is not as good as him, they still have the strength comparable to Shichibukai. And more importantly, they can be mass-produced. Therefore, even if the strength is mediocre, after mass production, its competitiveness is also self-evident. After all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Vegapunk. A gleam of hatred flashed in Blackbeard's eyes. Even though the world government has already sunk down, their secrecy about Vegapunk is still so high that it is outrageous. And if he is Blackbeard, he can also get Vegapunk. Then this world is one step closer to his grasp. And hearing Vegapunk's name, Quinn on the side couldn't help flashing the color of remembrance in his eyes. Suddenly, there was a loud noise. Boom, boom. Immediately afterwards, some things around them were shrinking violently. Stools and chairs, knives in hand, etc. What happened? Everyone in the Blackbeard Pirates was in a panic. Immediately afterwards, a large shadow appeared above their heads. Densely packed seraphs were like dark clouds. And standing at the forefront of those blazing angels. It's an unfamiliar face. He is the current Marshal of the Marine, Leopard, Bikasa. 183. Another option, Bikasa. Blackbeard narrowed his eyes and stared at Bikasa indifferently. He knows that Bikasa is the current Marine Marshal. His strength is quite strong, especially after he has been enhanced by the Marine Science troops. His strength is already comparable to the real Admiral. Otherwise, he would not such a smooth promotion to Marine Admiral. But of course, he is not afraid of Bikasa, even the current Marine Marshal. Marshal teach. Bikasa stared at Blackbeard twitchingly, then clenched his fists fiercely, looked down at Blackbeard like a proud emperor, and then said slowly, "Do you know that you have committed any heinous crime?" Hearing Bikasa's trial, Blackbeard sneered nonchalantly. Offense? I really don't know that. Faced with Blackbeard's stubbornness, Bikasa didn't want to explain too much, but said indifferently, "You violated the agreement with the world government, which is equivalent to violating the people of the world. Violating the command of God. This but a very serious crime. Sufficient. Kill you." Hearing these words, Blackbeard laughed nonchalantly. Ha 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 ha, such a crime? Does it matter? Bikasa snorted coldly. HMPH, be stubborn, immediately. Bikasa only raised his hand slightly, and then, a large number of seraph robots behind him immediately launched an attack. A series of dense attacks roared out, and countless laser rays flew out like sharp blades, and then fell directly on the members of the Blackbeard Pirates. Boom. 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 Faced with such an offensive, Blackbeard was not afraid at all, and directly turned into a green dragon and rushed towards Bikasa. Seeing Blackbeard moving forward, Bikasa sneered, It's exactly what I want. He must kill Blackbeard on the spot this time. Otherwise, 5 elders may start to doubt his ability. At that time, let alone whether the position of Marshal can be secure. On the other hand, 5 elders will definitely take the opportunity to intervene in marine affairs. At that time, he won't be able to do whatever he wants. Advertisement, boom. Bikasa directly released his armament haki, and used the ability to grow fruit to directly enlarge his 2 fists. Immediately, the fist like a hammer. It fell hard on Blackbeard, but Blackbeard now has the strong body that Kaido used to have. Head-to-head confrontation, neither of the two can do anything to the other at this time. Blackbeard stepped back, then stared at Bikasa in astonishment. He didn't expect that the Marine Marshal who was conscripted from the world in front of him would have such a powerful strength. Even if he used Kaido's ability, he couldn't hold back the opponent's momentum. Marshal, teach. You must die here today. Bikasa gazed darkly at Blackbeard. At this moment, the fighting spirit in his heart had been completely aroused by Blackbeard. He looked at Blackbeard with a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. As if noticing the change in Bikasa, Blackbeard stopped his hand suddenly, and then kept looking at Bikasa with a sneer smile. Hey, what's the matter? Has it started to go up now? Do you want to kill me? Although Bikasa was a little surprised, he felt that Blackbeard really wanted to know about his hobbies. But he still pretended to be calm and said, killing you is my duty as a Marine. However, Blackbeard's eyes still stared at him, making him a little panicked. Bikasa, I know what you did before, Blackbeard said suddenly. But Bikasa was slightly taken aback, his heartbeat suddenly accelerated. There should be very few people in the world who know about his love of killing people, because everyone who knows about him should have been killed by him. However, he felt that with 5 elders' intelligence capabilities, he should also know this. But he also knew very well that the reason why 5 elders kept him was to let him be the dog of celestial dragons. But he doesn't care about these integrity. As long as it can make him kill, he can say anything. And Blackbeard stared at Bikasa, his eyes showed a bit of scorching heat, and then said slowly, why don't we play something more exciting? Bikasa's heart rate changes, what do you want to say? And Blackbeard looked at Bikasa and kept sneering. Hey, advertisement, Bikasa, join us. We can let you kill more people openly. There was a slight looseness in Bikasa's eyes, but he still held his mind and said with contempt, why should I trust you? It's easy for me to kill you now. Blackbeard's mouth curved into a sneer. Really? Immediately, the palm of Blackbeard's right hand suddenly stretched out towards Bikasa, and a black airflow diffused from it. Immediately afterwards, the airflow was like a ball of water, flying towards Bikasa with all his might go. Then it quickly wrapped around his body, as if a big hand grabbed his body. Bikasa didn't even have time to be shocked, and was immediately caught by Blackbeard. Do you think, am I that easy to deal with? Blackbeard stared at Bikasa coldly. The next moment, the black mist in his palm immediately transformed into hot molten lava. This is his ability to melt fruit, and just as the lava diffused out, it instantly burned the surface of Bikasa's body. Immediately afterwards, even though Bikasa tried his best to urge armament haki to resist, but under the attack of Blackbeard, Nanuo's, but it seemed so powerless and slim. At this moment, he finally realized how powerful Blackbeard is. Mobutu. Bikasa screamed. But the Marine Admiral on the side, the Black Lion, Mobutu. This person whom he single-handedly raised did not change at all. Blackbeard stared at Bokassa with an evil smile on his face. Hey, it's useless to call anyone. Bokassa was annoyed, but not long after, Blackbeard let go of him strangely. The pain in his body disappeared instantly, and at this time, Blackbeard said to him slowly, "Join us. You can continue to be your marshal in the marine. You can also kill people wantonly and happily. In the end, the infamy and the consequences are up to us. Just take it. Of course. You have another option. Die." 184. Bokassa's choice. Facing Blackbeard's death gaze, Bokassa's eyes evaded somewhat. If he rejects Blackbeard, then his ending is undoubtedly quite certain. He can't beat Blackbeard, and even can only be manipulated by Blackbeard at will. And what kind of feelings could he have for Marine? At the beginning, he just joined Marine for the purpose of killing more and better people and avoiding unnecessary disputes. And it sounds. The choice Blackbeard gave him seemed even more tempting. Going undercover in the Marine? Sounds like an interesting thing to do. I choose to join you. Bokassa looked directly at Blackbeard and said slowly. Hearing Bokassa's words, a smile finally appeared on Blackbeard's indifferent face. Then he let go of Bokassa quite generously, and patted Bokassa's shoulder very affectionately, saying, "Welcome to join us, the future of the world will definitely have your share. Ha 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 ha." Bokassa also quickly fell into the vision of the future. At the same time, Quinn on the side also laughed. At this time, Blackbeard, although he was dealt a major blow by Xuangyue Kongying and Marine last time, his roots still remained. And there is a faint tendency to surpass the three emperors, and it is also the person closest to One Piece. He annexed Kaido's former beast's pirates, and also took over Kaido and Mingo's intelligence network to a great extent through Quinn. This allowed him to even have intelligence capabilities second only to the CPO, the Seventh World Ruling, and the Revolutionary Army. Ha 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 ha. Blackbeard couldn't help but laugh wildly, as if the future was within his grasp. After returning to Marine, Bokassa stood on the high platform of Marineford and thought for a long time. The first task that Blackbeard gave him was to steal Vegapunk, but although he is the Marine Marshal and the highest authority in Marine, he still doesn't know much about Vegapunk's secrets. And Vegapunk and its scientific troops were arranged by 5 elders with Kizaru, and they didn't have much chance to intervene. So what exactly does he have to do to get close to Vegapunk without being alarmed? Boom boom boom. There was a sound outside the door. Advertisement, a GDG. Immediately, Monto walked in from the outside. Regarding Mobutu, Bokassa didn't feel resentment because he betrayed him, because the two of them were originally embracing each other in Marine for their own selfish desires. He did it for better killing, while Mobutu, it did it for S*X. Marshal, there is a battle report from the front. Our army has been completely withdrawn from West Blue. Hearing this news, Bokassa couldn't help frowning. This also means that the Revolutionary Army has completely captured West Blue. Judging from the previous style of the Revolutionary Army, after they occupy West Blue, they will inevitably start to build defensive measures immediately. At that time, if they want to take West Blue again, it will become more difficult. And this will also affect Blackbeard's plan. Wait for 5 elders arrangement, Bokassa said slowly. His plan in Marine now is to not make the 5 elders suspicious. Marineford. Marine is gathering troops, a large number of soldiers are rushing to the port, and at the same time, a large number of Seraph robots are already on board waiting for instructions. Several huge warships are docked at the port, just like a giant. At the same time, there are countless Marine generals appearing here. This is the latest order that the 5 elders have just passed on to Bokassa. Straw Hat Luffy and Charlotte Linlin had a fierce conflict in Wonguo. Let Marine go directly to Wonguo now, and solve both of them directly on the spot. Hey. Let's go now. Parasparrow also appeared in the port of Marineford. Under his feet is a huge candy head, and it is in the shape of a cow. Looking at its eyes, it even has some intelligence. This is Parasparrow's sugar manatee. Not only can it float in the sea, it was even endowed with soul vitality by Big MDOM. Bokassa looked at Parasparrow indifferently. This time, Big Moom and that Straw Hat Kid will definitely be dealt with together. Pesloslo took some brothers and sisters of the Big Mom Pirates and broke away from the Big Mom Pirates. But they didn't set up their pirates, because Parasparrow's purpose is not to be a great pirate, but to become the king of all nations. Advertisement, but Charlotte Linlin now occupies it. And with his current power, it is naturally impossible to defeat Che Luoti Linlin. So he chose to cooperate with Marine. This time, the people sent by Marine are Bokassa the Leopard, Mobutu the Black Lion, Huang Mu the Green Bull, and nearly half of the Seraphs in the Marine. It can be said that they have come out in full force, and their determination to eliminate Luffy this time is also true. It can be seen here. After everyone had assembled, Bokassa stood on the warship and shouted, "Let's go!" IWC. At this time, the battle between the Straw Hats and Big Mom was coming to an end. Although Charlotte Linlin fell into a rampage, causing her combat power to soar, but with the main attack of Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and the assistance of Usopp, they still won an overwhelming victory in this battle. Looking at the dying Charlotte Linlin on the ground, Usopp said with lingering fear, "Luffy, let's get out of here now, or when this guy wakes up, he might go crazy again." Zoro also spoke. "That's right, Luffy, and the battle between us and Big Moom can't be hidden from the world government. Maybe they have already sent people over." Robin stepped forward and said thoughtfully, "I read the newspaper before saying that Parasparrow and the world government have colluded together. Then I feel that it shouldn't be long before Marine will set off immediately, trying to get both of us together. It's all over. The current situation in the world is in turmoil, and the Straw Hats, no matter how casual they are, have to walk on thin ice in this general environment. Luffy also nodded solemnly. That's right, Zoro, Usopp, and Nami hurry up to prepare the boat. Put the boat at Shioran Port, which is closer to Inazuma. The rest of us, go to Wonguo to prepare some supplies now. At that time, we will meet at Kaolian Port, Luffy said loudly. 185. Blackbeard's conspiracy. The Straw Hats immediately began to disperse. At the same time, Marine's warship has also approached Wonguo. On the warship, Mikasa stared at the front with a calm expression, and then slowly said, "This trip to the world, we must completely wipe out this Straw Hat boy. Otherwise, really what is more, there will be endless troubles." Regarding the Straw Hat boy, there are many people who want to execute him immediately. Not only the 5 elders wanted to kill the legendary Child of Destiny, so as to maintain their celestial dragon's rule for a longer time. Blackbeard also hated this Straw Hat kid. Thinking he was a Blackbeard became the biggest obstacle on the way of One Piece. However, judging from the strength of the Straw Hat boy, it may be difficult for us to take him down, Mobutu said with lingering fear. You know, Luffy was the chosen one who couldn't be completely wiped out under the joint efforts of Kaido and Big Moon, and he, Mobutu and Mikasa, are only at the quasi-admiral level. Even there is no way to compare Kaido and Big Moon in terms of individual strength, so how can they defeat Luffy together? HMPH. With so many blazing angels here this time, even if we can't completely wipe out this Straw Hat kid, we can definitely make him lose a layer of skin. At the end, Mikasa's eyes showed a ruthless look. Immediately, he looked at the time. It's 1 o'clock at noon. Blackbeard should have received your information, right? This operation has 2 meanings for Mikasa. 1. To complete the task given by 5 elders. Kill Luffy, the Straw Hat kid. 2. Complete Blackbeard's confession. Try to leave Marineford in the void as much as possible, so as to create some opportunities for him. Fontaine. Shuangyue Eryang came here today, mainly to test the initial operation of the sea train. After the strong support from the ruling party of Dust 7 and the insistence of Carrera, the new generation of sea train finally has a further step development. Compared with the first generation of sea trains, there have been more improvements in speed and stability. However, the cost is limited by the material, and it has not been greatly reduced. The location of this generation of sea trains is to communicate the northern and southern areas of Fontaine, making the transportation within Fontaine more convenient. And Shuangyue Kongying sat in it, watching the scenery along the way, and couldn't help but let out a little admiration during the period. This sea train is really a beautiful thing. Now, how much do you need in your treasury? Shuangyue asked, looking at Ace Bagu who was accompanying him. Ace Bagu was silent for a moment, and then said slowly, this generation of sea train. The research and development and production costs probably cost 1 billion Baileys, but according to our estimates, it can be completed within 10 years. As for the concept you mentioned, Mr. Tianli, there is no hope of reducing a lot of costs at present. Advertisement. Ace Bagu said something euphemistically. And Shuangyue Kongying picked up the drawing and looked at it. In fact, he doesn't know much about engineering, especially since this is Pirate World. His physical knowledge can't be compared with that of the Earth. But when he looked at those pictures, some ideas appeared in his mind. Immediately, he turned his eyes to the outside of the sea train, which was an endless sea with waves passing by below. Marineford, Science Core Base. A rounder robot is turning around in the laboratory. He hesitated for a while looking at the chemical ingredients, then slowly picked it up, and then started to experiment. Although his fingers are relatively mechanized, but there is no shortage of details when doing experiments. Doctor, this part of the experiment is done. After a while, the round robot said to Vegapunk on the side. Vegapunk didn't turn around, but continued with his current experiment. After he finished it, he finally recovered slowly, stared at the chemical bottles on both sides, and then nodded with satisfaction. It seems. My guess is correct. This also means that, I am going in the right direction now. As long as the remaining 2 steps are done, this puzzle should be solved. Thank you, Godzilla. The round robot named Pythagazilla gestured to Vegapunk and said, You're welcome, Doctor, help me when you help me. This Pythagazilla is a clone of himself created by Vegapunk, because there are too many ideas in his mind, but he only has 1 pair of hands and 1 pile of feet, so in order to improve his work efficiency, he created these 6 clones. 0. Seeking flowers. Immediately afterwards, Vegapunk fell into his own experiments. Marineford. Blackbeard led the entire pirate group and approached this new marine headquarters. The last time he led the entire pirate group here was a big event, and after that big event, the entire Marineford became ruins. Today's Marineford has been rebuilt, but he will soon be in ruins again. Ha 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 ha. Advertisement. Blackbeard laughed maniacally. Little ones, do what you want. Blackbeard waved his hand. Many pirates behind him came out and rushed towards Marineford crazily, and their countless big ships approached the port, firing fierce artillery at Marineford. The marine soldiers who were guarding the scene looked at this scene in disbelief. What's the situation? Blackbeard, why can Blackbeard lead so many people into their Marineford, and they didn't even get any news in advance? And how did they know that this was deliberately arranged by Mikasa for Blackbeard? Boom. In a hail of bullets and bloody wind, the whole Marineford was once again turned into ruins. Whoosh. A light flashed from not far away. It was Paluzolino. He was on duty at the base of the science force just now, but he did not expect such a thing to happen in Marineford. He stared at Blackbeard with a serious expression. He didn't expect that Blackbeard would lead so many people to show up. Besides, they didn't get any information in advance. This is not right. However, Paluzolino still suppressed his composure, looked at Blackbeard leisurely, and said slowly, "Yo. Marshal. Teach, you are here again." Blackbeard eyed Kizaru maliciously. The last time is the one where Kizaru and Xuangyue Kongying appeared together. 186. Afraid of you, a Marine Admiral, Paluzolino? Blackbeard stared darkly at Kizaru. He still remembers how arrogant Kizaru was the last time he appeared with Xuangyue Kongying, and how ruthless he was when he ordered the Seraph robot. He knew that Kizaru really wanted to kill him. Snort. Xuangyue Kongying, I can't afford to offend. I'm still afraid of you as a Marine Admiral? Blackbeard didn't say anything, and a horrible black mist flickered all over his body. The mist was cloudy and sticky, like a pool of disgusting spring water. However, the cloud of mist turned into the shape of a raptor at this moment, galloping towards Paluzolino with its claws flaunting. Faced with this terrifying momentum, Kizaru did not just lightly point a finger like before, but shook his fist at it. With the power of the fruit, 940, Kizaru's the fist quickly turned into a huge beam of light, splitting the black mist of Blackbeard directly and brute force. However, when the light beam touched the black mist, the cloud of mist split into two strangely. Then keep running towards him. Not good. Paluza's face changed slightly. Without the slightest hesitation, he directly activated the fruit ability, turning his body into a beam of light and began to dodge Blackbeard's attack. However, just this one attack, Blackbeard's random attack, made Kizaru so embarrassed at this time. He raised his head and stared at Blackbeard with an ugly face, and there was some inconceivable look in his eyes. This? How is it possible? Blackbeard's strength suddenly became very strong. He. Paluzolino, as long as you hand over Vegapunk obediently, I can spare you. Blackbeard stared at Paluzolino with dark eyes. But Kizaru's eyes flashed at this moment. Vegapunk. So that's what he was aiming for. Kizaru gasped slightly and then pretended to be thinking. Advertisement, Dr. Vegapunk. Oh, so you came to see him. But I can't control him. Why not? I'll help you contact the 5 elders and see if they agree with you to see Dr. Vegapunk. After all, I'm just a part-time worker and get paid, and I have to listen to the above for everything. Hearing this, Blackbeard's face twitched slightly. The damn Kizaru. Is this teasing him? Let the 5 elders come? Then how does he take Vegapunk? Paluzolino. Blackbeard's face immediately became gloomy, and he stared at Paluzolino with a cold look. You really don't want to drink a toast? That being the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. As soon as the words fell, the black mist around Blackbeard appeared again. The terrifying power flew towards Paluzolino quickly. Even though the latter possessed supernatural speed, it was still difficult to get rid of the attacks coming from all directions. And then, Blackbeard turned into a huge green dragon, and the whole body is burning with hot molten lava. Quinn. Go find him, Blackbeard ordered. Quinn on the side nodded, and quickly walked towards the science troop base. Kizaru wanted to leave the battlefield, but was entangled tightly by Blackbeard. Boom. An unprepared attack hit Kizaru, knocking his entire body flying. Boom. Kizaru fell to the ground in dismay, then stared at Blackbeard in disbelief. At this time, Blackbeard not only has the powerful ability of the 3 fruits, but also can control them at will. And his Conqueror's Haki is also quite outstanding, especially the Armament Haki, which seems to be not inferior to himself. What a terrifying strength, and he could sense that this was Blackbeard's ultimate potential. Who knows, will his Haki strength continue to improve? What is even more worrying is, who knows if he can continue to eat the fruit? If that is the case, then such a person with ambition, the Blackbeard, will undoubtedly become the bigger enemy of the world government. Hey, Paluzolino? Advertisement, are you scared? Blackbeard stared at Kizaru coldly. Kizaru stood up from the ruins, and then scanned the entire battlefield. The Seraphim robots have all been put into battle, but the Blackbeard pirates, because of the annexation of the beast's pirates. So their little pirates are all ruthless people who ate the fruit, 2 or 3 together dragged down a Seraph robot. If things go like this, the entire Marineford force can't hold back the current Blackbeard pirates. Facing the approaching Blackbeard, Paluzolino gritted his teeth, and suddenly a strong light burst out from around him. Suddenly, everything around here was shrouded in this strong light, and Kizaru took the opportunity to mobilize all Seraphim robots to retreat towards the science base. Either way, keep Vegapunk inside the science base. Vegapunk is doing experiments. He is concentrating on looking at the data on the big screen, looking at the constantly changing values. At the same time, he is also calculating different results in his mind, and there are many other possible realizations. Doctor, after completing this set of data, the result can be confirmed. Pythagoras said slowly on the side. Vegapunk didn't speak. At this time, a relatively small robot next to him walked out slowly, and then looked at the set of data, and said slowly. There are many uncertainties in this world, even if you are sure about the results of this set of data, but maybe you can change the direction and be just as sure. When we are doing multiple choice questions, we should not jump to conclusions when we see the correct answer. If you look carefully, maybe the other answers are correct, or maybe the 5.9 questions themselves are wrong of. As soon as such words came out, a delicate-faced little girl next to her yelled loudly. Enough, Edison. Stop talking nonsense, especially in front of me. The little robot named Edison turned around, looked at the little girl calmly, and said, Alice. The things I said are real in this world, and I also kindly remind Doctor, how can you say this is nonsense? And didn't I tell you many times? I hope you can calm down, don't be so irritable. I'm mad at you big-headed ghost. If you talk nonsense in front of me again, I'll blow your head off. Atlas, even if you blow my head off, you can't blow off my mind. Advertisement 187. B-Punk's clone. Really? Then I'll blow your head off and see how many thoughts are in your head. Saying that, the little girl named Atlas raised her fist and ran towards Edison. And the fist had already landed on his iron face, making a crisp sound. Immediately afterwards, two people who looked like children beat each other together. It's no use being so savage, Atlas, Edison shouted as he broke free from his restraints. And Atlas kept restraining Edison hard, and finally saw that Edison was about to break free, and even bit him. Edison immediately wailed in pain, but Atlas said disdainfully, "Huh, Edison. You can't solve the problem with just a mouth and a brain." Boom. Suddenly, violent turmoil occurred in the entire laboratory, causing everyone present to shake wolfishly. At this time, a tall and thin robot came over. He calmly separated Edison and Atlas, and then said calmly, "You two stop making noise. Just look at you. If the O6 movement made out of it affects the doctor's experiment, it will be a big problem." This is Shikia. Edison's 6 avatars represent Sakamuni, who represents integrity, Edison, who represents thought, Atlas, who represents violence, Pythagoras, who represents wisdom, and Lilith representing evil, and York representing desire. Before Sakamuni finished speaking, another violent turmoil occurred. Atlas immediately broke free from Sakamuni's hand, and then made a grimace at Sakamuni. "Sakamuni, you idiot. How could such a big movement be caused by the two of us?" Immediately afterwards, the turmoil became more and more intense, more and more frequent, even affecting the progress of Vegapunk and making it impossible to continue. "What's going on here?" York woke up from the sofa beside him. "PhD, Pythagoras cried out in surprise. At this time, Vegapunk continued to carry out his experiment regardless of all interference from the outside world. He vaguely expected something, so he had to complete his experiment at this last moment. "Shikia, Atlas, go out and see what happened. You must not let these movements disturb the doctor's experiment." Advertisement. The Berserk Atlas didn't object either and followed Shikia out. At this time, a figure flashed quickly from a certain corner of the laboratory and left towards the outside. "Lilith," Edison yelled, but that figure didn't stop. "Alas." Edison sighed and then said slowly, "The world is so turbulent, but it has just returned to normal." Quinn led a group of people into the base of the scientific army, but it was not as easy to get in as he imagined. First of all, there are quite strict guards outside the science base, as well as perfect defense barriers. Just breaking through this first layer of defense has already peeled off a layer of his skin. However, when he entered the science base, he discovered that there are many experimental bases inside, and where is Vegapunk? At this time, Sakamuni and others suddenly appeared in front of him. IWC. Bikasa led the crowd to arrive here quickly, and with the help of Parasparrow, they successfully found Charlotte Linlin. Looking at the fat on the ground that seemed to have turned into mud, Bikasa, a look of contempt flashed across Saw's face. "Wangmu, I'll leave this to you. Be sure to clean it up," Bikasa ordered. Huang Mu was actually a little upset. He was also recruited by the world, and he entered the marine earlier than Bikasa. Even Bikasa was able to be admiral, partly because of his good words. But in the end, it was Bikasa who became the marshal, not him. "Yes," Huang Mu said reluctantly. Immediately, the fruit ability began to activate, and a burst of terrifying power poured out of his body. The mighty armament hockey pressed towards the dying Charlotte Linlin from all directions. Soon, Charlotte Linlin felt a pain of suffocation, and this pain lasted for a long time. Charlotte Linlin, who was hungry and tired, opened her eyes immediately after feeling the fatal death. Advertisement. He looked at the group of people in front of him, especially Parasparrow standing behind him, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Parasparrow. A powerful force burst out of Charlotte Linlin's weak body. Charlotte Linlin was furious. She has been downgraded from the once mighty 4 emperors to the embarrassing position she is now. Parasparrow. He deserves the credit, and in her life, she hated this kind of treacherous person the most. Damn Parasparrow, she must turn him into a corpse. Immediately, Charlotte Linlin's fruit ability radiated out, but Parasparrow was not moved by it at all. Suddenly, she saw a ball of something next to Parasparrow's ear, and he unexpectedly be prepared. Just when Charlotte Linlin was in a trance, Parasparrow's figure suddenly appeared in front of her. "Mother, I'm sorry. I'm also doing this for the sake of all nations. 247 is for your own good." Parasparrow approached Charlotte Linlin. His eyes gradually changed from pity to coldness. Boom! Under Parasparrow's attack, Charlotte Linlin, who was already dying, became even weaker. And Huang Mu also saw this situation, directly activated the fruit ability, blocked Charlotte Linlin's way out, and sealed her limbs, making her unable to move. At the same time, he used armament hockey to suppress the power in Charlotte Linlin's body. And Charlotte Linlin's life is also disappearing at this time. And such torture is undoubtedly cruel. At the last moment, Parasparrow turned away. And Charlotte Linlin finally. Shang lost her life. Sensing the disappearance of Charlotte Linlin, Charlotte Parasparrow finally turned around, looked at Charlotte Linlin, who was lying on the ground and lost her vitality, felt a little pity in her heart, and immediately sighed deeply. "Goodbye. Big Moom, my Moom." But Bikasa stepped forward at this time. "You promised us, but you can't go back on your word." Perispero stared at Bikasa, and immediately the corner of his mouth raised a flattering arc. That's natural. 188. Quinn and Lilith Marine, Science Base. Quinn. Sakamuni stared at Quinn indifferently. He knew Quinn. He knew that this person was once a colleague of Dr. Vegapunk, and he also knew that he joined the ranks of pirates later, so he was quite a bad character. However, Vegapunk didn't mention him in the lab, probably because he felt that such a colleague was quite dishonest, so it's hard to talk about it. Quinn. So it's you, a damned B******************* D, who dared to come to the science court and make trouble, Atlas said angrily. And Quinn stared at the robots in front of him indifferently, with a little indifference in his eyes. He didn't know that these were clones of Vegapunk, so he just regarded them as ordinary robots to deal with. And he raised his hands slightly, and a terrifying haki pressured them towards them. But after he activated armament haki, the three robots didn't respond at all, and he could also feel that the shells of these three robots were a bit unusual. Seems to be made of a rather special metal, making it impenetrable for one's own armament haki. What's the situation? Quinn frowned. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. But before he could come up with a general idea, a powerful figure flashed past him. And a huge axe also flashed, and a terrifying power contained in it, making kui because I had to dodge. Boom. Quinn stepped aside at the last moment. It was Zon Taowen who came. Zon Taomaru held a huge axe, and looked directly at Quinn with an unceremonious expression. Quinn? You Blackbeard pirates have such a heavy burden. You dare to reach out to the science team, don't you? Aren't you afraid of the wrath of the celestial dragons? There was an indifferent sneer at the corner of Quinn's mouth. Wrath of the celestial dragons, is it great? What a joke. The reason why he followed Kaido first and then turned to Blackbeard was all to trample celestial dragons. Trample these impotent gods. Pull them down from their high altars, and climb up by yourself. Advertisement. Hearing what Quinn said, Zon's face cramped slightly. The reason why he said that was just to delay some time, so he used the celestial dragons to suppress Quinn. After all, although the authority of the world government is not there, the five elders are still standing on top of the world. But unexpectedly, this Quinn did not pay attention to celestial dragons so much. Quinn, you know, we are now in power with the World 7. Zon Taowen also wants to take out the 7 rulings of the world to suppress Quinn. But Quinn didn't like this at all. Are you kidding me? The 7th World's ruling party did it against the Blackbeard pirates entirely for their own benefit, but under the shameless propaganda of the world government, it is not said that it is cooperation between them and the 7th World's ruling party. Do you want to use this to use the authority of the world's 7 rulers to suppress yourself? It's ridiculous. Didn't I expect that the majestic world government would become a vassal of the world's 7 rulers? Quinn did not hide his contemptuous sneer, and immediately turned his eyes. Looking at Zon Taowen, he said indifferently, Zon Taowen, don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. You're just trying to stall for time by chatting with me here, until the 5 elders get past Mariajoy. Right? Facing Quinn's direct gaze, and the fact that he had guessed what was in his heart, Quinn immediately felt naked. Then, Quinn looked at Zon Taowen with more coldness in his eyes, and a strange arc was slowly drawn from the corner of his mouth. It's useless. To tell you the truth, the road from Marineford to Mariajoy. We have prepared a complete blockade and circuit interference. It is impossible for your message to reach Mariajoy, of course. Also it's not impossible, but that's after we've done something right. Hearing this, Zon Taowen was startled. He knew that he had no need to delay, so he shouted decisively, Seraphim, take down all the intruders. The numerous Seraphim robots floating behind him moved in response to the sound. Bright lights flashed in their eyes, and they rushed towards different directions one after another, and their methods were quite simple and rude. Soon became entangled with the Emperor's Blackbeard pirates crew. And Zon Taomaru, together with the 2 Seraph robots, faced Quinn together. Zon Taowen, as long as you hand over Vegapunk obediently, I can walk around you without dying, Quinn sneered. At this time, even if Zon Taowen fought against Quinn with the 2 Seraph robots, he was completely at a disadvantage. Under Quinn's vigorous means, the Seraph robot became a lump scrap iron, and then there is the single-player battle between Zon Taowen and Quinn. But Zon Taomaru, who is not as strong as Vice Admiral, how can he beat Quinn, who is at the level of Emperor Vice Admiral? Advertisement. Boom. Boom. Zon Taowen's body was quickly dropped to the ground, and his body was in a state of disarray, dying as if there was only a trace of life left. No, you are not allowed to disturb the doctor. Zon Taomaru shouted with all his strength. His vision was blurred at this time, but he kept crawling towards Quinn. He wanted to grab Quinn's feet and stop him from moving forward, but in the blurred vision, he failed again and again. Quinn looked at the 3 Sakamuni at this time. You 3, do you know where Vegapunk is? Atlas looked at Quinn, an ugly, Jiao guy, and got angry. Why did I tell you? Why did Lousy tell you? You beat my best playmate, Zon Taowen, like this miserable. Don't think you are powerful, Lousy is afraid of you. Shikia was very calm. May I ask Dr. Vegapunk, what's the matter? At the same time, Lilith on the side couldn't hold back her body. She jumped towards Quinn, and at the same time, she landed nimbly in front of Quinn. Follow this trash, what nonsense. Hey, little scum, don't you want to know where Vegapunk is? Come on, fight with me, I'll tell you if I win. Quinn looked suspiciously at Lilith in front of him. This Lilith. Looks like a girl, but her pupils are a rare red. There was a sneer on Quinn's face. Okay, 189. Paluzolino's hardship. Seeing that Quinn agreed to Lilith, Sakamuni and Atlas behind could not help but feel a little sorry for Quinn. It seems. The doctor can continue to do his experiments with peace of mind, Atlas said slowly. Sakamuni also shook his head. Why is there so much fighting in the world? Marineford, Port. Perusalino, after being a Marine Admiral for so many years, did you just learn to run all the time? Blackbeard looked at the running figure with a sneer, his eyes filled with contempt. Finally, after hiding for so many years, he finally has the time to feel proud. In the past, Marine Admiral was so unreachable in front of his eyes. Even when the big event happened a while ago, his strength was not enough to challenge a Marine Admiral. But after he successfully ate after harvesting 2 fruits, his strength increased greatly. Now, even the invincible Marine Admiral at the time can only run away obediently in front of him. Pelusalino's face was constantly sweating, and at the same time, there was resentment on his face. Damn. How could it be worth his life with such a small salary? But, if he retreats now, what about the doctor behind him? That is much more important than his salary, and, when will the 5 elders come? Damn. Afterwards, it seemed that he was a little tired of the yellow ape's constant fleeing. Blackbeard dug out the earwax in his ear, and then popped it out quite casually, and finally looked at Pelusalino disapprovingly. Borisalino, Rusalino. You are not waiting for Mary Joy's support right now, are you? Faced with the idea in his heart being seen through, Pelusalino did not show too much emotion, but when he found that Blackbeard's face was quite calm at this time, he still couldn't help feeling a little uneasy. Why? How can Blackbeard be so confident? Immediately, Blackbeard stared at Pelusalino and said slowly, because I'm already ready. Perusalino, you don't think I'm that stupid, do you? Or do you think I'm arrogant? Although I have self-confidence, I don't know what self-confidence is. That's right. 5 elders teaming up is indeed a threshold that I can't cross now. But so what? I'm still targeting 5 elders, it's just Vegapunk. Hearing this, Pelusalino felt the terror of Blackbeard again. But come to think of it, how can a person who can endure so many years on the Whitebeard ship, and even act like this, be an ordinary person? When Pelusalino was stunned, a black mist spread from Blackbeard's body, and then directly entangled Pelusalino's entire body. Immediately afterwards, Pelusalino was firmly held by Blackbeard. The ground is held in the palm of the hand, unable to move. Advertisement, Pelusalino eyed Blackbeard with hatred. And Blackbeard looked down at Pelusalino in his hand with a sneer in his eyes. Kizaru. Tell me, where's Vegapunk? Okay, then I'll tell you, Pelusalino sighed. But Blackbeard was overjoyed at this time, and he slowly put his ear close to Pelusalino. But at this moment, Salusalino broke away from Blackbeard directly, and flew towards the outside of Marineford at a very fast speed. The situation is urgent now, no matter what, must save Vegapunk's life. After being tricked by Kizaru, Blackbeard immediately showed great anger. The damn Kizaru. I gave him a chance, this is him. Do not eat toast, eat fine wine, then don't blame him for being rude. Polusari, AGDJ. No, Blackbeard looked towards the direction where Pelusalino was fleeing, and his eyes were full of anger. IWC. The news of Charlotte Linland's loss of life, under Perospero's propaganda, quickly spread to every place in the world. And he also announced another thing. He, Charlotte Perospero, will be succeeded as King of Nations in 2 or 3 days. As for this news, the Straw Hats naturally knew about it. Luffy, we need to speed up our actions. Perospero has already entered the world with Marine, maybe he will find us soon. Usopp said with some concern. Luffy nodded. He knew that it seemed like the eyes of the whole world were on him now. People outside said, what kind of savior is he? What is the reincarnation of Joey Boy, the son of destiny who will lead the whole world from darkness to light? But he actually likes these titles at all. These titles seem to be honor and mission to outsiders, but to him they're a heavy bondage. Destiny? Let that thing go shit. Advertisement lousy doesn't want to be the savior of the world, he just wants to have a happy adventure in the sea, and then, become his One Piece. Half a day later, Luffy and the others finally arrived at the agreed port and were about to leave Wonguo. Let's go, everyone said excitedly. Hey, Luffy, what did you buy? Zoro looked at Luffy and asked. Luffy grinned at Zoro, and then slowly opened his backpack which was several times bigger than himself, and it turned out that it was all filled with meat. Meat. What else can it be? I knew it, Zoro touched his face. At this moment, Thousand Sunnies suddenly heard a huge vibration. The vibration even made them stunned, and they turned their heads immediately, looking at the densely packed warships in front of them. Their expressions finally changed a little unbearably. Army, warship. So much, damn. Are you slowing down, Ms. Nami, Ms. Robin, please hide in my body shop. Luffy also tensed up, because on the warship, he sensed many auras. Immediately afterwards, a man came out of the leading warship slowly, with an indifferent expression, just staring at Luffy coldly. Straw Hat Boy, long time no see. Everyone in the Straw Hats looked at him with ugly expressions. Because that person was the one who had been entangled with them for a long time in Fontaine. It is also the current Marine Marshal, Wa Leopard, Bikasa. At the same time, 2 people appeared beside him. They are the 2 Marine Admirals of today, Green Cattle Ranching. Black Lion Mobutu, 190. Let's choose one. Luffy stared at the few people in front of him with a serious expression, and immediately there was a gloomy look in his eyes. Talking about the impression of Marine, Luffy still has a good impression of the previous Marine. After all, his grandfather was there, and he has also been in contact with many Marines since he was a child. Regarding the word justice behind them, he also has a little understanding and feelings. However, for the current Marine, he doesn't have any good feelings at all. Luffy. Be careful, have you seen those robots? Sanji stared at the densely packed Seraph robots with vigilant eyes, and then said with a heavy face. Those are the latest research and development achievements of Marine, Seraphim robot. It is said that each of them is comparable to Shichibukai in strength. Hearing this, everyone in the Straw Hats couldn't help frowning. They have seen Shichibukai's strength, Crocodile, Doflamingo. Each one is not so easy to deal with. Unexpectedly, each of the densely packed robots in front of me has a strength comparable to that of Shichibukai. Then, how many Shichibukai will each of them have to deal with? Just because each of them puts out a skill, can directly drown them. In such a situation, there is no possibility for us to win, Nami said with a gloomy expression. Luffy confronted Mikasa with eyes. Of course, knowing the current situation, he is not unreasonable. At this time, Mikasa glanced at Zoro next to him. He still remembers that last time it was this green-haired kid who forced himself into such a mess. But this time, he wants to get everything back. At least let this kid get to know him well. What is it? It's called Martial Marine. Straw Hat Boy. Now, obediently let him go, you still have a chance to survive. Your partners, I can also let them live. Mikasa's words are undoubtedly quite powerful. He wants to achieve his goal more easily by sowing discord among the pirates. But he underestimated the feelings of the Straw Hats. You black ball. Who is going to let you go? It is the greatest shame in my life to be let go by someone like you. Usopp stood on the deck, pointing at Mikasa and cursing. The rest of the Straw Hats couldn't help laughing too. Hearing this insulting word, Mikasa couldn't help but blushed. These damn pirates, do not eat toast, eat fine wine. Since this is the case, then you can't blame him for being cruel. Mikasa stared at the Straw Hat group coldly, his eyes were full of murderous intent. Advertisement, if that's the case, then you can just be buried here. At the same time, Luffy also hurriedly said to the Straw Hats and the others, partners, the situation is urgent. Listen to me, Frankie, Nami, you guys are going to manipulate Thousand Sunny, make sure we can escape from here. Robin, Chopper, Brook, pay attention to Thousand Sunny. We must protect our silent partner, and ensure that the attacks of those people will not fall on Frankie. Usopp, you are responsible for covering us. Finally, Luffy stood on the deck, looking at Mikasa indifferently. Zoro, Sanji, Zoro and Sanji also responded and stood by his side. Here I am. It's already ready. At some point, Sanji had another lit cigarette in his mouth. And Luffy's eyes were full of fighting spirit at this time. Choose one for each person. Zoro had already prepared his three-sword style at this time, and stared at that black lion with a knife like him. Sanji closed his eyes, quietly feeling the smoke from his throat, and then moistened his lungs, releasing a very comfortable feeling. And after he finished smoking a cigarette, he finally opened his mouth. He closed his eyes and looked directly at 11 Uwangu. And Luffy looked at Mikasa. Bring it on, let's fight. The battle begins directly. Science Force Base. Quinn and Lilith got into a fight. What shocked Quinn was that although this Lilith didn't have the fruit ability, and didn't even have Haki. But he couldn't do anything to her at all, and even if he activated the armament Haki to the greatest extent, he couldn't. It just slows down her attack speed. The feeling of fighting Lilith reminded Quinn of the Seraph robot. Are you a robot? Quinn looked at Lilith in disbelief. Advertisement. If this is the case, it would shock Quinn too much. This also means that Vegapunk already has the ability to manufacture robots higher than Seraphim, but it is limited by mass production or other reasons, not used on a large scale. Lilith looked at Quinn, with a careless arc on the corner of her mouth. None of your business? You really want to know? I don't know why, when Quinn looked at Lilith's eyes at this time, he actually felt a little hairy in his heart. It was a sharp blade that directly hit the evil deep in his heart. Boom. Outside the science base, a group of Blackbeard pirates slowly rushed in. 0. Chief among them is Shiryu. Shiryu glanced at the scene indifferently, then stared at Quinn and said slowly, why haven't you found Vegapunk yet? Quinn glanced at him sullenly, how do you find this? Only at this time did Niliu notice Lilith. At this time, Sakamuni, who was watching the battle, also slowly stood up. Shiryu of the Rain, formerly the head of the Impel Down Guard, was sentenced to probation because he often killed prisoners indiscriminately, so he can enter the #1 prison in Impel Down. The 6th floor, and later joined the Blackbeard pirates. Shiryu of the Rain stared at the tall and thin robot with some playfulness in his eyes. Robot. Sakamuni didn't care about Shiryu's contempt, but just looked at him calmly. Vegapunk is very busy, so he didn't pay attention to you. And you broke into the base of the Science Army like this, and you will bear the greatest anger of the world government, you know what? Shiryu took a puff of a big cigarette, and the corner of his mouth raised a sneer. So what? Could it be that if we don't come today, the world government will let us go? Facing Shiryu's contempt, Sakamuni shook his head calmly. No, different. If you don't come today, then although the world government has complaints against you, and will step on you when you are down, it will definitely not be like this, where you will never die. Maru. 191. Undead. Hearing what Sakamuni said, Shiryu didn't stop at all. Yeah, the world government won't show any tolerance for them, so what? He was originally a desperado. Is it important that the world government's pursuit is endless? No, it doesn't matter to him. it doesn't matter at all. Even when he hears the word endless, there was a bit of excitement in the pair's eyes. However, Quinn on the side felt a little flustered. People like Shiryu and Blackbeard are outlaws, but he's not. He still wants to live and he has so much to accomplish. How terrible is it that the world government is endlessly chasing and killing people? Facing Shiryu's constant approach, Sakamuni sighed and finally walked forward slowly. 380. It seems, you will definitely become our enemy today. The smoke at the corner of Shiryu's mouth has been drawn halfway, and the mouth and nose are constantly spraying out smoke, and then he looked at Sakamuni with disdain. What are you? Isn't it a robot? Do you believe it? I can do it with a single sword? Cut you in half? Shikia looked calm. 2 halves? I don't know what 2 halves are. A sneer twitched at the corner of Shiryu's mouth. You'll find out soon enough. As soon as the words fell, Shiryu swung his sharp sword and slashed towards Sakamuni's direction. The terrifying Conqueror's haki was released at this moment, and Sakamuni dodged away vigorously, then stood not far away, confronting Shiryu face to face. Shiryu of the Rain, I will issue the highest warning to you again. Do you have to become my enemy? Shiryu was still a little dazed about Shikia's dodge just now. He didn't expect that a robot could have such a vigorous posture. Moreover, when he released armament haki by himself just now, he didn't seem to have any sense of pressure on this robot. Shiryu stared at Shikia coldly. A robot, how can there be so much nonsense? The mechanical version of Sakamuni's eyes suddenly glowed with a flash of red light, and then the machinery around him changed slightly. The whole body seemed to be covered with a layer of clothing. Advertisement, Atlas, help me defeat Shiryu of the Rain. Although Sakamuni is a robot, it is also a clone robot made by Vegapunk for himself. They have a very high ability of logical thinking and emotional expression. At this time, Sakamuni has started a program he set for himself: stop this group of enemies at all costs and capture Dr. Vegapunk. HMPH, why should I help you? Atlas said childishly. But Sakamuni's face was indifferent. I promise you, I will do your laboratory hygiene next time. Atlas immediately jumped up from the stool. Okay, you promised me this, don't go back on your word. And Sakamuni was watching Shiryu with all his heart at this time, and he didn't look at Atlas at all. He could perceive that this person was quite terrifying, and he definitely couldn't deal with it alone. Wongwo, mouth, boom, boom, Luffy and Bakassar, Zoro and Green Bull, Sanji and Mobutu, the 3 of them fought on 3 warships, and they fought hard. At the beginning, both Luffy and Sanji were able to gain a small advantage in terms of strength against Bakassa and Mobutu, but with the addition of Seraphim robots, they could only fall into passive defense. On the other side, Zoro had an inseparable battle with 11 Uwangmu. At the same time, their long distance is also assisted by Usopp and Chopper. Especially Usopp, who exerted his superb reflexes and observation haki, and constantly resisted unknown attacks for the 3 of Luffy, making the 3 of them people can concentrate on playing against the 3 of Bakassa. On the warship of 11 Uwangmu, you kid, how could you be so powerful? Green Bull Wangmu stared at Zoro with some surprise. Is everyone in the Straw Hats a monster? It's okay that the Captain Luffy is the legendary child of destiny. Why does this green-haired kid have such a powerful ability? Can't even hold him down. Zoro didn't respond, just continued to fight against the green cow and wild animal husbandry, and even his movements became faster and faster. On the other side, the fight between Sanji and Mobutu became more and more intense. Advertisement on board the Bakassa warship. Luffy, whether it is the fruit ability or haki, has suppressed Bakassa to death, and even has the strength to block those Seraphim robots that are about to run towards Thousand Sunny. In this way, Bakassa looked quite embarrassed. He stared at Luffy coldly, full of murderous intent in his eyes. Damn it, he is bloodthirsty, and this is the first time he has encountered such a stubble today. And more importantly, with the help of 5 elders, he has gone to the scientific army to obtain some serum, which has slightly improved his strength. But even so, he was still beaten a little in front of Luffy. There is no way to fight back. Bakassa. Luffy rushed towards Bakassa with a loud voice. Seeing this, Bakassa shrunk his body subconsciously. However, the range of Luffy's attack was quite large, making his small body keep going all the way down in the ruins of the warship. Numerous wreckage passed through his body. Bakassa breathlessly returned to the prototype. He lay on the ground in embarrassment, looking up at the sky. He really didn't expect that he would lose so badly. Bakassa. However, Luffy's attacks show no signs of stopping, but when he was about to continue to attack Bakassa, 0.4 was entangled by the 7 or 8 Seraph robots. Even with the support of Usopp in the rear, there was no way to alleviate his difficult situation at the moment. After feeling what happened to Luffy, Bakassa slowly stood up and then took out something from his pocket. That's a pill. It is the latest enhancement pill developed by the scientific forces. As long as he takes this pill, his strength can be temporarily increased violently, and the injuries he has suffered can also be suspended. Although the increase in strength is quite limited, there are no side effects, but you can't eat too much. Luffy the Straw Hat. Bakassa stared darkly at Luffy. In his cloudy eyes, Luffy is like a chick who keeps dodging, and he wants to catch him and kill him. 192. Flying Thousand Sunny, Straw Hat Boy, you have no chance to repent. Bakassa's eyes were cold, and he immediately swallowed the pill. Suddenly, the strength of Bakassa's body was soaring, a terrifying momentum burst out from his body, and the powerful armament haki couldn't restrain himself from overflowing. This change made Luffy look sideways, and Usopp of Thousand Sunny also noticed this scene. he looked at the mutated Mikasa, and couldn't help shouting at Luffy with worry. Luffy, be careful. Although I am very worried about Luffy, what can Usopp do now on Thousand Sunny? Thinking of this, Usopp clenched his weapon, and at the same time shot more desperately at the enemies coming from all directions. He must be careful, protect your partner carefully, protect Thousand Sunny. Boom. Usopp moved faster and faster, and his eyes became more determined. And on the warship. Faced with the changes in Mikasa, Luffy's eyes could not help but show seriousness. 06. You are, and Mikasa showed a look of enjoyment on his face. He already felt the power in his body, which was quite warm, and the pain in his body suddenly dissipated. He tried to clench his fists, feeling that his strength from now on was indeed a little bit stronger than before, and he was still much weaker in dealing with Luffy the Straw Hat Kid. But at this time Mikasa looked at Luffy with a sneer in his eyes. Even if I can't beat Luffy in a one-on-one match, so what? Number 2. And so many Seraphs, Seraphim, give me orders. Attack the Straw Hats' pirate ships with all their might. Sink that unsightly pirate group to me, and the guy with the long nose, get him. Mikasa issued an order, and the blazing angel robots behind him immediately started to carry out their tasks one by one. Don't want, Luffy growled. He jumped towards those Seraphs, and at the same time, his whole body quickly rubberized, trying to stop all Seraphim robots. But the hot lasers of those Seraphim. Advertisement. The shots shot at Luffy's body one after another, even with armament hockey, the pain was unbearable. Luffy. Chopper's pupils constricted, and he looked at Luffy tremblingly at this moment, covered with scars. Absolute, cannot, let you hurt my partner. Luffy said through gritted teeth. Facing such Luffy, Mikasa showed a sneer. Hey. Block it, I will kill you alone at that time, just right. Mikasa looked at Luffy and sneered. However, Luffy still blocked there, stopping many Seraph robots. At this moment, Franky came out from the control room. Everyone, I declare, Thousand Sunny, super escape skills, ready, Franky said confidently. Really? Usopp looked at Franky incredulously, as if grasping at straws. Franky patted his chest confidently. Trust me, let them come back. Hearing this sentence, Usopp and Chopper quickly shouted to a person on the warship. Hey, Luffy, Zoro, G. We are ready. At this moment, Luffy looked at Thousand Sunny behind him, finally showing a smile on his face. Immediately, he let go of the arm that blocked many Seraphim robots, and then landed on the warship in human form, looking at Mikasa with a smile on his face. Marshal Marine, I'm sorry. Let's play with you here first, we're going to escape. However, Mikasa just looked at Luffy with a sneer on his face. HMPH, escape. Where can you escape to? You know, the entire port is surrounded by them, and there is still Charlotte Parasparrow's assistance in the territory of Wanguo, so they have no way out. Where can they escape? Run away, I'll run away for you, Mikasa sneered disdainfully. However, Luffy directly stretched his arms, left the warship, and returned to Thousand Sunny. Meanwhile, Zoro and Sanji have returned to Thousand Sunny. Marshal. They are all going back to the pirate ship, should we catch up? Mobutu looked at Mikasa and asked. However, Mikasa is still full of disdain. They have been surrounded by us, even if they retreat. Where can they retreat? Can they still fly away? Advertisement. Mikasa stared at Thousand Sunny indifferently. Since they went back to the ship, let's let that ship be buried with them. All units obey orders, all warship shells, aim at the Straw Hats. Yes, all of a sudden, all the forts were aimed at the Straw Hat Regiment. And on Thousand Sunny, Usopp looked at the many forts that were on the string, and he couldn't help but flashed for a while, and then shouted anxiously. Franky, Luffy, Sanji, Zoro has already returned to the ship, use whatever you have bar. A smile curled up on Franky's mouth. Hey, everyone. Be prepared. We are about to set sail. The next moment, he took a hidden button on the cockpit. And at this moment, Thousand Sunny suddenly felt a tremor. Immediately afterwards, they felt that there seemed to be a majestic force surging inside the ship. Afterwards, they felt that the hull of the ship seemed to be accelerating rapidly. Then, it took off, and countless strong winds swept across their faces, and their bodies gradually moved away from the sea and approached the sky. Wow. Franky, it's amazing, we actually took off. Ah, Zoro. I'm scared, Chopper gripped Zoro's sleeve. And Luffy ran to the bow excitedly, enjoying the wind across his face. It's so interesting that we actually flew. At the same time, Mikasa and the others on the warship stared blankly at the Thousand Sunny flying past, their brains briefly paralyzed. It wasn't until Luffy was completely lost in the sky that Mikasa finally recovered. Depend on. Mikasa's face twisted. Marshal, they really flew away. Mobutu couldn't help but shook his head. Mikasa glanced at Mobutu coldly. Right now his mind is full of, how will he explain it to the 5 elders later? He took so many people and gave Blackbeard the opportunity to attack Marineford, but he still missed the Straw Hat in the end. 193. Our time is running out. Marineford, Marine Science Corps Base. The people of the Marine Science Troop are equipped with the latest weapons. Using these weapons, they barely resisted the crazy attack of the Blackbeard pirates. On the other side, Lilith blocked Quinn with quite tenacious strength. Sakamuni and Atlas teamed up and also entangled Shiryu. The situation here has stabilized a little. How is this possible? Shiryu looked at the 2 people in front of him blankly. What surprised him was that these 2 people possessed such strength. And what made him feel even more uncomfortable was that the metal material of these two robots seemed to be somewhat special, which could isolate the Haki's attack, allowed them to ignore armament Haki, whom they had cultivated for so long, and simply use their physical skills and their own technological capabilities to slow down his progress. At this time, Shiryu was a little tired, but Shikia and Atlas were still full of energy because they were robots. Damn. Shiryu was a little annoyed. They have calculated thousands of times, and even before the 7 rulers of the world have taken action against them, they have already prepared to attack Marineford for this day. But they did not expect that there would be such a small mistake, and the entire situation would be destroyed, ruined? No. This is an unacceptable result for him, and just at this time, the entire sky where they were was shrouded in a kind of darkness. Sakamuni raised his head calmly, and immediately said earnestly, "Not good. It seems that we can't stop this time." Immediately, Blackbeard's figure slowly appeared in everyone's sight. Admiral. Hash. Everyone in the Blackbeard group looked at Marshall, Teach. And Blackbeard stared at the three of Lilith with a cold expression, and then looked at Quinn indifferently. "Have you not found Vegapunk yet?" Quinn looked a little aggrieved. "We didn't expect to meet these robots here. They are strong. I really can't go any further." Blackbeard glanced at Lilith and the three of them coldly. Advertisement, Kizaru has left Marineford. I can't catch him. If my predictions are correct, he should now go to Mariajoy and form the 5 elders. Hearing this, both Quinn and Shiryu froze. 5 elders. If Kizaru really went to call the 5 elders over, then their actions today would be considered a failure. At that time, they will face endless pursuit by the world government, and they will even it's not worth the candle if you didn't catch Vegapunk. Our time is running out. A black flame burned in Blackbeard's hand. Immediately, he threw the flame into a laboratory. Since you don't want to tell me where Vegapunk is. Blackbeard's eyes were cold, even under the blazing flames. His face still seemed to be covered with frost, and he said indifferently, "Okay, then you and Vegapunk, die together in this place that you want to be loyal to." After saying that, Blackbeard snapped his fingers. The mass of black spread instantly turned into a stormy sea, like a huge beast, quickly engulfing more than half of the science base. But Sakamuni still looked directly at Blackbeard with a calm tone. "Marshal Teach, do you know how much loss your behavior will bring to the world? It is no exaggeration to say that if Dr. Vegapunk is really buried here today, then the world's technology will be set back 100 years, and the breakthrough that is just around the corner will become even more difficult." And Blackbeard just looked at Shikia with a sneer on his face. He lost to the world? He doesn't care about any of this. He doesn't care about the future development of this world at all. Even if the future develops to a particularly good point, so what? Can it help him rule the world more stably? What he cares about is whether he can rule the world better. The world is all. I don't want to know, and I'm not interested in knowing. Blackbeard's mouth curled up in a strange curve. The next moment, Blackbeard stretched out his left hand towards Sakamuni. Immediately afterwards, a group of black flames burning around him quickly spread to Sakamuni's body, but did not invade into his body. But he felt a strong grip, constantly compressing his body. Immediately, his body was caught in front of Blackbeard. He looked straight at Blackbeard nonchalantly. "Hey hey." Advertisement. Blackbeard looked directly at Shikia with a sneer. "Since you care so much about the future development of the world, why don't you tell me, where the hell is Vegapunk? Then, the Vegapunk you've been thinking about can survive, and the future of this world can be preserved. And, I can keep you alive." Sakamuni said calmly, "I'm sorry, there is no such option in my program instructions." Instead of getting angry, Blackbeard smiled coldly. "Since this is the case, then I can only respect your choice." Afterwards, Blackbeard began to lightly clench his fists. At the same time, Sakamuni also felt that his body was being tightly held, and a fierce force was gradually penetrating through the surface of his body. The leafed gap penetrated into his body. And at this time, Blackbeard finally discovered his body structure. "You robot. You're not normal." Blackbeard's mouth curved into a sneer. He can feel that this robot is very powerful, not only in its strength, but also in all aspects of his thinking logic, which is much better than Seraphim. If this thing can be mass-produced, then his ambition to rule the world will go one step further. "Of course not ordinary, you can't destroy me. Even if you destroy my body, my memory will still remain in the laboratory. Soon, I will continue to be reborn again," Blackbeard sneered. Okay. Since you are so confident, let me take a good look at how you will be reborn later." After saying that, Blackbeard burst into a black flame, and then quickly engulfed Sakamuni's entire body. When the flames dissipated, Sakamuni's body had completely disappeared in this world. Blackbeard glanced coldly. "Find it for me. Must find me Vegapunk." Ambition flashed in Blackbeard's eyes. As soon as Vegapunk is captured, his world domination is close at hand. 194. Undead time passed by little, but they searched the entire laboratory, but they couldn't find any Vegapunk. Seeing this, Blackbeard couldn't help being furious. Hateful. He planned so thoroughly that even 2 of the top 4 Marines belonged to him, and he also knew deeply that since he had only this one step, there was really nothing between him and the world government. Possibility of easing. At that time, there will be an endless competition between them. However, he still hasn't found Vegapunk. That's what annoyed him the most. "Admiral, what shall we do now?" Badgers looked at Blackbeard with some concern. Blackbeard glanced deeply at the base of the scientific army, and the black flames were constantly reflected in his eyes. While he clenched his fists tightly, his face still looked rather ugly. This time, they turned Marineford upside down, but their main purpose was still not achieved. Let's withdraw first, Blackbeard said in a cold tone. According to the time calculation, Kizaru should have arrived at Marineford and informed the 5 elders. If nothing else, the 5 elders should arrive in Marineford soon. And the strength of the 5 elders, that's not something he can stop now. Before leaving Marineford 490, Blackbeard took a deep look at the Marine Science Force base and immediately clenched his fists again, with angry black flames flashing in his eyes. Damn Marine, next time I will definitely catch Vegapunk. By the time the 5 elders arrived at Marineford, the Blackbeard pirates had already left. And they looked at the ruins of Marineford, and they couldn't help feeling infinite melancholy and anger in their hearts. This damn Marshal Teach, how dare you be so presumptuous? For Marine, Vegapunk is a pinnacle to stabilize the world. 5 elders always believe that as long as Vegapunk is still in their camp, they may have higher technological capabilities and powerful strength. Then the possibility of the world being subverted will become smaller. Therefore, Vegapunk is the reverse scale of their world government. And at this time, advertisement this damn Blackbeard has undoubtedly touched their reverse scales. Immediately, a person walked slowly from the ruins, and then said to 5 elders respectfully, "Return to 5 elders. We did not find Vegapunk again, a GDJ, in the Science Force base, and no body was found about him." The curly-haired 5 elders at the head were a little annoyed. "Go ahead and find it for me. Live to see people, die to see corpses." Yes. The soldiers below dare not disobey. At this time, 5 elders with glasses looked at the ruins in front of him, and couldn't help sighing. Alas. Vegapunk should have been robbed by that Blackbeard. I really didn't expect him to do such a thing, but from this point of view, his ambitions may not be limited to the One Piece. Hearing this, the other 5 elders couldn't help but fell into silence. Stealing Vegapunk is enough to see Blackbeard's huge ambitions. HMPH. How much have we invested in Vegapunk over the years? Can Blackbeard afford it? And this Marine Science Force base alone? Cost us so much? The damned Blackbeard. How dare he? One of the 5 elders gritted his teeth in rage. Even if Vegapunk is robbed by Blackbeard, they shouldn't be able to make waves in the short term. I've sent CP0 to track down Blackbeard. Make sure to get Vegapunk back. Kizaru on the side just listened to their conversation quietly, and then looked at the ruined Marineford with his eyes quietly. Couldn't help but feel a lot of emotion in his heart. This place that has accompanied him for so many years has been destroyed like this in such a period of time, and it was twice. Where's Bikasa? 5 elders asked suddenly, and Kizaru replied slowly, Bikasa. He set off to Wangguo in the past 2 days to capture the Straw Hat Boy. It makes no sense. Advertisement? Catch a Straw Hat Boy. Do you need so many people? Not only did you transfer all 3 admirals, but you also transferred nearly half of the Seraphim robots in Marine Base. This led to so many losses in Marineford today. He is the marshal. He has an unshirkable responsibility. Hearing what 5 elders said, Kizaru suddenly pleaded for Bikasa. People all over the world are worried about the future development trend of the world. What's even more worrying is that everyone knows Blackbeard's style, and they don't know if he will do something more wicked after he kidnaps Vegapunk. Anyway, Blackbeard must be found. We must tear him to pieces. But the 5 elders are still on fire. You know, Vegapunk is the one who claims to be able to bring about miracles. Somewhere in the New World, Blackbeard attacked Marineford and took Vegapunk away, which undoubtedly means that the struggle between the Blackbeard pirates and the world government will intensify, and in the future. The news that Marineford was destroyed by Blackbeard, and that Vegapunk was also taken away by Blackbeard, immediately shocked the whole world and became the headline of the World Daily. Compared with this explosive news, the death of the former 4 emperors, Charlotte Linlin, the news can only be stranded. But now, there are more and more legends about Vegapunk, and more pirates are trying to take Vegapunk away. Not only did I not get anything, but I also got myself into opponents like world government and celestial dragons. Conflicts will become more intense and frequent. Blackbeard couldn't help but look sad. Elder. I don't think Bikasa can be blamed entirely. After all, capturing the Straw Hat Boy is a very important matter for us. And I didn't expect that Blackbeard would have such courage. But at this moment, their Blackbeard pirates are undoubtedly equivalent to being baked on the shelf. Snort. Quinn looked at the newspaper with an indifferent expression, and then said angrily, this group of damn media, and the world government, which is spreading propaganda everywhere. We kidnapped Vegapunk. But we don't even have a single figure of Vegapunk. Didn't see it. He knows. It turned out that he was in the world government, and no one dared to touch him. After all, the disciples of the world government are quite solid, and over time, everyone felt that Vegapunk seemed to belong to the world government. 195. Wonderful World Ricewife. Xuangyue Kongying ended the day's lottery draw, and he got quite a lot of relics and equipment today. This can take his strength to a higher level. Judging from his current strength, if he meets the 5 elders again, he should be able to take him down more easily. Apart from Tianli Hall, Xuangyue Kongying began to review the latest newspapers. Looking at this single thing that happened in the world, Xuangyue Kongying couldn't help but feel the pleasure of eating melons. In the past, he used to watch the wonderful events in the pirate world in comics and animations, but he did not expect that he is now in this world, even in the center of this turbulent waves. Charlotte Linlin pays Lopello. The newspaper wrote that Charlotte Linlin, who used to be the 4 emperors, had been buried in Wangguo, and the striker might be the current Marine Marshal Bikasa, and her son Perispero was also involved. Before Charlotte Linlin died, many of her sons and daughters left her, chief among them Perispero and Katakuri. Alas. The former 4 emperors. Xuangyue Kongying couldn't help but shook his head. The world is changing so fast. Today, both Kaido and Charlotte Linlin have completely withdrawn from the world stage. At this time, on the big stage of the world, there are undoubtedly only the last few players left. The world government controlled by the celestial dragons, although their strength is much weaker, after all, they have the foundation for so many years, and there are the tyrannical 5 elders, and the unknown I am, the lean camel is bigger than the horse. Secondly, there is the revolutionary army, who take it as their mission to overthrow the rule of the world government. And it has already occupied East Blue and West Blue, almost half of the world, and its leader, the dragon, is also a very strong person, and it seems that Garp and Sengoku are also counted as its backstage. The Blackbeard Pirates. After its leader Blackbeard ate 3 fruits, his strength became the peak in the world. Even Marine Admiral Kizaru, who represented the top combat power in the world, was even defeated by Blackbeard. This also means that unless the 5 elders join forces, there should be no strength in this world that can resist him. The strength of the Straw Hat Pirates has grown quite strongly, and the Captain Luffy is still a child of destiny. At the same time, they also met their big ship group along the way, the Straw Hat Pirates. At present, there are Bardo Club, Handsome Pirates, Eddie Pirates, and Hoda Maria ships. In terms of power, they are no worse than Whitebeard. And then, there's the Whitebeard Pirates. Although they are still listed as the new 3 emperors, there is no doubt that they have fallen behind the Blackbeard Pirates and the Straw Hats in terms of top combat power and sphere of influence. At the same time, there are the Lost Red Hair Pirates, Golden Lion Pirates, the Reorganized Katakuri Pirates, Crocodile Pirates, and the Kid Pirates who are constantly fighting, Hawkins Pirates, Heart Pirates and more. Advertisement: they are all ready to move, looking forward to stepping on that wonderful world stage. But of course, under the world stage, there is another powerful force. Although he did not participate in the struggle, the players on the stage must pay attention to his face, for fear that when he will come on stage, and then put them squeeze them all down. The world's 7 rulers. After watching the news for a while, Xuangyue Kongying finally stood up. Xuangyue Kongying stretched comfortably, and immediately looked towards the direction of the door. Her eyes seemed to have penetrated through countless obstacles, and saw the farthest scene directly. And Xuangyue Kongying this she showed a slight smile. Enough rest, it's time to go for a walk. Grand Line. Bikudop. I really didn't expect Blackbeard to do such a crazy thing. Sitting here, Zephyr said with a sad face. Although he left Marine, he still needs to have a good understanding of such a major event that affects the world. And what worries him about this incident is that now that Blackbeard's ambitions have been exposed, how will the world government hit his self-confidence next? Another aspect is that he did not expect Blackbeard's strength to be so powerful. Even Kizaru was beaten back and forth. The next world may be even more turbulent. Aokiji Kuzan sighed. 0. Seeking flowers. 0. At this moment, Zephyr suddenly looked at Kuzan and said, "What's going on with the Revolutionary Army? What are they doing?" How long until Fontaine? Zephyr looked ahead. Advertisement, and you, Kuzan, what's going on? Looking forward to the revolutionaries coming to liberate here. I am a pirate. What do you think of me? Do you want to lose my pirate dignity? How shameless. Zephyr nodded. Kuzan checked his watch. Therefore, it is necessary to establish a solid power base so that those masses can be protected stably. It will be here this afternoon. Revolutionaries. They seem to have stabilized in the East Blue and West Blue recently, and haven't expanded outside in a long time. If that's the case, then there seems to be a way out. Behind them, an angry gaze was staring at them angrily. Then his body was cut apart quite angrily, and finally each one was suspended in the air, and the fingers in it still pointed at Zephyr and Kuzan and cursed. What the hell is going on with you two? If you have something to say, you can't go back. Say it on your warship. Are you relying on me? It is naturally impossible for the current freshman Marine to form a force. After all, their power is still too small, and they are fixed, and they can easily become the target of public criticism. When the time comes, the world government will attack them. They still can't protect the gang of people. Judging from their rescue operations these days, it is useless for them to save once they see it like this. Not to mention whether those pirates can be killed, even if they are killed, but in this chaos in this era, the people rescued by them are very likely to walk on the road of pirates because they don't have enough to eat. North Blue has a strong Germa 66, and South Blue is too close to Mariajoy. Their revolutionary army has now captured East Blue and West Blue, and now they only need to digest the development potential of these two places, so their future must be quite clear. 196. Hawkeye's swordsmanship is good. Buggy looked at Zephyr and Kuzan rather resentfully. He was really fed up with these two people. First, Kuzan got on his boat for no reason, and then he kept holding himself to go to other places. All the way around, and Zephyr, this former Marine executive, was also brought on board his ship. And the two even came to him often to chat. What does this take him for, partner? At the same time, everyone in the Buggy pirates behind him looked at Buggy at this moment, and couldn't help but feel full of halos in their hearts. Their captain, Buggy, dared to treat those powerful Marine executives like this, so how powerful should he be? Even Xuangyue Kongying, when they met their captain, they were very friendly. After hearing Buggy's complaint, Kuzan couldn't help showing an awkward, 463, smile on his face. Allah. You are right. I'm sorry, however. If there is a chance in the future, I will repay your kindness. HMPH. Who wants you to repay him? Buddy said dismissively, but immediately began to secretly calculate, if a person with admiral strength repays him, then this favor. How much wealth can it bring him? He had just started to think this way when a money bag was already in his hands. First of all, as a reward, here is Bailey from me to you, Kuzan said slowly. As the former Marine Admiral, although he is not corrupt, his salary is quite high. And after Buddy opened the money bag, his eyes immediately began to shine. Even the whole face couldn't help showing a full smile, and then his eyes were full of incredible colors, and then he said slowly, is this all for me? You know, it's all gold, and this weight, if it is converted into Baileys, there are probably hundreds of millions of Baileys. Thank you Captain Buddy for your help these days. Kuzan said slowly, you're welcome, you're welcome. Shuangyue Kongying sits on a small wooden board, floating calmly on the sea, in which he will constantly use wind elements to help him move forward, but the speed is still extremely slow. But Shuangyue Kongying was not in a hurry, he just came out to experience the sea breeze, and went to other places governed by Dust 7 to check the people's conditions. Boom. The boat he was in suddenly vibrated slightly. Advertisement. Shuangyue Kongying opened her eyes and looked forward. Immediately, he saw a familiar figure, Eagle Eye. And Eagle Eye was quite shocked when he saw Shuangyue's empty glow. At this time, he was sitting on a heavy seat on the boat with a calm face, and his huge sharp sword was right behind him, and he was staring at Shuangyue Kongying with deep eyes, but said nothing. Dracule. Mahawk. Shuangyue Kongying calmly read his name. Hawkeye also seemed a little surprised. Naturally, he also knows about Shuangyue Kongying. This Wanokuni youth who shocked the world, has been refreshing everyone's perception since he appeared, and is now the world's largest force. Master Tianli, who is in power of the 7 worlds, even 5 elders, can only be respectful in front of him. Shuangyue Kongying. Dracule, Mahawk said calmly. However, the corner of Shuangyue Kongying's mouth raised an indifferent sneer. I prefer. Others call me, Lord Tianli. Hawkeye was a little surprised, because he felt a deterrent force from Shuangyue Kongying. This deterrent force is not like hockey, but a very inexplicable. It seems to come from the power of the soul, through his eyes, directly oppresses his body. However, Hawkeye soon regained his senses. Master Tianli. Please. You have a duel with me. After all, Hawkeye took out the big knife behind him. Shuangyue Kongying still faced Hawkeye calmly. Snort. Duel with him? How can this be what the Eagle Eye thinks? Just do it. Looking at Shuangyue Kongying's body as stable as Mount Tai, he knew. Shuangyue Kongying didn't want to duel with him, and he knew the reason, but he disliked him for not being strong enough. Necklace also felt a bit ironic. He was known as the world's #1 swordsman, and he would be regarded as not strong enough here. But the other party is Shuangyue Kongying after all. This man who has already reached the pinnacle of the world. If you can fight with such a person, you will die in his hands. Advertisement. Joe Lakel Mahawk, feel no regrets either. Drink. With a loud shout, Hawkeye raised his big knife and slashed towards Shuangyue Kongying. Countless Haki and Shilong continued to press towards Shuangyue Kongying. However, in the face of Hawkeye's aura, he remained motionless, not even the slightest flicker in his eyes. Facing such a confident Shuangyue Kongying, Hawkeye's resolute heart couldn't help revealing a look of panic. But he still clenched his teeth, raised his big knife and slashed at Shuangyue Kongying. But in the end, he didn't even touch Shuangyue Kongying's clothes, Kakuzu, and just stayed there in a daze. The big knife he held in his hand wanted to chop it down in front of Shuangyue Kongying. However, he felt that there was an invisible hand holding his blade tightly. Immediately, Shuangyue Kongying's eyes moved slightly. The next moment, Hawkeye felt a strong force from his big knife, and the violent trembling forced him to put down the big knife in his hand. But his hands are empty, but there is still the aftermath of that power wandering in it. Hawkeye looked at Shuangyue Kongying in shock. At this moment, he felt that Shuangyue Kongying's body was as tall as a mountain. I lost. Hawkeye avoided Shuangyue Kongying's stare with a lonely look. 0.2 Yes, as the #1 swordsman in the world, he lost. So easily lost to Shuangyue Kongying, and Shuangyue Kongying even just stood there without moving, completely defeating him. Shuangyue Kongying looked at the world's #1 swordsman in a mental breakdown, and said calmly, your sword skills are pretty good. Hearing what Shuangyue Kongying said, a smile appeared on Hawkeye's face. Good swordsmanship? He is the #1 swordsman in the world, but Shuangyue Kongying's evaluation of him is that he is good at swordsmanship? But Shuangyue Kongying didn't say anything to him, just left here. Hawkeye? It is indeed very powerful, but he wasn't interested at all. And Dracule. Mahawk just stood there, quietly watching Shuangyue Kongying and himself go away. 197. Vegapunk dead. Mariajoy. Have you found it? 5 elders sat in the shadows with an indifferent tone. And in front of 5 elders is Lu Chi, the current chief executive officer of the CPO. At this time, his expression is calm, his figure is quite straight, and there is a steady temperament between his brows, and the suit he wears shows his temperament. At this moment, he is facing 5 elders, bowed their heads slightly. Return to the 5 elders. We searched for a long time for the gathering place of the Blackbeard Pirates, and we also robbed a few members of the Blackbeard Pirates. But we didn't find any trace of Vegapunk. And the Blackbeard Pirates don't seem to be doing anything else recently. We suspect that maybe Vegapunk wasn't taken by the Blackbeard Pirates at all. 5 elders and the others immediately fell into deep thought. while the curly-haired 5 elders cursed angrily. Impossible. Vegapunk disappeared in that attack by Blackbeard. He was not kidnapped by them. What else could it be? Could it be Vegapunk? Did he really die in that fire like that? Immediately, Lu Chi said slowly, there is one more thing. We found a corpse similar to Vegapunk in the base of the Science Force. According to the latest investigation report of the Science Force, the composition of the corpse is highly consistent with Vegapunk. It is really possible that Vegapunk has already died in the fire. Hearing this, 5 elders' complexion changed slightly. If Vegapunk really died in that fire, it doesn't seem too bad for them. At least such a powerful weapon did not fall into the hands of Blackbeard or others, and they can still rely on the accumulation of Vegapunk to continue to rule the world. The 5 elders were silent for a long time. Finally, the leader 5 elders said slowly, anyway, Vegapunk. We want to see people when we live, and corpses when we die. You can go to Blackbeard to find Vegapunk and make sure Blackbeard's position, and no matter what, Blackbeard cost us Vegapunk and the account must be settled. Based on what they knew about Blackbeard, it was indeed possible for this lunatic to do the stupid thing of burning him to death because he couldn't find Vegapunk. He believed that Blackbeard could indeed do it. Yes, after answering 5 elders, Lu Chi retreated slowly. Advertisement. The room fell into a moment of silence again, and a voice came out shortly afterwards. You said, did Vegapunk really die in that fire? Even if the facts are right in front of me, I always feel that the facts are not that simple. There is one more thing. Blackbeard was able to enter Marineford so smoothly this time, and even entered the base of the scientific army. There should be an inner ghost among our Marine senior management. The spread of these words caused the scene to fall into silence. In fact, they also know very well that the current Marine has lost its original goal and has become their biting dog. Moreover, this dog is not so loyal. If others hand over a bone, they will be fart. Biondi walked away with others. But what can they do? If they don't do this, then they won't even have a dog to call and they will have to play by themselves. Let them end as gods. How can that work? Hey. Let Lu Chi check it out when the time comes. The person who caused this incident must be caught and severely punished. Otherwise, we have such a group of Marines, and we don't want to go there. Go directly to cooperate with the pirates. It will cost a little less money then. Yeah, and the most important thing is to control the leaders. I suspect that the one who betrayed us this time may be the Green Bull Wangmu. After leaving 5 elders, Lu Chi came to the CPO's data room. He looked at the scattered materials on the desktop, and then slowly connected them in his mind to think. What is the situation? Can things really be like this? Did Vegapunk really die in that fire? He didn't believe it either, but the report of Vegapunk's body was so true, and he didn't find any trace of Vegapunk at Blackbeard, and Blackbeard was indeed like that, a person who will be destroyed if he can't get it. Advertisement. According to Shuangyue Kongying's initial conception, the world's nurses will take over everything from the outside world, and the trade protection orders of the world's 7 ruling countries are parallel to those of the world's 7 ruling countries. A single world's 7 ruling countries have no right to interfere with the world's nurses' business. It will be directly ordered by Shuangyue Kongying. Shuangyue Kongying, who left Daozuma, soon arrived at his first stop, Mond. And when Shuangyue Kongying docked at the port, he saw countless merchant ships coming and going and then leaving. During this gap, countless Mond people entered the merchant ships and performed the task of protecting the merchant ships, the important task. And they all wore a piece of clothing, with the word, earthly, engraved on the chest of the clothes. Lu Chi turned his head, looked at Kaku, and looked at this colleague who had been by his side since CP9. He didn't know when it started, but he seemed to have already occupied a quite deep place in his heart. When he became the chief executive officer of the CPU, Kaku also became the deputy chief executive officer of the CPO as a matter of course, and became the second person of the CPI. Now Mond has regained a stronger vitality. Kaku asked without changing his face, what is it? As for the leadership of the mortal nurse, Shuangyue Kongying thought about it for a while, and finally decided to let Gai Ya be in charge. Kaku nodded slightly. Lu Chi looked away from the document, and then slowly raised his head to look directly at Kaku. Go and investigate Marine's trader. Immediately, Kaku entered here. They're the employees of the World Trade Protection Company, or Mortal Nurses for short. After he destroyed the Don Quixote family last time, the economic advantage 360 that Mond is proud of quickly fell into a low ebb, but after Shuangyue Kongying signed a trade protection treaty with the world government, a large number of laborers in the 7 kingdoms of the Earthly 7 going out to carry out trade protection missions, while Mond quickly stood out by virtue of its population quantity and quality advantages, coupled with their geographical advantage of being afraid of the central location of the New World route. There's something here for you to investigate. You came? But, is that really the case? But of course, Guya's status as a Knight of the West Wind is still there. 198. God will close a door for you. When I saw Guya at the port, he was also wearing the clothes of the earthly nurse, but his clothes looked much better than those ordinary ones. His clothes were made of special silk, and there were gold edges on them. Silk is luxurious and very special. Master Tianli, Gai said respectfully to Shuangyue Kongying. Nowadays, Gai Yagui is the Big Guan of the earthly nursing division, which means the biggest manager. Its power in the world's 7 rulers is no lower than that of any country's belief in God. Moreover, his status among the 7 rulers of the world is second only to Shuangyue Kongying and the first person under the 7 gods. Its importance is self-evident. The reason why Shuangyue Kongying was able to entrust this important task to him was not only because of his outstanding strength, but also because he was friendly and stable. If the guardian of the world is entrusted to him, he can carry out his own ideas very well. How's the business going? Shuangyue asked slowly. Guya faced Shuangyue Kongying, slowly lowered his head, and immediately said respectfully, Master Revolving Heaven. Since the opening of the Earthly Nursing Division, orders from all over the world have been pouring in, and we have also coordinated people to go to various parts of the world to perform escort missions. And, under your guidance, I have basically adjusted the structure of the Earthly Nurse, please take a look. After speaking, Guya handed over a report. Shuangyue Kongying looked up slowly. The report clearly states the current specific number of employees of the Earthly Nursing Division, as well as their approximate level of strength. And at the request of Shuangyue Kongying, the employees of the Earthly Nursing Division were divided into Ichigo second guards, 3 guards, 10 guards. This is the level of the employees and their salary standard. After reading the report, Shuangyue Kongying nodded in satisfaction. In this case, his earthly nurse can be regarded as having a rough standardized system. This is the necessary condition for long-term and healthy development. Are you? Where are you going on a mission? Shuangyue stared at Guy's whole body. And Guya smiled slightly. Your Majesty, I am now transporting a batch of goods from Mond to Marineford. Because it is more important, and there are some Poseidon beasts on this route. Also, all the staff of Ichigo and the nurse were out, so I was the only one who came. Shuangyue Kongying nodded. Immediately, Shuangyue Kongying seemed to suddenly remember something. Advertisement. Do you have any news that Arataki sent them? When leaving Inazuma, Shuangyue Kongying sent a message to Araki sent them who were traveling outside, telling them to end their play outside and return to the 7th Consul of the Earth to join the Earth Nursing Division. They performed escort missions. Not only you can play around, and you can also make money for yourself. Why not do it? Arataki faction? Guy thought for a moment, and then slowly said, this morning, there seems to be a message from Sakura Flower Country, saying that our Arataki sect has arrived in Sakura Flower Country, and plans to join Sakura Flower Country. Daxia's mortal nurse, I will confirm again when the time comes. Shuangyue Kongying nodded in satisfaction. After that, Guya went out to perform the escort mission, and Shuangyue Kongying entered the depths of Mond, West Wind Knight Palace. When he first entered the West Wind Knight's palace, various people came forward to greet him, but Shuangyue Kongying bypassed them, went directly to the innermost part, and then began to think carefully about these things that happened in the world. The establishment of the Mortal Guard does not only mean that Shuangyue Erying can earn more money, but also means that Shuangyue Erying will have a fairly extensive intelligence system. As long as he is willing, flying around the world is easy. The unimpeded Earthly Guardian can also serve as his intelligence organization. If that's the case, the CPO is just a scumbag in front of the Earthly Nurse. The world. Blackbeard. 5 elders. He had no intention of intervening in the disputes of the pirate world, but he was helpless. The resources in this world are limited after all. In order to obtain more resources to meet his infinitely growing demand for belief values, he can only choose to continue to expand their influence. But even so, Shuangyue Kongying still has no idea about world domination. Fontaine. Kuzan began to say goodbye to Buggy when the Bikadup docked in the port of Fontaine. He stood on the coast, looked at Buggy enthusiastically, and kept waving to him. Buggy, goodbye. Thank you for your company these days. Buggy, however, was in no mood to say goodbye to him at all. Buggy turned around and turned the rudder directly, heading further away. And holding the bag of gold that Kuzan gave him in his hand, his heart was full of comfort. This damn Kuzan, he still has a conscience. He has entertained me for 8 months. 8 months. These 8 months, how much gold is enough for me to find? Damn it. At this time, his subordinate slowly approached, and then looked at Buggy flatteringly and said, Captain Buggy, where are we going now? And Buggy excitedly took out the treasure map he had kept for a long time. Advertisement, of course. Buggy held the treasure map and couldn't help but kiss him. Soon after, such roars could be heard throughout the island. Finally found you, my dear baby Khan. Ha 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 ha. When you open a window, God may close your door. Can this little trick confuse me? Immediately afterwards, Buggy picked up a shovel and began to dig the soil inside, and finally dug out a Jiao treasure chest with an exquisite appearance after more than 10 minutes. And Buggy touched the treasure chest carefully, with an expression of it as full of enjoyment, and there is a golden light in the eyes. It's time to find this treasure. 3 days later, Buggy finally arrived at the small island marked by Zhang Baodu, and after searching the small island for a long time, he finally saw a label. There is no gold here. Ha 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 ha. My dear Zhang Baodu, I am finally here. Buggy's mouth curved into a sneer. Signature. I'm not done with you. After a while, he finally recovered slowly from the shattering news. His whole body seemed to be petrified. The small note in his hand floated out carelessly, and then fell lightly onto the wet ground, on the soil. Kuzan. Damn Kuzan. However, when Buggy opened it, there was no gold in it as he imagined, but only a blank sheet of paper. When Buggy saw the name, he felt like a thunderbolt. 199. Sharpen the knife on the edge of the knife Fontaine. Kuzan took out a pocket from his bag, which was full of gold. Kuzan accidentally saw this treasure map on Buggy's boat before, and thought it was all right, so he went to help Buggy get it back. But Kuzan didn't just cheat Buggy like this. After all, he gave half of the gold to Buggy, but he just forgot to say where the gold came from. Immediately, Kuzan put the gold in his arms and put it away. People are floating in the rivers and lakes, how can they not use gold? Teacher, let's say goodbye here first, Kuzan said to Zephyr. The 7 rulers of the world are very strict with external scrutiny, and Zephyr, as the leader of the newborn marine, needs a lot of procedures to enter Fontaine. It will be cumbersome, and there is no need for him to enter Fontaine now. Kuzan previously rescued former marine colleagues who were about to be assassinated by marine in the sea, and most of them now joined the new marine, continuing to pursue their ideals of protecting the world and safeguarding justice. Of course, there are also a group of like-minded people who went to the Revolutionary Army, or like Kuzan, chose to work alone. Of course Kuzan also wants to protect the world and uphold justice. But he also understands that sharpening a knife must be on the edge of the knife. Looking at Ku 577 Zan at this time, Zephyr couldn't help feeling a lot of melancholy. Their journey has been full of ups and downs, but fortunately, they are still alive, and they can continue to move forward towards their ideals. Kuzan and Zephyr bid farewell. After that, Kuzan stepped into Fontaine alone. Today's Fontaine has recovered a lot from the original war, and there is vitality everywhere. At the port, he saw many people with happy smiles on their faces, and he also noticed that they were all wearing a similar uniform. The uniforms are all made of silk, and on their chests are engraved with the earthly nurses, these 4 ministers. Mortal nurse. Interesting. There was a smile on Kuzan's face. The news of the establishment of the earthly nursing division spread all over the world through the World Daily. Chin saw the introduction in the newspaper, and all the people yearned for it, and wanted to join the earthly nursing division to make a living. After all, such a job as an escort, in the name of the Dust 7 ruling, will not be dangerous, and it can make so much money. Advertisement: if you have money, you don't make a B******************. D. But the conditions for joining the mortal nurse made them deterred. Because, only the citizens who are in power in the 7th world can join the World Nursing Division. The news of the Guardian of the World has also attracted the continuous attention of many forces in the world. Mariajoy. After 5 elders saw the news, they didn't comment on it, but sighed inwardly. Fortunately, the 7 rulers of the world just want to do business, not to take away the power in their hands. If this is the case, then it is not a bad thing to have good relations with the 7 rulers of the world. As long as Shuangyue Kongying can let go of their current status, that is enough. East Blue, Revolutionary Army Headquarters Base. After the Revolutionary Army occupied East Blue and West Blue, it immediately stopped the pace of expansion, and started to improve people's livelihood inwardly, trying to rebuild a new world in East Blue and West Blue. When Long saw the news about the nurse in the world, he couldn't help frowning. The news about the nurse in the world is not a good thing for us. Sabo looked puzzled. Why? The Guardians of the World are just an escort company, and they have not shown their idea of ruling the world. However, Long shook his head and immediately stared deeply at the news of the mortal nurse, then looked at the world map, and said slowly, with Shuangyue Kongying's strength, if he wants to rule the world. Even if Celestial Dragons plays the last hole card, it should be difficult to stop. If he really has the ambition to rule the world, then he can already complete this idea now. AGDJ, Earthly Guard. Of course it's just an escort company, not a military organization. But, speaking of this, Long suddenly turned his head and looked directly at Sabo. Think about it, if you sail around the world like the Guardian of the World, the whole world is full of people who are in power of the 7th world of the world. How much influence should they have? However, Sabo still looked puzzled. What do you mean? Shuangyue Kongying should not have the idea of ruling the world. But when he launched the Earthly Nurse, he undoubtedly penetrated his influence to the whole world. This is a quite objective reality, even if Shuangyue Sora's subjective thinking is not like that. Sabo had a puzzled look on his face. Advertisement. If that's the case, can this be understood as another way for Shuangyue to rule the world? Long nodded. It can be understood in this way. But don't worry too much. The way Shuangyue Kongying uses the earthly guards to infiltrate the world's influence is far superior to the way celestial dragons directly rule the world. They can stand on top of the people of the world with peace of mind and use Bailey to influence the whole world, but without having to bear the corresponding cost of governance. Blackbeard was feeling restless. Blackbeard watched the earthly nurse continuously infiltrate into his sphere of influence, and couldn't help but feel full of worry in his heart. The dragon looked at Sabo, then put a hand on his shoulder. In that case, what should we do? They only need to be responsible to the people who are in power in the world. Now our main task is to save more people from celestial dragons. The Secular Guardian Division has developed quite rapidly. Not only has it taken over the escort business orders from the original world government's sphere of influence, but it has also quickly taken away all the escort business orders in the 7th world government, and even the business firms of other forces want to go to sea. Sometimes, the earthly nurse is also given priority. And it's a much better way of ruling than celestial dragons. After all, the price of the earthly nurse is not too expensive, and there are more guarantees. The world's 7 are in power, and this world's 7 is in power again. Badgers looked at Blackbeard with a sad face. Admiral, what should we do? First, that Shuangyue Kongying targeted him time and time again, but now that he managed to rule so many places, this damn Shuangyue Kongying even launched some kind of mortal nurse to compete with him for business? Who doesn't love doing business like this, somewhere in the new world? After figuring out the logical relationship, Sabo couldn't help frowning. 200. Stand still. What to do? Blackbeard stared at Badgers with staring eyes, and immediately showed a hateful expression on his face, and then slammed his head hard, and said angrily, "You ask me, who can I ask? Why? What to do? I still want to know how to do it." Blackbeard was a little annoyed. What else could he do? Is it possible? To really settle accounts with that damn Shuangyue Kongying. But so what? Even if his strength has grown to the point where even the 5 elders can't ignore him, if he faces Shuangyue is empty, but he still has no confidence at all. We'll just stay like this and stay put. Blackbeard's deep eyes showed a ruthless look. Things have developed to this point. Instead of desperately trying to keep something that is impossible to keep, it is better to let it go easily. Doesn't Shuangyue Erying want their escort business order? Then give it to him. What he wants, then give it to him. What? I just hope that this kid can ignore the problems he made last time. That's fine. Within a short period of time after the birth of the earthly nurse, he quickly took away most of the escort orders in the world. Even Blackbeard, Whitebeard, and even the traditional sphere of influence of the Revolutionary Army, the earthly nurse is nowhere to be found, not there. As for the many great powers in the world, all they have left is protection fees, and some escort business orders that the world's 7 rulers don't like. Mond. Looking at the earthly nurse's treasury that kept getting money in a steady stream, Shuangyue Kongying showed a full smile on his face. He didn't expect that in this short period of time, he would have accumulated so much money. Dobelli, if this is the case, Fontaine's sea train plan should start again. Thinking of this, Shuangyue Kongying left Mond, Fontaine. Kuzan walked on the streets of Fontaine, looking at this beautiful city. He couldn't help feeling a lot of emotion in his heart. When he came here last time, although the place was already quite prosperous, but Fontaine today reveals a more harmonious atmosphere, as if everyone's face is filled with smiles. And the city's sea train is also very interesting. Ding dong. Welcome to become the Fontaine #1 sea train. This sea train is built by Carrera under the glory of Master Tianli's Shuangyue Erying. This bus kindly reminds you that the speed of this flight will travel from the south of the city to the north of the city. There is an announcement on the train that keeps playing. Immediately afterwards, the sea train started to move. First there was a sense of propulsion, and then it began to go faster and faster, faster and faster. And Kuzan sat on the sea train, looking at the sea passing by below, slightly surprised that the riding experience was no less than that of the train on land. Whoa, Mom, look. The big frog. Advertisement, damn. Mom saw it when I was a kid. Following the voices of the mother and daughter, Kuzan looked out of the window. At this time, on the sea, there was a huge frog running forward, and it was still looking at the sea train here, seems to want to compete with this sea train. When the train stopped at the shore, Kuzan couldn't help feeling a sense of satisfaction in his heart. He looked excitedly at this sea train that was constantly going back and forth, thinking that if this could be pushed to the whole world, then this scattered world would be tightly connected together. It will definitely get better. When the Straw Hats sailed towards Inazuma, they saw a small boat on the sea. Huh? The ship? Usopp couldn't help thinking of something. Ah, I remembered. This ship, isn't it the one we saw in East Blue before? Hawkeye? His pirate ship? I didn't expect to meet this character here. Usopp couldn't help sighing. Along the way, he has seen too many Shichibukai 4 emperors, even the most powerful Shuangyue Kongying in the world today. He has dealt with it several times. So a mere former Shichibukai can no longer bring him any sense of surprise. But when Zoro heard the name, Eagle Eye, he opened his eyes immediately. Dracule. Mahawk? Zoro stood up, then looked away. When he saw the figure clearly, Zoro couldn't help but clench the handle of the knife. It really was him. At this time, Dracule. Mahawk also noticed the existence of the Straw Hats. He looked at the flag of the Straw Hat Pirates, and his eyes could not help showing a bit of thinking. He had already paid attention to the Straw Hats. The hat that originated from the red hair was given to Luffy, and he only found out through the Red Hair's World Live broadcast later. 0. Seeking flowers. It turns out that this Straw Hat kid is actually the son of Destiny who wants to save the world, Joey boy. And at this time, Dracule. Mahawk also noticed the green-haired youth beside Luffy. Hawkeye quickly found him in memory. Advertisement. Reminds me of that fight at East Blue. Zoro and Hawkeye, the two looked at each other now. Then the two picked up their respective knives in unison. A duel, unstoppable. Fontaine, Carrera Company. The Earth Nurse plans to invest 10 billion yuan in sea trains, Ace Bagu said in surprise. Even though he knew that the world's escorts had almost monopolized the world's escort business, when he heard Shuangyue Kongying say the number of 10 billion, he was still unavoidably surprised by it. This is 100 billion. I don't know how many things can be used for research and development. And Shuangyue Kongying actually used it to invest in them just like that. Looking at Ace Bagu, Ki Konggong nodded indifferently. That's right. However, when the time comes, the principle of distributing income according to the investment amount, the relevant income of the sea train will also be handed over to the earthly nurse. This is natural. Ace Bagu nodded. As the owner of Carrera, he cannot deny that these standardized rules are quite useful. Lord Tianli, I have some good news to tell you. Oh? Shuangyue Kongying's eyes flashed. Our latest development has been in the process. We want to use a rather special metal on the rails of the sea train. This metal is not only durable, but also relatively cheap, but we also encounter there is a problem, and that is that the metal is quite rare, although there are quite a lot of reserves in the world's 7 consulates. But, for a long time, it is still not suitable. However, we know there is one person who can help us with this problem. 201. Wapple. Oh. Who? Shuangyue Kongying rolled her eyes, and a curious look appeared on her face. Then, Ace Bagu took out a photo. The picture shows a rather round and short fat man. The most striking thing was that the lower half of his face was actually made of metal. And his eyes look rather wretched, and the whole person looks quite sloppy. Looking at this face, Yue Kongying suddenly felt familiar, but couldn't remember a specific one. His name is Wapple, and he was the king of the former Sakura Flower Kingdom. Later, when Sakura Flower Kingdom was changed to the Winter Kingdom, he was also kicked out of the Winter Kingdom by the rebel army of the Winter Kingdom. Then he was discovered by the Vegapunk of the Marine and helped the Marine Science Force. Then, when Blackbeard destroyed the Marine Science Force, we got news of 477, he also left the Marine Science Force base, but I'm not sure of his current whereabouts. Ace Bagu looked at the photo, his eyes showed some thoughtful color, and then said slowly, his Munch fruit has the ability to synthesize. If we get him, then we can use cheap metals and make the metals we need. It can reduce costs tremendously. Listening to Ace Bagu's words, Lei Kikong nodded involuntarily. I'll let the nurse in the world pay more attention to this matter. Hearing this, Ace Bagu couldn't help showing great joy on his face. You must know that the escort business of Dusk Guardian is spread all over the world. For such a commercial organization with a worldwide presence, if they want to search for information, even the CPO can only catch up with it. Thank you Lord Tianli, Ace Bagu gestured to Yue Kongying. Yue Kongying nodded and immediately left here. New World. Go Zoro. Advertisement Chopper stood on the boat and shouted loudly to Zoro, but it was afraid of Hawkeye's revenge, so it could only hold on to Nami's clothes tightly, and immediately hid to Chopper after shouting. At this time, the duel between Zoro and Hawkeye has reached a fever pitch. Zoro already had many deep and shallow knife marks on his body, but he still had firm eyes and firmly grasped the handle of the knife. Hawkeye stared sharply at Zoro at this time, lamenting that his strength has increased so quickly. You know, not too long ago, when he met Zoro in East Blue, a guy who couldn't even handle hockey, couldn't block any blow he had. However, at this moment, he has grown to the point where he has to ignore it, and he can live with him several times. Roranoa. Zoro, you are much better than before. Hawkeye looked at Zoro with some relief. At this time, the shadow of Hawkeye's defeat by Yue Kongying has been swept away, leaving only hope for Suo's back. And Zoro gripped the hilt tightly, staring at Hawkeye. Dracule. Mahawk. I know, you haven't used your full strength yet. But, this is not my limit yet. After saying that, Zoro drew out a knife and bit the handle tightly with his mouth. Mito Stream. Zoro pointed the blade at Hawkeye. Come on, let me see how much difference there is between us. New World. With the continuous expansion of the Earthly Nurse and Blackbeard's voluntary abandonment, many escort businesses within the sphere of influence of the Blackbeard pirates have turned to the Earthly Nurse, and this has also made the vision of the Earthly Nurse enter Blackbeard's sphere of influence, which makes everyone in the Blackbeard pirates feel quite uncomfortable. Admiral, it's not an option to go on like this. Quinn said with a worried face, and then slowly said, even if we give up our commercial trade protection business to the Earthly Nurse. But the Guard of the World has entered our territory at will, and a few people will come out at random to supervise our actions on our territory. What should we do? Advertisement Blackbeard's face darkened. Then we'll retreat. To a place where the Earthly Nurse can watch. Blackbeard gritted his teeth. This means that the Blackbeard pirates want to give up the bustling area they're in now, and in order to better protect their privacy, they choose to retreat to a place where there is no escort business. Like this doing it, but it really made the crew of the Blackbeard pirates who had just had a good life a few days uncomfortable. In fact, the Blackbeard pirates can also rely on their authority in the territory to compete reasonably with the mortal nurse. But, because Blackbeard had a feud with Yue Kongying before, so Blackbeard was a little afraid of Yue Kongying, so he was furious and continued to attack him. But this, I really can't think of any good ideas. How's the situation over there at Whitebeard? Be sure to figure out the relationship between Yue Kongying and Whitebeard. At this time, Blackbeard suddenly looked at Fanoka who hadn't appeared beside him for a long time. Fanoka hesitated for a moment, and then said slowly, 0.5. Before Yue Kongying did not have the power he has now, Yue Kongying once gave Whitebeard a pill. This pill can bring death to a close. Whitebeard was pulled back, while Yue was charged for it. He has also considered what Quinn said. During this period of time, the distance card has been performing tasks outside, mainly to supervise the direction of the Whitebeard pirates. I think this is Yue Kongying showing his affection to Whitebeard. Hearing Fanoka's words, Blackbeard thought for a while. Blackbeard nodded. In recent days, the Whitebeard pirates have also been influenced by the Earthly Guardian, but they don't want to have any conflicts with the Yue sky. But I noticed that many ships under the Whitebeard pirates are there at different movements. I guess, they probably don't want to give up this business, and they want to compete with Yue Kongying in their own territory. But what does such a low fee represent, Whitebeard? What is Yue Kongying's attitude towards them? Blackbeard looked at Fanoka cautiously. However, later, with the gradual expansion of the ruling of the Seventh World, Yue Kongying and Whitebeard have no other contacts. Including this time, the World Nurse took away the business of Whitebeard's territory. I heard that Whitebeard is also a little unhappy. If it's the Whitebeard pirates, then he does have a chance to compete with Yue Ying for the escort business in his own territory. 202. How long can you live? Hearing this, Fanoka couldn't help showing a look of surprise on his face. Admiral, what do you mean? At the same time, many leaders of the Blackbeard pirate group present also looked at Blackbeard. At this time, their eyes were full of blaze. They knew that their admiral would never let them remain so ordinary and silent. Immediately, Blackbeard clenched his fists, showing his broken teeth and smiling obscenely. Now, the world government hates us. As long as they find a chance to absolutely suppress us, then they will never be soft. However, we have Bikasa and Mobutu in it as an internal response. There is no need to worry too much. However, most of our current escort business has been taken away by the earthly nurses. This will undoubtedly affect the happiness of the brothers. It will also affect the development of Quinn's man-made evil building factory. Now we have no retreat, only forward, Blackbeard said seriously. And listening to Blackbeard's words, the crew members of the Blackbeard Pirates, who were a bit lonely before, showed excited smiles on the faces of O6 at this time. Originally, because of the surprise attack on the world government, they failed to capture Vegapunk in the end, and they fell into a kind of emotional depression. In addition, the earthly nurse took away nearly half of their income, and even more for the first time. They, who were originally vicious, felt confused. But now, because of the Whitebeard folks, so they got their exhilaration back. Go ahead, New World, it is now afternoon sun. Zoro panted heavily, with several bloodstains in front of his body, and fell to the ground in such a state of embarrassment. The 3 knives were still tightly held in his palms. Sweat spread all over his cheeks, and as he breathed, his entire chest was violently up and down. Call, this battle is finally over. And Dracul. Mihawk stood where he was, and he was quite uncomfortable at this moment. Zoro's swift and fierce attack caught him off guard, and even for a while, he was in a state of being suppressed by Zoro, and could only let Zoro attack him. And at this time, there were inevitably many bloodstains on his body. Advertisement: this is an injury he has never experienced since he became the world's #1 swordsman. And this also means that Zoro already has the strength to threaten him. And he can only rely on his own combat experience and some weak advantages to defeat Zoro. But Roronoa Zoro is too young, he is only in his early 20s, and he has a strength comparable to his own, so in time, he must be able to replace himself and become the new, world's #1 swordsman. Time passed little by little. Zoro finally stood up again, even though he was bruised, he still didn't howl. Roronoa Zoro. Hawkeye stared sharply at Zoro out of the corner of his eye. And Zoro also looked directly at Hawkeye, and immediately showed a wry smile. Really, I lost again. Seeing the smile on Zoro's face at this time, Hawkeye suddenly froze for a moment. Zoro rubbed his head helplessly, and then said bitterly, recently, I met too many people and too many things on the road, and even escaped from death several times. Facing what 4 emperors, Shichibukai, Marine Admiral. The reason why I am still alive is only because of that bit of luck. I actually feel that this is my own, real strength. Having said that, Zoro suddenly clenched his fists, with a look of indignation on his face. Looking at Zoro at this time, Hawkeye also felt a touch in his heart. In all fairness, Zoro possesses such strength at this age, and is still on board the ship of the future One Piece, who will definitely be able to stir up the world in the future. But he was able to have a sense of shame at such a proud age, which is quite rare. This time, I lost. I'm still a long way from the #1 swordsman in the world. Thanks you. Saying that, Zoro bowed deeply to Hawkeye. Looking at Zoro like this, the eagle eyes showed admiration. Roronoa Zoro, your future achievements are definitely higher than mine. But, how far you can achieve in swordsmanship depends on how long can you live. Hawkeye's words were not exaggerating. Advertisement. The Straw Hats have too many enemies. They can escape once or twice, but can they guarantee to escape the pursuit of the world government and the Blackbeard Pirates each time? And the legendary Destiny Child is Luffy, but not Zoro. Even if Luffy is still alive, but Zoro, that's not necessarily the case. Hearing what Hawkeye said, Zoro understood the meaning very well. Immediately, he nodded to Hawkeye. Oh, I'm sorry, Zoro, I'll bandage your wound right now. Next time, I will definitely defeat you. I couldn't help but start to think back to the previous days in my mind. Zoro closed his eyes and said indifferently, if you have the ability, don't get hurt in the future. Back in the days of North Blue, when he heard Zoro's words, Hawkeye showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Thousand Sunny on. Ah, Zoro. You were so powerful just now, you almost defeated that eagle eye. By then, you will be the #1 swordsman in the world. Not bad, only in this way, they're the crew of my One Piece. Ha 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 ha. Luffy's devilish laughter kept coming. Zoro jumped back on Thousand Sunny, and Hawkeye looked at his back meaningfully, and then said, Zoro, see you next time, I look forward to your stronger. He knew that Hawkeye was motivating himself. Amidst the smog, his eyes revealed a lot of thoughts. However, he accidentally got bloodline all over his body. And Sanji has been in the corner, smoking a cigarette. Sanji turned away to keep the smoke from filling the area. Sanji lit a cigarette at the side, and then pretended to be disdainful and said, What it be ********** D, you actually got yourself injured like this. He knows that the current Zoro is not limited to being the 323rd swordsman in the world. He must start towards a higher goal, because only in this way can he become the world's #1 swordsman. How? The better he is alive, the better he can protect his partner. Then, he exhaled a smoke ring deeply. Zoro, great, Chopper hugged Zoro excitedly. 203. Are you Wapple? A small island near Fontaine. A fat man with a round body swaggered on the road, and when pedestrians saw him, they all hid in panic or walked past in a hurry. This fat man is no one else. It is Wapple. After Sakura Flower Country was renamed to Winter Country and joined the ruling of the 7 worlds, Wapple wandered around. Fortunately, the world government approached him at this time and asked him to join the Marine Science Corps to do research, and Wapol readily agreed. And the world government rewarded him by giving him the title of King of a Kingdom. And Wapol has lived up to its mission, creating a fairly durable metal for the world government. This metal later became the main material for making Seraph robots. And after the fire, he was acutely aware of the insecurity inside the world government, and then decisively left the Marine Science Base. Then he came to this small island, which is near Fontaine, where on weekdays will undertake some business orders from Fontaine, mainly mining. Most of the islanders on this small island are poor villagers. He, Wapol, came here, and of course became king quite easily. "Are you Wapol?" A voice came from behind Wapol. Wapol turned around arrogantly, and then saw a gorgeously dressed breast. Then he slowly raised his head, and saw a strange-looking man with gray hair and red hair. The pupils seemed to have been stained with blood, and what makes Wapol's eyes widen the most is the pair of ghost horns on top of his head. You. Who are you?" A bit of displeasure appeared on the ghost horn boy's face, and soon his docile face showed a bit of displeasure. "Huh? Why do you even know about me? I've been wandering around in the world for so long. How dare you don't even know my name? Are you mocking me for wasting all this time?" As he said that, a threatening look appeared on the face of the ghost horn boy, and a sense of oppression permeated his whole body. You, do you know who I am?" Wapol said incoherently. The ghost horned boy snorted coldly. "Snort, you're Wapol. You're the one Lord Tenri is looking for." Advertisement, Heaven. Lord Tianli. Wapol is quite familiar with this name, he knows. This is the honorific title for Shuangyue Kongying, who is the ruler of 7 worlds. Could it be that Shuangyue was looking for him in vain? But why? Immediately, the ghost-horned boy grabbed Wapol's sleeve angrily, and then stared at him. "Remember my famous minister, Arataki Ichido." Upon hearing this name, Wapol froze instantly. Arataki Ichido. He is no stranger to this name. This guy was in front of him, but he was on the World Journal every day. Although he never made the headlines once, he definitely appeared on the World Journal quite a few times. Of course, what impresses him even more is what this guy has done. Killing the Poseidon beast with his bare hands, swimming most of the great sea routes by himself, and defeating a monster worth hundreds of millions every 2 or 3 days. Big pirate. Besides the adventurer Araki Pai, he also has another identity that awakens Wapol even more. He is the ruler of the world's 7 rulers. Huang. Master Huang, I don't know, what is Master Tianli looking for from me? Wapol was so frightened that his guts broke. You know, the current Zedong kingdom was my own before. This Shuangyue Kongying didn't suddenly rise up suddenly, and I found myself wanting to teach myself a lesson, right? It shouldn't be possible, right? Wapol kept muttering in his heart with. But Araki Ichido didn't answer him, and still dragged his body angrily, walking towards Fontaine. I really didn't expect it. He has only been out at sea for a few days, and there are people in the world who don't know him. Marineford. After the Blackbeard was destroyed last time, coupled with the lack of funds within the Marineford only rebuilt a rough idea, and did not continue to invest in the construction. All the buildings in Marineford now have a lot of cracks, which makes the environment of Marines quite difficult, not even as good as most pirates. Bokassa once again held a high-level meeting. Everyone, let's discuss the current situation of Marine. Advertisement, Mariajoy just gave us 1 billion Baileys, what do you guys think? Bokassa said calmly. This is destined to be a boring meeting, because the entire high level is almost full of people from Bokassa, followed by the new generation of Marine represented by Green Bull. As for Kizaru, in the entire high-level meeting, not one of them was his confidant. His original colleagues left, those who were killed were assassinated, and there were very few left in the Marine. After the meeting, Kizaru left here, and Bokassa stared at Kizaru's silent back, still a little displeased in his eyes. Kizaru used to be in charge of the Marine Science Corps, so he could pass over his own Marine Marshal and directly belong to 5 elders, and his power is no less than his own Marine Marshal. But now, the Marine Science Corps was basically wiped out, and Kizaru became a dead grass that lost its foundation in the Marine. But even so, Bokassa didn't want to let Kizaru go. Is there any new movement from 5 elders? Bokassa said, looking at Vice Admiral, a confidant beside him. No orders from 5 elders today. Hearing this, Bokassa couldn't help showing a look of worry on his face. The 5 elders have had a pretty hard time with Blackbeard since he hit Marineford. Although he is still the Marshal of Marine, 5 elders has not contacted him for a long time. Instead, he often calls the guy who is the Green Bull. He is very clear that the power of his Marine Marshal does not come from Marine, nor from himself. Rather, from 5 elders. The 5 elders are free to trade him if they want. And now he really feels that his own position in Marine is no longer stable, especially recently that Green Bull's career is booming. This has given him a lot of pressure. Boss, I found out. Now the 5 elders are looking for Blackbeard. The confidant Vice Admiral said slowly. If we can help the 5 elders find Blackbeard, then the 5 elders will definitely reunite. Check yours. Hearing this, Bokassa's eyes shone brightly. Makes sense. And he had already figured out how to act. Just contact Blackbeard, ask him to deliberately cooperate with you, and reveal his own coordinates to the 5 elders. Believe that Blackbeard, for his own place in the Marine, should be an introducible claw. 204. Wapol who has committed crimes and made meritorious service. Fontaine. Arataki Ichido brought Wapol to Carrera Company, while Shuangyue Kongying and Ace Bagu were already waiting here. When Ace Bagu saw Wobble, his eyes immediately shot out a sharp look, as if he saw some treasure that he had been looking for a long time. But Shuangyue Kongying stared at Wobble indifferently. When Wobble saw Shuangyue Kongying's indifferent face, his whole body couldn't help shaking. In his mind, he suddenly remembered the embarrassment of being kicked out of Sakura Flower Country. But then, the scenes of Blackbeard's attack on the marine science base also came to mind. Such a powerful Blackbeard is not an opponent of the Moon Calamity. Then Shuangyue Kongying wanted to pinch herself to death. It should only be a momentary thing. My lord. Wobble Ropeway trembling all over. Wobble. Immediately, Shuangyue Kongying stood up from her high position. When he stood up, an invisible momentum also oppressed Wobble, which made Weipol's heart tremble even more. He felt that his heart was freezing, and the bone-piercing frost was spreading along his blood, spreading to his whole body from the inside to the outside, making him tremble uncontrollably. Do you know what crime you committed? Shuangyue looked at Wobble condescendingly. Hearing this, Wobble was suddenly shocked. Commit? Crime? There was a deep resentment in Weipol's heart. He used to be the king of Sakura Flower Country. Well, if it wasn't for Shuangyue Kongying who suddenly appeared and forcibly occupied his kingdom, how could he have fallen outside? But now, Shuangyue Kongying has snatched forget about his kingdom, and still say that he committed a crime? But even so, Wobble didn't have the guts to dare to confront Shuangyue Kongying, so he could only ask weakly. Dare to ask. Lord Tianli. What did I do? Shuangyue Kongying just glanced at Wobble coldly and didn't speak. At this time, Ace Bagu on the side said slowly. Wobble, the original king of Zedong Kingdom. During the period of serving as the king of the Winter Kingdom, he harmed the people and acted as a tyrant. According to the law of the Seventh World, he should be sentenced to life in prison. Then he fled the Winter Kingdom without authorization, avoiding the Seventh World and the Seventh World. The pursuit of the crime is aggravated and should be punished by death. Death penalty. When hearing these two words, Wobble couldn't help but tremble all over. Advertisement, death. Death, capital punishment, 17. Then, Shuangyue's empty eyes shot over, Agi, making Wobble even more desperate. He wanted to escape, but under the gaze of Shuangyue Kongying, he felt that his whole body became stiff, and he couldn't even move. And an infinite chill burst out of his heart. God. Lord Tianli, please spare me, forgive me, Lord Tianli? Wobble immediately knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing to Shuangyue Kongying. Shuangyue Kongying had sharp eyes and a frosty face. Huang Taki, take it down and dispose of it, Shuangyue Kongying said indifferently. Yes. Lord Tianli. Afterwards, Arataki grabbed Wobble and easily and roughly dragged his body towards the outside of the room. However, Wobble kept struggling, but no matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from Araki's hand, and he wailed to Shuangyue Kongying with tears all over his face. Lord Tianli, Lord Tianli. Please, give me a chance, you can let me do anything. Master Tianli. At this time, Ace Bagu suddenly turned his head to face Shuangyue Kongying. Master Tianli, please be merciful. Shuangyue Kongying looked at Ace Bagu indifferently. Then, Arataki Ichido also put down the Wobble in his hand. Wobble looked at Ace Bagu. His eyes were full of hope. He didn't know Ace Bagu, but right now, this person who seems to have a good relationship with Shuangyue Kongying is willing to intercede for him. Therefore, Wobble put himself the hope of living as all looking to Ace Bagu. And Ace Bagu said slowly, I thought of a way to make Wobble take the blame and make meritorious service. Shuangyue Kongying sat back on the high seat. Explain. Ace Bagu glanced at Wobble who was desperate for survival, then turned to Shuangyue Kongying and said slowly, at present, our research and development of sea trains has encountered a bottleneck. And Wobble once worked in the Marine Science Corps base, and I believe he can help us solve the problem of sea trains. However, Shuangyue Kongying let out a disdainful sneer. Just him? What can he do for you? Before Ace Bagu could speak, Wobble spoke anxiously. Advertisement, absolutely. Master Tianli, please believe me. My fruit ability can synthesize some different metals, so as to produce more high-quality metals. The Marine Science Force, the Seraphim robot they newly developed, most of the materials for this robot, it's all done by me. Oh, finally, there was a trace of looseness in Shuangyue Kongying's tone. But, I am omnipotent. Omnipotent. Do you think we wouldn't be able to get these metals without you? It's only a matter of time. In this case, why should I use a prisoner like you? Hearing this, Weipol's tears were almost dry. Master Tianli, please give me a chance. I don't want anything. I just hope Lord Tianli can let me go and give me a chance to reform myself. As soon as his words fell, Ace Bagu hesitated for a moment, and stood up and said slowly, Master Tianli, although we can indeed manufacture all the metals we need in the Seventh World, if he can help, it is true that more R&D personnel can take a break. Furthermore, the laws of the 7 rulers of the world are just, and every subject of the 7 rulers of the world should have the right to reform themselves. Hearing these words, Wobble nodded beside him again and again. After a while, Kongying finally nodded, you're right. That being the case, then for the rest of the R&D staff, and for the justice of the laws governing my 7 worlds. Give you a chance to reform yourself. Hearing this, Wobble finally showed a look of great joy on his face. But immediately, Shuangyue Kongying's heavy oppression covered Weipol's entire body again. But, you only have one chance. Weipol's body shook. He immediately closed his eyes, knocked his head heavily on the ground, and said loudly, Thank you, Lord Tianli, for your gift. 205. Marine Marshal Bokassa. Fontaine, Carrera Company. After seeing Wapol being taken out by Arataki Yidu, Ace Bagu looked at Shuangyue Kongying in admiration, and immediately bowed meaningfully. Master Tianli is wise. It is so simple that Wapol willingly sacrificed his life for us. Aside from his admiration, Ace Bagu still felt a little lucky in his heart. Shuangyue Kongying is not only a powerful person, but also so good at scheming. Such a person is definitely not so easy to provoke. If he had rejected the change of the capital of water to Fontaine, it would only hinder the development of Fontaine now, and he would not end well. Shuangyue Kongying stood up from his seat, and immediately said slowly, a person like Wapol, if you give him a little face, he may still feel that he is important. For example, this time the Marine Science Corps, seeing what happened, he left there immediately. No doubt. Just now, one of them was singing the red face and the other was singing the bad face. The two cooperated and brought Wapol into their trap. And if they had treated Wapol well in the first place, saying that he was very important to them, then in the end, Wapol would definitely have a grudge against the 7 rulers of the world, and would open their mouths, waiting until other forces spend a lot of money to buy him off. At that time, he will definitely leave the 7th ruler of the world. But it's different now. Shuangyue Kongying only gave Wapol one choice, and that was death. Although in the end Shuangyue looked at Ace Bagu's face and spared his life. But his life is not important to the Dust 7th Consul, it is just giving him a chance to survive. In this way, Wapol, a villain, lost the possibility of being able to have both ways, and could only stay loyally in their 7 ruling worlds. Next, with Wapol, your research and development progress should be much faster, right? Ace Bagu showed anticipation on his face, and then said slowly, yes, now that we have Wapol. Our research and development progress can be faster, and we can use less cost. I believe it will be soon. Our Carrera Company can bring good news to Lord Tianli. Shuangyue Kongying nodded slightly upon hearing this. At this time, 2/3 of Carrera's shares belonged to Fontaine. According to the law, Shuangyue Kongying is now the boss of Carrera Company. Then I'm looking forward to it. Advertisement New World, where the Blackbeard pirates gather. In order to avoid the escort trade of the earthly guards and their possible supervision, the Blackbeard pirates put their docking place on a remote peninsula, where there are few people, and there is not even a single person on the island, only countless beasts gathered together. What? Bokassa actually wants us to cooperate with him, Badger said in shock. Quinn also said with a distorted expression, let us cooperate with Bokassa? Tell the 5 elders our current position? Then let us pass by the 5 elders. Just to help Bokassa in exchange for a marshal's position? Admiral, this is too risky. Shiryu, who was silent for a long time, also nodded. 5 elders. That's not easy to deal with. Lafitte pinched his fingers and then said slowly, that's right, Admiral. About Bokassa, although he said that he joined us and later helped us attack Marineford, but he is still not trustworthy after all. He is just a person who can give up everything in order to kill madman. Dealing with such a madman, and still telling 5 elders his coordinates, such a dangerous thing. Who can guarantee? Isn't Bokassa knowing that 5 elders is not easy to mess with, so he decided to turn around. The rest of the Blackbeard pirates agreed. Blackbeard's eyes were dark, however, and a trace of hesitation was cast on his face. Admiral, even if Bokassa is no longer the Marine Marshal, we still have Mobutu. Mobutu still has a chance to be the Marine Marshal. Blackbeard shook his head. No, if Bokassa is not the Marine Marshal, then the Marine Marshal is probably the Green Bull. That guy, he has something to do with Ribbard. Currently, the entire Marine, including the Marine Marshal, is nothing more than a dog raised by the 5 elders in order to stabilize the Celestial Dragon's rule. And if Blackbeard can control Marshal Marine, it means that this dog is raised by 5 elders, and Blackbeard can also use it to bite people. 0. Seeking flowers. This is quite an important thing. Moreover, today's Marine is highly centralized, and Marine Admiral is far inferior to Marine Admiral except for its higher status. At that time, if Bokassa is not Marine Marshal, then even if they have 2 Marine Admirals in Marine Admiral, in fact, has little effect. Advertisement. It is the Marshal of the entire Marine, Bokassa Guang. Bokassa said happily. At this time, he no longer simply belongs to the forces of Blackbeard or Celestial Dragons. At that time, although Whitebeard will not join forces with Marine, the situation will definitely not be easy for him. This is a duel between Blackbeard and Celestial Dragons. Very good, and more importantly, if Marshal Marine becomes a Green Bull. Marshal, what are we going to do next? His confidant Vice Admiral said beside him. Power is something more fascinating than strength. But when he entered the Marine, he realized it. Next, he just needs to communicate with Blackbeard. If it is better to let them escape from the hands of the 5 elders, then he can keep his marshal status. Thinking of this, Bokassa couldn't help clenching his fists. Once upon a time, he felt that he only wanted to kill more people. Bokassa sat on the comfortable marshal seat with a face full of peace of mind, and then closed his eyes calmly. Don't worry. Let's communicate with Blackbeard first. We must ensure their safety, then report to the 5 elders. After careful consideration, Blackbeard finally decided to take the risk. I'll ask Mobutu to pay more attention then, Blackbeard said slowly. After getting an affirmative answer from Blackbeard, Bokassa was immediately overjoyed. He is who he is. Originally, when he wanted Blackbeard to help him, he never thought that there was such a possibility. But when Blackbeard decided to help him, he confirmed his own importance instead. However, Bokassa is in the middle of the 206 boss painting cake. Wapol has been working for the Carrera Company for a while, during which time he worked very hard, and he always felt that there was Yue Kongying watching behind him. Based on this horror, Wapol worked every day before working in Marine. The amount of science troops is more than double, and the workload has reached a very alarming level. And the reason why he is like this is nothing more than that one reason: want to survive. The efforts of Wapol have also made the development of Ace Bagu more smooth. The progress that took a lot of time to break through before, now with the massive resources created by Wapol, all the progress that was originally vague and difficult has become clear and logical at the moment. Carrera Corporation. Ace Bagu excitedly reported to Yue Kongying. Thank you, Lord Tianli. After we have Wapol, we save a lot of material manufacturing process, 630, which greatly speeds up our research progress, and with Wapol's fruit capability, the cost of our project can be reduced to another level. Next, we no longer need Lord Tianli to pay more for us. Hearing this, Yue Kongying also nodded in satisfaction. He was very happy to be able to save money. How's Wapol doing lately? Ace Bagu pondered for a while, and then slowly said, Wapol, I just went to work yesterday. The work is quite normal, and the attitude towards our researchers is also good, very cooperative with us. Well, I think it's normal to be together. However, Yue Kongying stood up from the high position with a calm face. After a while, you go and tell him that if he behaves well, we can consider releasing him. Hearing this, Ace Bagu was a little puzzled at first. But after he thought about it carefully, he realized that Yue Kongying is very powerful. Now, although Wapol can work so hard to survive, but the rabbit will bite people when it is in a hurry. Although Wapol is timid and afraid of death, maybe they squeezed Wapol hard, and when there is no hope of life, will Wapol do some self-destructive things? So Yue Kongying asked him to remind Wapol every once in a while, if he did a good job, he could let him live. In this way, Wapol's motivation to work is quite tenacious, and he can be more persistent. Thinking of this, Ace Bagu suddenly realized and said to Yue Kongying, Master Tianli is wise. Advertisement at the same time, he secretly lamented Yue Kongying's wit in his heart. With such a scheming Lord Tianli, he really is extremely powerful. Throughout the ages, just being strong is not enough to maintain long-term rule, and it is necessary to have scheming to balance today's stability. And Yue Kongying not only possesses such absolute strength, but is even so skilled in scheming, which really makes Ace Bagu deeply feel its strength. Yue Kongying didn't say anything more, just nodded indifferently. Then I'll leave the matter of the sea train to you. If you have anything to do, just contact Arataki Ichido directly. Next, he is the chief nurse of the Fontaine division of the Secular Guard. If you want to know anything, just ask him directly. Arataki Ichido is quite powerful, even stronger than Guya. But he loves adventure, and his temperament is not as calm as Guya. So Yue Kongying arranged for him to be the chief nurse of the Fontaine division of the Earthly Nurse. The Earthly Nursing division is now very large in scale, and Yue asked Guy to divide it into regions so as to carry out vertical system management. Among them, the Earthly Guardian division first divides the 6 kingdoms of the current 7 kingdoms into the Mond department and the Dao Wife department. These departments mainly govern the escort business orders between the various kingdoms. In addition, it is also divided into East Blue department, West Blue department, North Blue department, South Blue department, Grand Line department, and New World department. The business of these departments has nothing to do with the ruling of the 7 worlds, and is an escort business order from the outside to the outside. While speaking, Yue Kongying was ready to leave here. Yes, Master Tianli. Ace Bagu bowed his head respectfully. Marineford. When Bikasa saw the telegram he had just received in his hand, he was overjoyed, and then happily said to Vice Admiral, his confidant beside him, Blackbeard has already made a rough plan. After that, a sneer of disdain appeared on the corner of Bikasa's mouth. At this moment, he felt that his life had reached its pinnacle. At his request, Blackbeard could make such an adventure for him. What is Blackbeard? What are 5 elders? Although they can all order yourself, but you can have both sides, and become a key node between the two. Lick the dog? Advertisement? I can't help it anymore, I'm going to tear this kid into pieces. Finally, the black-haired 5 elders said slowly, very good, Bikasa. Bikasa's expression was quite lively, as if he had really been busy with this matter for a long time. At this time, a 5 elders with a knife stood up. Okay, take us to find that guy Blackbeard. You can sit securely in the position of Marshal Marine. On the other hand, there was a confident smile on Bikasa's face. Yes, Elder, it's absolutely true. It took me a long time for the Marine Intelligence Agency to finally find it, although it took a lot of Bailey in the middle, but I believe, as long as Blackbeard is finally eradicated and the elders are relieved, then all this will be worth it. Is 11 While Bikasa sat on the marshal chair, his heart was full of infinite imagination for the future. And the 5 elders exchanged a 0.7 glance with each other. Contact 5 elders for me and say I'm going to Mariajoy now, I have something important to report, Bikasa said confidently. Thank you 5 elders, I will definitely live up to my mission. Asia. As long as you lick enough, it's a wolf, Mariajoy. His confidant, Vice Admiral, had a gleam in his eyes and immediately nodded respectfully. You said, you got the specific location of Blackbeard? The curly-haired 5 elders looked directly at Bikasa with a heavy expression. You failed to capture Luffy last time, and Marineford suffered such a big blow from Blackbeard. We already have some doubts about whether you can take the position of Marine Marshal. But if you can really capture Blackbeard, if so, this is undoubtedly a great achievement. After getting the answer he wanted, Bokassa also showed a big color on his face. 207. I'm from free trade. When Bokassa stepped out of Mariajoy again, he was not alone. There are 4-5 elders behind him, and 1-5 elders stationed in Mariajoy, in order to prevent Mariajoy from happening like last time in Marineford. If that is the case, then the foundation of their celestial dragons will be ruined. As for the reason why the 4 elders were dispatched, 5 elders also had deep thoughts. Today's Blackbeard has the ability to completely suppress Kizaru. This means that at least 2 elders are needed to defeat him, and even 3 elders are needed to stop him, and the remaining elder needs to use came here just in case. Bokassa didn't go back to Marineford, he just took a few vice admirals and rear admirals with him, and rushed to the location agreed with Blackbeard with the 5 elders. How's the situation in Marine lately? Curly-haired 5 elders asked suddenly. And Bokassa seems to have been prepared for it, and said slowly with a smile on his face, the recent Marine is pretty stable. After the Marineford incident last time, although the loss to Marine was quite large, fortunately our May 06 none of the cadres suffered too much harm, and to a certain extent, our solidarity was condensed. Hearing what Bokassa said, 5 elders nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Bokassa and said slowly, thank you for your hard work. You Marine Marshal, you've done a good job. As he said that, the curly-haired elder patted Bokassa on the shoulder. Bokassa was completely immersed in the elder's admiration at this time, completely ignoring the flash of light in the elder's eyes. Immediately afterwards, Bokassa said confidently, it's all elders, well taught. Shuangyue Kongying left Fontaine and immediately went to New World. A port in the New World. Lord Tianli, the goods are all ready, and our people have checked them, and there is nothing wrong with it. Zhou Yi, with a pair of blue ghost horns, said respectfully to Shuangyue Kongying. Shuangyue Kongying nodded. He glanced at the scene, and then slowly said, the safe delivery of goods is the foundation of our earthly nurses. This is something that you can't make any mistakes. If you make a mistake, it will not only deduct a little salary from you, it's so simple, but it affects the reputation of the earthly nurse. At that time, the business of the earthly nurse will be reduced. It will affect every which of you. Hearing this, many people at the scene also seriously responded loudly, yes, Lord Tianli. At the same time, as long as we do a good job in the foundation of safe delivery of customers' goods. I hope that you can still do a good job in your services, although you are the glorious people in power of the 7 worlds. But we are doing business with others now, and others are our partners, and they are not without status people of the world, you must recognize this. Advertisement, do you know? Keep in mind Lord Tianli's order? There was a huge echo from the ship. Looking at the group of people, Shuangyue Kongying nodded in satisfaction. Immediately, he turned his eyes to the sea ahead, and there was Blackbeard's traditional territory. There is only one reason why he came here for the escort mission this time. Since the establishment of the Mortal Guardians, the escort business all over the world has been taken into their pockets. Not only is the world government handing over their escort business, but there are also big pirates like Blackbeard and Golden Lion. They also have great influence on the Mortal Guardians. The company took their business away and chose to turn a blind eye. Even the Revolutionary Army, they gave up the only escort they had. At present, all over the world, although there are some obstacles, big and small, but Guya can handle it alone. Only Whitebeard, although they did not explicitly prohibit it, but they actually chose to fight the price war with the earthly nurse, and fight Bayonet. Very good. Shuangyue Kongying likes such ambitious challenges. Since Whitebeard chooses to challenge, he naturally accepts it. He is not an unreasonable person, and what he likes most is free trade competition. How far is it to the escort destination? Shuangyue Kongying asked Zhou Yi beside him. Zhou didn't look at the map, but responded directly. Report to Lord Tianli. There is still 20 nautical miles away from the site, and we can arrive today. Shuangyue Kongying nodded. He stared calmly into the distance. Whitebeard. I'm from free trade. On a warship, Bokassa respectfully said to the several elders beside him. Elders, there are still 5 nautical miles ahead, and Blackbeard's territory is ahead. We may have to disembark at that time, and avoid attacking Blackbeard and the others. To scare the snake away. Advertisement for this plan, Blackbeard made quite detailed steps, and even gave a few soldiers to sacrifice. At this time, 5 elders suddenly stabbed him with a sword. Bokassa froze in place. Then, things went quite smoothly. Before officially entering the Blackbeard territory, Bokassa killed several soldiers of the Blackbeard pirates. It seemed that everything was going according to Bokassa's plan, and his heartbeat gradually became crazy. Bokassa smiled sinisterly. He is getting closer and closer to that fact. Elders, Blackbeard is ahead, but when he didn't expect it. This time we must catch this kid, and this also gave Bokassa a greater sense of satisfaction. Everything is just to better fulfill Bokassa's request. This, how could it be? He is no longer satisfied with simply using strength to kill, he feels that he can use power to kill. This kind of person does not need to do it himself, but he can control the life and death of more people in a single thought. This kind of the feeling is really wonderful. However, when Bokassa didn't notice, the 4 elders were watching him intentionally or unintentionally. That's right. The damned guy destroyed Marineford like this. 600. Listening to 5 elders' angry accusation against Blackbeard, Bokassa couldn't help feeling a sense of comfort in his heart. Elders, this Blackbeard is full of tricks, but fortunately, the elders will take action this time, and they will definitely be able to take down this beast. Bokassa also said indignantly. Plans had begun to spiral out of his control. However, after Bokassa cleared the clouds and mist, he did not see Blackbeard on that remote island, not even a member of the Blackbeard pirate group. A ship. I didn't see it, the whole thing looked like a wasteland. 208. Bokassa. In the game, the black-haired Five Elders shot was too fast and violent, and Bokassa didn't even react, and the blade pierced deeply into his body. And he didn't activate Armament Hockey's protective body. Immediately afterwards, bright red blood flowed out, and his body seemed to be hollowed out at that moment. Bokassa looked back in disbelief, staring blankly at the Five Elders who shot at him, his eyes full of resentment. 4. Why? Bokassa stared at Five Elders resentfully. However, before he got the answer, the remaining 3 Five Elders started attacking his subordinates one after another. The screams came out one after another, but the sound didn't go too far. Then it stopped abruptly. His cronies were killed by the Five Elders one after another in an instant, and lost their vitality in an instant. Snort. Why? Don't think that the reason why you can find 5 Elders so quickly is nothing more than to preserve your position as the Marine Marshal. You want to join hands with that treacherous villain Blackbeard to deceive us? HMPH. How can your subordinates do things that even the CPO can't do? At this time, an elder wearing glasses looked at him indifferently. Bokassa, I really misjudged you. I thought you were a dog that could bite, but I didn't expect you to be a dog. How could they still bite us? If it wasn't for you last time, with so many Marineford troops transferred, how could Blackbeard destroy Marineford like this? How did Vegapunk disappear? You, Bokassa, you were Blackbeard's accomplice. Up to now, Bokassa didn't want to quibble anymore. He just stared at 5 Elders with bloodshot eyes, and then said in a low tone, Who told you, Blackbeard? Bokassa was a little reconciled. He knew that Blackbeard was a villain, but he didn't expect him to be so insidious. Did he know that he couldn't completely control himself, so he decided to use the hands of the 5 Elders to eradicate himself. Hearing this, the corners of 5 Elders' mouth curled into a sneer. It doesn't matter if I tell you, it's Aramu and Mobutu. When he heard these 2 names, a light suddenly flashed in his eyes. Advertisement Aramaki and Mobutu? Aramaki? Is it from Blackbeard? However, before he could think about the next step, the knife from 5 Elders penetrated deeper into his body. Without any preparation, it directly pierced his heart. Bokassa's pupils enlarged infinitely, and the coldness instantly occupied his entire body, and the death energy spread to his entire body. Seeing that Bokassa had completely lost his vitality, one of the 5 Elders sneered disdainfully. This foodie, let him die just like that, but it's cheaper for him. That's right. If this guy hadn't tipped off Blackbeard, how could Vegapunk disappear? Now some of Marine's robot research has come to a standstill. Marine's development of strength can already be seen at a glance. At this time, the curly-haired 5 Elders said indifferently, There is still one thing to do, and that is to elect a new Marine Marshal. Perusalino is lazy, and he has no authority in the face of the many soldiers in the Marine today. He is obviously not good enough to be the Marshal of the Marine. Huang Mu, his qualifications are indeed better than Mobutu's, but he is into the power in Marine is not comparable to that of Mobutu, and his only good performance recently is that he and Mobutu reported Bokassa as a mole. That's right. Speaking of which, Mobutu is the most suitable person to serve as the Marshal of the Marine. He is quite convincing in the current Marine. Some things are good enough. Immediately, one of the 5 Elders suddenly looked at the surroundings with a gloomy look and said, Although there is no Blackbeard here, but this is obviously the former residence of Blackbeard. Look at this small island, although it looks deserted, but looking vaguely, you can still find some traces of human habitation. Afterwards, the 4 Elders of Celestial Dragons raised their hands and destroyed the whole place to vent their anger on Blackbeard. Marineford. Sitting on his seat, Mobutu was leisurely reading the newspaper, and at the same time looked not far away from time to see if anyone passed by there. He glanced at the clock. It had been 8 hours since Bokassa and the 5 Elders left Mariajoy. If all the plans go smoothly, Bokassa should have died in the hands of 5 Elders by now, and under the discussion of 5 Elders, he will officially become the next Marine Marshal. That's right. From the start, Blackbeard didn't intend to run Bokassa that way. In order for Bokassa to secure the position of Marine Marshal smoothly, so that the entire Blackbeard pirate group can face the wrath of the 5 Elders, how is this possible? Advertisement under the operation of Bokassa's relationship, Mobutu successfully entered the top ranks of Marine, and with his strong strength and Marine Admiral's vacancy, he soon became the new, very good, Marine Admiral, Black Lion. However, the confident Bokassa has always regarded him as his younger brother and his confidant. But of course, the Blackbeard pirates do need someone to serve as Marine. Bokassa, whom Mobutu knew in his early years, became Marine Admiral. Blackbeard knows, and here's the opportunity. It's just that this person is not Bokassa who uses the Blackbeard pirates to fulfill his wish. I am the last Marine Marshal. Game in game. The corner of Mobutu's mouth curled into a sneer. And Blackbeard also hoped that Mobutu would join other forces to go undercover from the very beginning. Mobutu had known Blackbeard long before joining Marine. Mobutu, who is also a desperado, is very interested in what Blackbeard is about to do. They hit it off and soon became a core member of the Blackbeard pirate group. It's he who was always on the same boat as the Blackbeard pirates. Originally, Blackbeard hoped that Bokassa could really join them. But I didn't expect Bokassa to be so ambitious and dare to use Blackbeard. So Blackbeard set up the game. Mobutu just pulled to confuse the 5 Elders in order to better hide his identity. And he knew that after receiving the news, Huang Mu would definitely claim more credit in front of 5 Elders, and this would undoubtedly lower 5 Elders' expectations of whether he could serve as the Marine Marshal. At the beginning, Mobutu did follow Bakasa's idea and lured him into Blackbeard's trap step by step. Blackbeard is not stupid, Mobutu. As for the green cattle and wild herds? 209. Marine Marshal Mobutu. The news that Bakasa was a traitor to Blackbeard spread rapidly throughout Marine. No one would have imagined that the silent Marshal of Marine would be Blackbeard's undercover agent, and combined with the Blackbeard pirates to cause such a major attack on Marineford. Within hundreds of years of Marine's founding, the severity of Blackbeard's attack on Marineford is second only to Xuangyu's rioting against Marineford and Mariajoy. It is even far higher than the big event of Whitebeard and Marine's war. It was an unforgettable tragedy in the history of Marine, but it caused the tragedy turned out to be their Marine Marshal. The news soon spread to Marine and to the world. East Blue, the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. Sabo looked at the newspaper, and then said with cold eyes, "It's really unexpected. Blackbeard would do such a crazy thing, and infiltrate Marine's top management. It's no wonder that Marineford and Mariajoy, after suffering such a big blow, is still indifferent to Blackbeard." Murloc Haku also nodded. In addition to Bakasa, Blackbeard must have internal support from the middle and high levels in Marine. Sabo nodded. Now this corrupt Marine is vulnerable to 330. But the world situation is changing too fast. Let's wait and see what happens for now, Sabo said with deep eyes. He immediately looked at Haku and said, "How's the situation over there?" "The head they're talking about is Monkey D," Haku said slowly. "Everything is normal now, and West Blue will stabilize soon. At present, the Revolutionary Army is sitting on East Blue and West Blue, and its territory and population have reached 2/5 of the world, which is no worse than world government. But now, stability is their first pursuit, and the current revolutionary achievements cannot be wasted." On the 5th day after Bakasa's death, Mariajoy officially issued the notice of the new Marine Marshal. The new Marshal of the Marine, Black Lion Meng Blogger. This news surprised many people, because it should not be Mobutu's turn no matter in terms of qualifications or strength. But the fact is that, Mobutu became the new Marine Marshal, officially became the supreme leader of Marine, controlling all the affairs of Marine. Regarding this news, Huang Mu was especially dissatisfied. Advertisement. He even went directly to Mariajoy to express his protest when he first received this notice, but when he came back, his energy and spirit seemed to be hollowed out. In the indifference of 5 elders now, he also had to accept this fact. I have to say that the current Marine is a split Marine. After many world conscriptions, the various factions within Marine are quite complicated. Although his strength and qualifications are worse than Mobutu's, he is far inferior to Mobutu in terms of the ability to mobilize the subordinates. In short, Mobutu has more people than you. And Mobutu is obviously more obedient. Look at you, didn't you just not give you the Marine Marshal? You ran to Mariajoy to protest. If you were given the Marine Marshal, would you still beat Celestial dragons? Although Huang Mu was very dissatisfied in his heart, he could only obediently submit to the arrangement of the 5 elders. But Huang Mu was still dissatisfied. He clenched his fists, thinking to himself that he must trample Mobutu and his faction underfoot. And about the news, happy as usual. The reality is coming step by step towards my plan. Now, he has become the Marshal of Marine, and as he has made friends with Bakasa in Marine, he naturally controls Bakasa's power. He is now quite powerful in Marine, so he doesn't have to worry that his orders will not be disobeyed. And he successfully concealed himself through Wangmu, so that Bakasa's old department can concentrate all the anger of Bakasa's death on Wangmu's body, the gay. Mobutu sat on the seat and smiled coldly. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared at the door under the setting sun. Marshal Mobutu, I'm here to report. When Mobutu saw the figure at the door, a smile appeared on his face, and he stood up slowly. Adoy, it's finally your turn. The person at the door is Adoy, and he is also a hidden member of the Blackbeard pirate group. He is also quite strong, and belongs to the core cadres in the Blackbeard group, second only to the backbone of Quinn and Shiryu. Strength cannot be underestimated. And here he is. Advertisement to serve as the new admiral in Marine. New World, the new residence of Blackbeard. Admiral, the current plan has been fully implemented, Lafitte said slowly. Adoy has already met with Mobutu. This means that the Blackbeard pirates will be in Marine again, with a Marine admiral and an undercover pattern. This is a mad dog that Blackbeard gave to 5 elders, when 5 elders thought they could control this mad dog, but did not expect that their sharp teeth were prepared to bite them. 5 elders? That's all, Blackbeard said confidently. Indeed, the 5 elders have been at the top for far too long. Even though they possess great strength and superior strategies, how can they compare with Blackbeard, who have competed with countless pirates in the depraved environment of celestial dragons? Although Blackbeard's strength is not as good as 5 elders, but he can use tricks to make 5 elders go round and round. Now, whenever he wants, it is perfectly possible to design to kill several 5 elders. But in Blackbeard's plans, now is not the time. By the way, have you found the Vegapunk? Blackbeard's eyes revealed a look of ruthlessness. The drug Q in charge of this matter shook his head, and then said slowly, we have been looking for brothers all over the world for a long time, but there is no sign of Vegapunk at all. Could it be 5 elders and CPO used to confuse us? Deliberately making us waste time looking for it? A cold look flashed across Blackbeard's eyes. Probably not. A few days ago, he got news from Marine. CPO found Vegapunk's complete life paper in the sealed Marine Science Force base, which also means that Vegapunk is not dead at all. He is completely hidden in a corner of the world, but no one can find him. Even under the CPO and Blackbeard's intelligence network, the two top intelligence organizations in the world are fully searching. There is no news at all. 210. The service attitude of the earthly nurse. The news that Mobutu served as the Marine Marshal did not arouse widespread heated discussions around the world. However, the heated discussion on this matter within Marine has no intention of stopping. During this debate, the old Marine headed by Kizaru remained silent. The battle was mainly from the Wangmu faction against the Mobutu faction. The dissatisfaction of the Wangmu faction comes from the fact that Marshal Marine is not Wangmu this time. This also means that the interests of their entire faction will be suppressed by Mobutu's faction. This has caused strong dissatisfaction among the vast majority of people. They're not satisfied with the present situation. The fuse of the incident was during the naval training process. A commodore under Aramaki clashed with a rear admiral appointed by Mobutu himself. The conflict soon spread to the entire Marine. However, Mobutu and Wangmu, the leaders of the two factions, seem to have kept a tacit silence on this matter. Marineford. Marshal, the situation is getting more and more serious. Just now, one of our captains clashed with a commander from Mobutu's side. And our brothers who were performing missions outside also reported the situation, saying, Mobutu's people refused to cooperate with them. Rear Admiral, a confidant, said slowly, and then said with some embarrassment, if this continues, the fire will come to you sooner or later. Listening to such a report, Mobutu didn't show a look of worry at all, but a look of leisurely complacency. Burn. Mobutu held nothing in his hands. This fire, the bigger the better. Immediately, Mobutu's eyes darkened. It's better to go to the five elders. I want to see how this Huang Mu is still arrogant in the Marine. Hee. New World, Kerbal Kingdom. The boss who initiated this escort mission immediately expressed a strong welcome to Lord Tianli when he saw Shuangyue Kongying coming in person. At the same time, with his influence, he spread the news to most places, deeply affecting the Whitebeard territory, their views on the earthly nurses. In front of the boss, Shuangyue Kongying solemnly said, your needs are the requirements of our earthly nurse. Advertisement hearing this, the boss burst into tears with gratitude. He didn't expect that a person as high as Shuangyue Kongying could even snatch all of his property with just a quick touch, but he is still so friendly and wants to do business with him. This behavior is comparable to the previous world government much better. And the service attitude of the mortal nurse is much better than the group of pirates in the Whitebeard Pirates. Immediately, the boss solemnly stated that from now on they will only cooperate with the mortal nurses. And Shuangyue Kongying also showed a smile, and responded to the boss's entrustment in a friendly manner. Our customers are our friends. Whoever opposes the customers of the mortal nurse is against the mortal nurse. This sentence spread out, causing countless pirates to tremble. They all have some small escort business on hand, and they all want to snatch some leftover meat from the huge mouth of the earthly nurse to eat. But I didn't expect. Shuangyue Kongying actually typed out this sentence directly, if you fight against the client of the mortal nurse, you are against the mortal nurse. This sentence directly makes those who are vacillating between the mortal nurse and others, decisively choose the mortal nurse. You must know. That gang of pirates does not have any advantage over the earthly nurses in terms of price. Moreover, even the Whitebeard pirates, whose mission is morality, most of the pirates are rough and reckless people, without any service attitude at all. Let the escort experience of those bosses extremely bad. But the mortal nurse is different. Their management is pretty standard. As for the pirates, they can only choose to swallow their breath even in the face of the predation of the world's nurses. After all, even if the world's nurses are not all of the world's 7 rulers, but Guy, Arataki Ichito, the cadres Zhou Yi and Bai are not easy to mess with. What's more, there is also a moody Shuangyue Kongying among them. Ever since, with the relentless promotion of the boss and the help of the earthly nurse, the declaration of the nurse in the world spread throughout the Whitebeard territory. For a while, many people who originally wanted to do business with Whitebeard turned to the nurse in the world. New World, the main ship of the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard's cold eyes swept across the audience, and then slowly said, you all underestimate Shuangyue Kongying. You also underestimate our pirates. Let's not talk about Shuangyue Kongying's end with a preliminary background, just being a nurse in the world. That's already a behemoth that we can't afford to mess with. Advertisement Whitebeard glanced at him. That's right, Dad, isn't it the nurse of the world? We all go together with the pirate group. I don't believe that Shuangyue Kongying will not have the slightest fear. I think, with the means of Shuangyue Kongying and the guards of the world, if they really want to take these businesses from us, they can directly forcefully sign with us like they did with the world government before. Contract. After hearing Malfoy's explanation, those members of the Whitebeard pirates, who were clamoring to fight, also lowered their heads silently. At this time, Ace stood up and said to Whitebeard, Daddy. Not to mention the huge scale of the current earthly nurse. There was a lot of noise on board. Enough? That's right. According to the information, Guya, the chief officer of the current mortal nurse, is a very powerful guy, and he can even resist 5 Seraph robots by himself, and those are 5 Shichibukai combat strength. If I were to face him, I would not have the strength to defeat him. Malfoy said slowly, and then said again, wait, they're not weaker than Guya. At this time, Malfoy also opened his mouth with heavy eyes. Father, are we going to be bullied by that fellow Shuangyue Kongying like this? This Shuangyue Kongying's words clearly want to steal our business, and he said it so nicely. This is literally slapping us in the face. Whitebeard, however, tapped the table. Everyone shut their mouths obediently and looked at Whitebeard quietly. In his tone, Malfoy carried deep despair. Brothers, let's break the jade together. Too much deceit. The energetic voice spread throughout the entire ship, making the noisy scene immediately quiet down.